Inside the training room, Mujin keeps swinging until sweat covers his entire body. His siblings, Dojin and Soyeon, secretly come to check on him because they are worried he might destroy himself before the fight even begins. Soyeon even thinks he is pushing himself this hard because of the harsh words she said to him before. But Mujin just pats their heads and tells them not to worry. Then, while watching the kids copy his posture, something suddenly clicks in his mind. He realizes the secret of the Peerless Nine Swords is not just the swing. It is the breathing. The moment he starts using the breathing technique, his movement changes completely. His 100-kilo sword becomes lighter, his energy flows better, and he finally understands how movement arts work. Then, with one powerful swing, Mujin cuts down a statue. Mujin then decides to move to the training hall because the training room feels a bit cramped. The next day, the clan warriors still look at him like he is a joke, and that is when Mujin decides to show them that the useless madman they remember is already gone. Our MC Mujin fights the squad leader, Cheolboin, and he's playing with him like a kid, even dodging an attack in midair. This pisses Cheolboin off, and he demands that our MC fight him like a man. Mujin then drops down, picks up his 100-kilo sword like it's nothing. As they both lunge at each other, Mujin quickly pulls his sword back and strikes Cheolboin's blade so hard that it knocks his sword back. Taking this chance, he punches Cheolboin in the face so hard he almost flattens his nose and sends him crashing to the ground. The others are shocked because he was never this strong before. To understand why our MC can do this to a squad leader, let's go back to the beginning. Our MC, known as the Divine Demon, is a powerful swordsman who finds himself going up against 9 powerful sect leaders in a quest for vengeance. His amazing and terrifying sword skills allow him to match up to the sect leaders. He cuts them down with so much precision that they are all confused as to how he is doing it. Before they know it, they find themselves getting cut off one by one, leaving them to conclude that our MC is nothing but a monster. Even when those who were still standing managed to pin him down and push a sword through his heart, he pulled through and sent them all to the afterlife, ultimately stamping his name as the Divine Demon. Just when he is about to die, his life flashes before his very eyes, and he feels the sense of relief of having fulfilled his mission. Our MC remembers when he was getting jumped by 3 kids, since he was a troublemaker in the Murim. He was ultimately saved by his master, who trained him. But in the end, he lived by the sword, killing people left and right. He wonders if life is all about what he did, and in that moment, he remembers his late wife. The best moments of his life were the ones he spent with his wife, but they were later taken away from him. In tears, he wonders what the meaning of his life really is, and in the end, he closes his eyes in death. Suddenly he hears ranting all around him, and he assumes that he is in hell until he opens his eyes to see some annoying group standing in front of him and trash-talking him. Our MC is totally confused as he doesn't understand a thing about what is happening. Standing beside him are 2 kids, and the male child is defending his elder brother, saying they can't hand over the clan's martial arts when his brother is still alive. He mentions that no matter what happens, the martial arts must remain in their clan, the Manhwa clan. While our MC is still questioning what is happening, the opposition leader suggests that they make a deal to remove all of their worries. He calls our MC, Hwa Mujin, and tells him that he is ready to offer money since his clan is utterly poor. In return, Mujin will wager his clan's martial arts, but they are going to duel for it. The winner of the duel then takes everything. The little boy is shocked when he hears this, since his elder brother, our MC, is totally useless when it comes to martial arts. Our MC is tired of all the noise, and he is forced to ask the group who the hell is Mujin when he knows that he is entirely someone else. His so-called younger ones are left confused when he says this, and they stare at him like some kind of madman. Even his rival is forced to ask him what he said, and he reveals that he is known as the Divine Demon, but this only cracks him up, and he suggests that Mujin call him the King of the Underworld instead. Apparently, his annoying rival is Cheongdobo, and he is the second son of the Cheonghwa merchant group. Mujin's siblings are pissed that his madness is already getting out of hand, which is why he is saying trash. Even the master of the Cheonghwa merchant group, Buchoyeon, makes fun of the clan, saying their clan is already done for, since the eldest son is in a bad mental state. Mujin remains silent as he tries to understand what is really happening. Since he is not saying anything, Dobo assumes that he has accepted the duel, and he informs him that the duel will be held at the Byung Pavilion next month. Dobo reminds Mujin that they made the deal under the martial arts code, and he is not allowed to break it because there will be consequences for it. After the group is gone, Mujin's supposed siblings turn to him, asking him what he plans to do since they have forced a duel on him. What makes it worse is that Mujin has not even swung a sword before. Mujin laughs out loud when he hears this, since he knows that swordsmanship is everything that he lives and breathes. He tries to aura farm by accessing his inner energy, but he suddenly realizes that it is gone, like totally gone with no ounce of it left. Frustration sets in when he also realizes that his body is very frail and weak. His sister bursts into tears, begging Mujin to come to his freaking senses. The little girl tells Mujin that he is trash, and he also calls him a fool for getting walked on by the merchant group. Her brother scolds her for trash-talking their brother and suggests that she apologize, but she refuses. She blames Mujin for their parents' deaths, and she runs off in tears after saying this. The little boy apologizes on his sister's behalf, saying she sometimes loses herself in anger, and after saying this, he also leaves. Mujin is utterly confused because he can't believe that even children now hate his guts and they call him a madman. Mujin is confused, and he knows that the last thing he remembers is cutting through the sect leaders without mercy. Mujin believes that he should have died peacefully, but he has suddenly found himself in a strange body. He crashes to the ground in frustration, wondering who the kids are. Just then, a weird dude, who happens to be his assistant, comes running over to him, asking him why he went outside with his frail body. He claims that he has been worried about him, but Mujin simply asks him who he is because he obviously doesn't know him. The dude, Masok, is surprised to hear this, and he assumes that Mujin is suffering from another seizure due to the madness affecting him. Since he believes that Mujin is truly suffering from amnesia, he decides to tell him his backstory. Apparently, Hua Mujin was once a talented and reputable kid whom several orthodox sects wanted as their disciple, and by age 23, he had become the clan's leader. Sok is tired of telling Mujin the story because he has repeated it over 6,000 times. Mujin doesn't think he was a promising kid because his energy core is obviously shit. In addition, he wants to know about the madness that everyone is talking about. Sok then decides to tell him about this too. 17 years ago, Mujin and Dobo had an unofficial duel, where they promised no inner energy. Mujin was 6 years old and Dobo was 9 years old at the time of the duel. Dobo agreed to this, and the fight between the two kids started. But as the fight progressed, Dobo broke their deal and struck Mujin with a punch imbued with inner energy. Mujin is disappointed at this, and he asks Dobo why he used the 7-wound fist techniques when they clearly promised not to do anything outside of throwing fists. Dobo makes fun of Mujin, telling him that the technique was passed down through the Kongdong sect and apparently the after effects are no joke. Apparently, Dobo had tested it out on his older brother who was acting all cocky and the technique left him bedridden. Since he was glad about how it turned out, Dobo was excited to see how it would turn out against Mujin. Basically, Mujin is now called a madman because they believe his condition is a result of the after effect of the 7-wound fist strike. Mujin is pissed that Dobo was the one who made him useless, but he is suddenly requesting a duel. Mujin then asks Sok how they handled Dobo after he rendered him useless. Sok then mentions that Mujin's father was the one who later gave the final verdict. Although Dobo was his cousin, he was also the son of the Cheonghua merchant group, considered to be one of the top 10 within the Central Plains. Even though Dobo did something terrible, Mujin's father only let him off with a warning. Mujin cannot believe just how useless the man is to have forgiven someone who rendered his son useless. Mujin concludes that the clan is total trash, and then he asks Sok where his parents are. Sok mentions that Mujin's condition progressively got worse, which led his father into debt because he was looking for ways to cure his illness. 9 years ago, his mother's sickness actually got really worse, and she passed away from it. 3 years later, his father joined his mother in the afterlife. Mujin basically became the son who killed his parents and ruined the clan. Because of this, the clan's reputation actually got trashed, and his siblings found themselves in a tight spot. All that is left of the family are debts and 2 loyal retainers and just a few martial artists. He also has his younger brother, Hua Dojin, and his sister, Hua Soyeon. Mujin finally realizes why his sister, Soyeon, said he is to blame for what happened to their parents. That night, Mujin went through the history books left behind by the original owner of the body, and he learned a few things from them. He realized that 30 years had passed since he defeated the 9 sects, and he now inhabits the body of a madman with no energy core. Since our MC carries no regret from his past life, he decides to live according to the Mujin and help out the helpless kids. However, he knows that the Cheonghua merchant group is going to be a big problem for him. They were basically the ones who rendered the body useless and also destroyed the clan. The first thing on his list is to plan for the duel he has against Dobo, which is the following month. Since the body is trash, he figures out that he has to rebuild his body from the beginning. He sits down to meditate and starts everything all over again like a beginner. He remembers that back in his old life, the first time he wanted to try cultivation, it was hard for him. However, things seem to be going smoothly with the current body thanks to the body's overwhelming innate martial aptitude. Mujin taps into the body's insane energy and tries to explore it to the max, leaving a golden light shining across his room. Momentarily, Sok and the retainers hear his scream and struggle from where they are, causing them to rush into his room. They find him on the floor, and one of the retainers jokingly says he is dead. He checks Mujin's pulse and realizes that it is stronger than before, but Mujin suddenly grabs him, asking him why his body is suffering from immeasurable pain just because he tried to form an energy core. The retainer is confused by this, and Mujin repeats himself, saying he wants to know if his body has some special constitution. The retainer then reveals his constitution is the heavenly martial body. Apparently, it is a rare heroic constitution, which is chosen by the heavens. Mujin gets hit with another wave of pain, and he finally figures out that the body's constitution is exactly the opposite of the demonic arts. Basically, a body of pure, upright energy will suffer intense pain when it tries to practice demonic arts. Mujin screams in pain, wondering why he got a body cursed with a very different constitution out of all the constitutions available. He concludes that things are really bad for him because the duel is just in a month. As he lies down in pain, he asks Sok who the two men are. Sok reveals that the man in green is the chief steward, Do Baekshun, and the man in red is an elder, Jo Hwanbong. The moment he hears the name Jo, he remembers something from his past life, but the pain he is feeling is too much, and he ends up passing out. 3 days later, Mujin finally gets up from where he has been lying down, but Sok is worried that he is not taking enough rest. Mujin mentions that he is tired of lying down since he has a duel coming up, and he urges Sok to get him swords. Sok manages to keep himself from laughing when he hears this because the clan is still trying to get what to eat, and Mujin is asking for swords. Mujin is forced to ask if there is no money in the family, and Sok mentions that they are currently taking out loans from an unorthodox sect named the Bangho sect. Because the sect operates on a very high interest rate, they have found themselves in a whole lot of debt. It finally dawns on Mujin that to help the clan, he needs to resolve the money issue first. Nonetheless, Mujin doesn't think taking out more loans is going to hurt, since they are already drowning in debt. Sok is worried about this, but Mujin tells him to shut his mouth and write a letter to the two elders because he is going out on a walk. When the elders heard of this, they got worried about the fact that Mujin had made his way to the dangerous Bangho sect. Momentarily, Mujin and Sok arrive at the entrance of the Bangho sect. Mujin tells the big bodyguard to inform his boss that he would like to see him. The dude, Kang Noho, is not out to play games, and he tells Mujin to get himself into the building if he is there to gamble. Mujin insists that Kang take him to his boss, but this starts to piss Kang off. Sok quickly cuts in, urging Kang to calm down because Mujin is not right in the head. The tension between the two continues to rise until the vice master, Ma Jungbo of the sect, shows up, demanding to know what the issue is. Kang then tells his boss that Mujin is trying to meet their top boss. Ma asks him why he would like to meet their boss, and Mujin says he would want more loans. Ma then tells Mujin that he doesn't need to see the leader to get a loan, and he invites him into the building. Mujin and Sok soon find themselves going deeper into the manor using a wooden bridge, while they are being escorted by armed swordsmen. Sok is worried about the whole thing, and he tells Mujin that they still have the chance to go back before it is too late. Mujin disagrees with him, saying they have made it a long way already. Sok then tells him that there was a particular granny who saw the leader of the sect fighting, and it turns out that the leader is quite powerful because he overwhelmed his opponent in seconds. Apparently, the leader is a martial artist who has learned a powerful killing technique. Mujin is questioning Sok's reason for telling him this when Ma cuts in, saying Sok is more knowledgeable because he caught on pretty quickly. However, it is already too late for them because they have reached a deeper part of the cave, and before the two know it, they find themselves surrounded by armed swordsmen. Mujin is disappointed, and he asks Ma if this was his plan from the onset. Ma confirms this and says he intentionally led him in because he obviously cannot touch him in public. However, he's not ready to give him a free hand the same way he gave his parents. Sok is not arguing with the group, but he begs them to let his master live. Mujin, on the other hand, is pissed when Ma mentions his parents because he obviously has no parents until it suddenly dawns on him that he is now in another body. Since everything is ready, Ma orders his men to teach Mujin a lesson. One of them, who is very eager to carry out the order, goes after Mujin and throws a punch at him. Sok almost faints in fear when he sees the punch coming straight toward them. Surprisingly, Mujin blocks the dude's punch, ultimately shattering his bones from the inside. The dude screams in pain and crashes to the ground while claiming that Mujin used some sort of cheap tricks on him. Mujin teases him, saying he actually has soft bones compared to his size. Mujin figures out that he has to do things without the use of his pure power. Ma is pissed that his men are wasting time, and he orders them to finish Mujin off. One of the swordsmen charges straight at him with his sword, but Mujin easily dodges the strike and figures out that he has to keep moving since he can't match the dude's power. Using his flexible body, he is able to dodge and deliver a headbutt that crushes the dude's face. The dude falls back, screaming in pain, while his colleague takes over from him and tries to slash Mujin, but Mujin dodges the strike. The attacker tries another strike, but Mujin jumps backward before delivering a kick to knock the dude out of commission. Before the armed men know what is happening, they find themselves getting toyed with, and in no time, they crash to the ground on their knees. Standing in the distance, Sok cries out to make sure that his master is safe, but Mujin calls him a dull head while mentioning that he is fine. Sok is utterly blown away, forcing him to ask Mujin where he learned the martial arts skills that he is using. Mujin then tells the dude that what he is witnessing is not martial arts but something he picked up on the streets. Sok is shocked to hear this since he doesn't remember Mujin spending time on the streets. Ma commends him for successfully dispatching his men, but immediately launches his coin at Mujin with a powerful force behind it. The coin narrowly misses Mujin's head, but he can feel the pressure from the coin, shocking him. Ma then angrily tells his men to leave because he will take care of Mujin himself. Mujin is surprised that he is facing so much hostility when all he wants to do is talk to their boss. Ma angrily replies that his boss is not someone that a trash fellow like Mujin can meet. Ma angrily whips out his sword and lunges toward Mujin, ready to take him down. In a surprising turn of events, Mujin blocks his power strike with a pair of chopsticks. Ma is shocked when he sees this, but little does he know that this is all Mujin could get, since he has no money for a sword. Mujin and Ma continue to exchange blows, but Mujin stands his ground with some excellent martial arts. Before Ma knows it, he finds his hand impaled with one of the chopsticks. Ma cannot believe that Mujin was able to find an opening even though he was trying his best to cut him down. While Ma is struggling, Mujin is busy having fun, while telling Ma that he might just regret himself if he decides to underrate chopsticks. Before Ma knows it, he finds himself struggling against chopsticks, leaving him surprised because he believed that Mujin was just a weakling who could not use chi. Ma is left to wonder how Mujin is able to reach such a terrifying state in a short space of time, but he doesn't want to believe that Mujin is the same person that he knows. Mujin continues puncturing his body with the chopsticks while telling him that he has such terrible skills. Ma refuses to lose to a pair of chopsticks, and he leaps into the air while aiming to finish Mujin off with his ultimate move. With how threatening he looks in the air, Mujin doesn't look scared one bit. He easily dodges Ma's attack, leaving him completely open. Ma is left to question why Mujin will have such a hidden power without him knowing. Mujin delivers a powerful punch to his body that fully destroys whatever pride he has left. With fear now reeking through Ma's body, Mujin repeats himself, saying all he wants is alone, but this time, he says it with a very deadly and terrifying face. Momentarily, Ma finally decides to sit down with Mujin after getting a thorough beating. His guards also find themselves bowing to Mujin while Ma talks with him. Ma then asks Mujin to tell him what he wants to know. Mujin asks Ma why his sect is lending a loan to his family without collateral, because he can sense malicious intent with the entire deal. Ma claims that they have no malicious intent, and Mujin is just overthinking things. Mujin doesn't believe this one bit because he can sense Ma's fear from where he is sitting. Mujin then decides to ask him again, but this time he urges him to think carefully if he doesn't want to be punished. Realizing that Mujin is not playing around, Ma finally reveals that they got their orders from the Cheongkwa merchant group. Mujin is not surprised to hear this because he knows that the group was involved in some way. He then asks Ma what sort of deal it is that they made with the Cheongkwa group. Ma is hesitant to speak, but Mujin quickly lets him know that if he dies defending the merchant group, he won't be missed. Ma takes some wisdom from what Mujin said and reveals that the merchant group ordered them to lend Mujin's clan whatever amount of money they want, but at a crazy high interest. In exchange for making the Hua clan fall, the Bangho sect will get the Hua lands after they are kicked off the chessboard. It finally dawns on Mujin that the family land was the collateral all along. Mujin then asks Ma how much 300 gold coins that he wants to borrow will amount to in a year. According to the contract, Ma reveals that the 300 gold coins would have amounted to 5,000 gold coins in repayment. Mujin is disgusted by this, but he really doesn't care, and he accepts the deal. With a more serious face, he asks Ma who helps them in cleaning up their messes. Ma then mentions that one of them is the social sect of the Four Martial Heavens, an alliance of unorthodox sects. Mujin is surprised to hear this, and Sok mentions that it is a new alliance. Mujin is irritated by the Four Martial Heavens, and he even calls the B word. Sok believes that his master's madness is playing because he has never seen him meet the alliance in the past, but he is literally cursing them out. Mujin then tells Sok that he doesn't have to worry about it because he is not in the mood to explain. Mujin is already getting tired of waiting, forcing him to ask about the dude who went to bring the money. The dude soon arrives with a box filled with the 300 gold coins that he needs. Mujin's eyes light up in happiness when he sees this, and he assumes that it should be enough. He tells Sok that it is time for them to leave, but Sok is still skeptical about the whole borrowing of a thing. Mujin simply tells him to shut his trap hole and take the money so that they can leave. Ma and his guards escort Mujin to the entrance when he is about to leave. Mujin then tells him to write down the date in his ledger, and he promises to clear all of the clan's debts once he has finished his business with the Cheonghua merchant group. In addition, Mujin warns Ma about taking money from the common folks, and failure to adhere to this will lead to serious punishment. Ma acknowledges the order, but deep down, he is pissed, and he cannot wait to see Mujin get screwed over. Momentarily, Sok and Mujin arrive at the house, and they are welcomed by the two elders. They immediately become worried when they see blood on Mujin's clothes, but he assures them that it is not his own. They ask him what happened at the sect, and he tells them that he simply went to borrow money. Mujin claims that the clan is in need of money because they need to feed their warriors to prevent the little they have left from running off. The elders don't want to believe that it was the sect that borrowed Mujin the money, and they assumed that he stole it. Mujin tells the elders that the sect has everything documented in their ledger, according to what he told them. Mujin then tells the elder that all he needs from them is to take care of his siblings and make sure that they are well fed and clothed. After handing out his instructions, he simply wishes them luck before walking away. Mujin then visits his parents' memorial room, but since he didn't have parents in his past life, he has no idea what to say. He finally opens his mouth to tell them that the money issue has been solved, and he also promises to take care of his siblings and servants, and by this, he urges his parents to rest in the afterlife. He also assures them that he is going to beat the brakes off of Dobo for challenging him to a duel. Unknown to him, he is being watched by Soyeon and Dojin, and the kids look absolutely impressed. Later on, Mujin ordered 3 swords that weigh 50 kilograms, 80 kilograms, and 110 kilograms respectively. The servants who brought in the swords almost broke their backs while doing so, but Mujin is just glad that his swords finally arrived. Sok is forced to ask him what he plans to do with such heavy-ass swords, and Mujin smiles, saying he plans to do what everyone else does with a sword, which is obviously swing it. Mujin excitedly reaches for the 50-kilogram sword and plans to start with it. However, his smile soon fades when he realizes that the sword is too heavy for him to lift. He concludes that the body is nothing but trash. However, he is not ready to give up. Nonetheless, he realizes that he can lift it a bit if he uses his 2 hands. Mujin can see Sok staring at him in disgust, and he urges him to get down to preparing his meal. He reminds him to add loads of meat to his food, and Sok dejectedly walks away in worry. Mujin sits with the sword, with the push that he has just 2 weeks to train his heart out before the duel. His body's constitution, which is the heavenly martial body, is the total opposite of the demonic arts that his master taught him. He figures out that the only solution he has is to learn the martial art of his master's friend, the peerless 9 swords. Refusing to give up, he starts swinging the sword by force inside the house. Meanwhile, Dobo has gotten the information that Mujin dealt with the Bungho boys so harshly that they will not be able to move for 2 weeks. Dobo is surprised to hear this since Mujin lacks an energy core to have pulled it off. Dobo smiles evilly while thinking of preparing something sinister ahead of the fight. Dobo is also excited to see what Mujin has hidden inside him when they finally go against each other in the duel. Momentarily, Mujin begins training his body in the hardest way possible. He figures out that he should be able to push the body to its limits since it's a body blessed by the heavens. While training, Sok is always preparing whatever it is that he needs. He believes that with the preparations, he will finally get the chance to start his training fully. He picks up the 50-kilo sword and starts swinging it around, while remembering what his old master told him. After trying out the first form, Mujin wastes no time graduating to the second form. He remembers what his master told him that no matter what weapon he faces, he is going to come out victorious. As the training progresses, he realizes that he is already getting overwhelmed, but he figures out that he has to endure it. In no time, he finds himself wielding the sword comfortably, and even leaping around the room as if the sword were not heavy. Momentarily, he moves over to the third form, while also trying his best to control his chi to become as powerful as it can. To help him with his training, he has a bunch of training items already prepared to simulate what a real battle will look like. His first opponent was a hardball, which he managed to dodge for some time before getting hit from behind. After this, he faces off against spiked bamboos, and by using the fourth form of the sword, he cuts down the bamboos. Apparently, his sword skill might look simple, but it is quite dangerous as it can cut through a whole load of things. Even with how much he tried, he was not able to hit logs flying at him with his fourth form, forcing him to graduate to the fifth form. This time he slices them all with his powerful fifth form. With his sword's power, he is confident that nothing can stop him, and numbers are nothing. After moving past the logs, he faces off against candles placed in bamboo, and for this, he employs his sixth form. He swung his sword so hard that it blew out all of the candles at once. Once he overcomes this, he figures out that his next stop is outside the house, where he can use his seventh form. Using his powerful seventh form, he scales through yet again. In no time, he reaches the ninth form with the determination that there is nothing his sword cannot cut through. He finally reaches the peak stage for the sword, and Mujin crashes to the ground in relief. But at the same time, he is not entirely pissed because he can't replicate his final form from his old life. He remembers taking teachings from his teacher when he was younger, but at the start, he never really took his master's teaching seriously. He believes that his master's friend was just taking a piss, while saying the trash and impossible feats about cutting down everything with a sword. His master admits that it might sound crazy, but he is not willing to allow his friend's martial arts to die. Since he was not able to properly inherit it, he wants Mujin to do so on his behalf. His master let him know that his late friend was the only swordsman who could go head-to-head with his skills. To make it more interesting, he had no chi. But Mujin's master says there is the possibility that he was using movement arts. Because those in his sect couldn't properly learn it, he decided to teach Mujin's master in an attempt to pass it on to someone worthy of it. After hearing this, Mujin laughs out loud to mock the arts, but his master flicks him on the head so hard that it almost crushes his skull. He tells Mujin that he has to follow whatever instruction he gives him, and Mujin has no choice but to accept his master's wishes. His master told him that if he performed the sword art 1,000 times, his body would change. But if he performed it 100,000 times, his chi would begin to enter his sword. Basically, swinging it 1,000,000 times will make him invincible to even the most powerful swordsman. Mujin was blown away by this because it is going to take him 3 years to finish the cycle if he swings his sword 1,000 times a day. This leaves Mujin asking his master if his friend truly matched his skill, but he says he has no idea, but he is pretty sure that one of them would have died if they had gone all out. Because of this, Mujin became curious about what kind of man his master's friend was. Mujin finally wakes up from different resounding slaps from Sok. Mujin figures out that he has a long way to go because he fainted just after practicing the move once, and he is nowhere near 1,000. Nonetheless, he has to eat because it is already late, and when he looks at the plate of food in front of him, he realizes that it is pork. He is disappointed, and he tells Sok to get pork the next time, since it is the easiest to help bulk up. He lets Sok know that he is free to use the money that they borrowed from the Manhwa sect because he can easily borrow more later. He tells Sok that his plan is to keep eating beef for the rest of the duration that he fights Dobo. Sok then asks Mujin when he learned the martial arts that he learned because he is pretty sure that Mujin didn't know martial arts before. Since Mujin has told his siblings already, he figures out that telling Sok is also not a bad idea. Mujin then reveals that he is not the real Mujin because his real identity is the divine demon. Sok assumes that Mujin is joking around and spewing some fantasy nonsense. Sok says he is only worried that Mujin is going to lose his memories and just disappear one day, but Mujin grabs him, assuring him that he is not going to leave the clan until it becomes the greatest clan in all of Sichuan. After all, Mujin has no choice since he has nothing else to do. Sok taunts his master, saying he is spewing trash, but this earns him a painful finger flick to the head. Once they are done talking, Mujin tells Sok that he is free to leave, and Sok does as told. Meanwhile, the two clan elders are trying to run away with the kids before the duel, since they believe that Dobo is going to kill Mujin, ultimately making the clan ripe for the taking. Shortly afterward, Mujin has trained his heart out so that he is now able to carry the 70-kilo sword with just one arm. However, his technique remains unstable, and he only has a week to the duel. He is sweating in the training room when the kids enter to check on him. Mujin urges them to leave because it is dangerous for them to be there. The kids tell Mujin that they are only worried about him because they have been watching him push himself to the limit for the past few days. Soyeon is worried that Mujin is doing all of these because of what she said, but she lets him know that she never meant it, because she was just angry. Staring at the two kids reminds our MC of his lover's siblings from his past life. Mujin pats them on the head, telling them that they have nothing to worry about. The two kids start to mimic Mujin, while commending how great his posture was. The way the two are arguing with each other on who is wrong or right makes him remember when he trained with his master and had it tough. Suddenly, it dawns on him that the most important thing with the Peerless Nine sword is the breathing technique. Realizing this, Mujin tells the kids that he is going to win no matter what, and he urges them to go back to their room. The kids are worried, but they assume that things are going to be fine. Once he is alone, Mujin begins the breathing technique while swinging his sword hard. With the help of the breathing technique, he is able to use up his collected internal energy all at once. Before he knows it, he already grasps the idea of the movement arts, which is a chi art where one builds up internal energy through movement. Basically, movement arts are considered low-rate martial arts, which is why people don't think much about them. Using the breathing technique, Mujin is able to swing the sword much easily, giving him what it takes to cut down a statue. Meanwhile, Jo Hwan-bong is seen talking to Sok about Mujin's sudden change. Sok tries to attribute Mujin's sudden healthiness to the one wudang session that he went through, but Jo is not a fool. He tells Sok to make sure he reports whatever changes he comes across to him. Sok makes his way to where his master is training, only to find it upside down. He tries telling him that his food is ready, but Mujin is disappointed, saying the training room is too small for him to train in. Because of this, Mujin says he will start using the training hall. Mujin makes his way to the big training hall only to find other warriors training there, and they all have their eyes on him. Sok tells the other warriors that he will have to train alone and suggests that they all move out of there. He urges them to use the other training hall, but the warriors are left wondering why a half-dead dude is spewing out instructions to them. They believe that Mujin is not a freaking martial artist just because he has a sword. Mujin notices the differences in their mood, and he comments on this. The other warriors want to stand up against Mujin, but the squad leader, Cheol Boyne, tells his men to leave the hall for the young master. Cheol ultimately believes that Mujin has lost his mind yet again. Just then, Mujin stops Cheol, letting him know that he should be a man and talk to him directly. Cheol then turns back, and Mujin suggests that they fight, since they are swordsmen. Cheol says he would not do this because Mujin is the future leader of the clan. Mujin then tells Cheol to remain a coward and not show his face, since he knows that he can't back his word. This is enough to get Cheol to unsheath his sword, ready to take on Mujin. The fight begins, and Mujin immediately pushes his sword into the ground before leaping toward Cheol in a daring move. He gets to Cheol and pushes his head before he can even react. The warriors are genuinely confused because they have never seen a duel without a sword before. Mujin continues toying with Cheol by moving around pretty fast, while Cheol struggles really hard. Cheol soon gets frustrated, and he tells Mujin to fight him like a man and stop evading his attacks. Mujin finally agrees to take him seriously a bit by grabbing his sword, but Cheol wastes no time running his mouth, saying Mujin is to blame for everything that has happened to the clan. Since Mujin is the cause of the problems, Cheol doesn't think he deserves to learn martial arts. Cheol dashes toward Mujin, but he meets him halfway with the 9th form of his peerless sword technique, ultimately shaking up his internal energy. Mujin doesn't give Cheol any breathing space as he lands a devastating punch to his face. Cheol is sent to the floor with blood spilling everywhere, while Mujin lets him know that things are about to be different. As he crashes to the ground, Cheol finally realizes the bitter truth that Mujin has fully changed. He can sense the determination burning right out of Mujin's body, unlike before. Cheol hits the ground, ultimately shocking Sok and the other warriors watching the duel. The warriors run over to check on their boss, who is lying down, totally knocked out. Mujin stands like a proper winner, while asking Cheol if he has any problems concerning his victory. One of the warriors screams at Mujin, telling him that he used a cowardly move. Cheol pulls himself together and screams at the dude to shut his mouth before admitting that he actually lost. Cheol pays his respect to Mujin while telling him that he has actually learned from him. Mujin acknowledges his respect and tells him that he is free to leave. As the warriors are stepping out of the hall, Mujin tells Sok to join them, since he truly wants to be alone. The aggrieved warrior continues complaining, and he believes that Cheol went easy on Mujin, but he lets him know that he didn't because he was planning to leave him half dead. The dude doesn't want to believe this, but Cheol lets him know that he is dead serious. Cheol says he doesn't know the full story, but it is evident that their young master has exponentially improved. Sok, on the other hand, is also wondering when Mujin changed so much, but at the same time, he is thankful that he actually changed. That night, the two elders have a meeting concerning the upcoming duel. The two have been in the clan for over 36 years and have been loyal ever since then. They talk about how amazing the Flame Emperor was during his younger days. He was a competent young man who showed off martial arts in such a way that even the powerful Tang clan had to admit that he was one of a kind. Basically, the elders were mesmerized by his strength, and they both swore allegiance to him. Joe believes that they are trying to break the loyalty, but Do disagrees, saying they just need to resolve the bloodline problem. Do says they have been looking after Mujin for 17 years, but the clan has been in decline ever since then. The two believe that they have done enough, and there is no way the Flame Emperor is going to blame them once they reach the afterlife. Basically, they have gathered the money they need to relocate, and in addition to this, a few martial artists to help them out. Du then tells Joe that he should leave first, while he stays behind to look after Mujin some more. Apparently, the martial master of the Kongdong sect hired by the Cheonghua will be the witness for the duel. Joe is surprised to hear this, since it is all pointing toward cheating. The merchant group is basically an evil bunch of craps who will make sure that there is nothing left of the Hua clan. Du tells Joe to take the kids and wait for him at their promised location, even though it will be a huge shock to the kids. Later on, Mujin realizes that the amount of beef he is getting smaller, leaving him to ask Sok why this is. Sok then reveals that the steward is giving him little money, and even though Mujin is pissed about the whole thing, he leaves it aside to show Mujin his cool outfit. Sok crushes his beautiful imagination by telling him that he looks better when he was all bandaged up. When it is time to leave for the duel, Mujin runs into Do outside the house. Mujin initially thinks he is there to stop him, but he says no, revealing that he is actually there to follow him to the duel. Mujin figures out that Do is just worrying himself when all he plans to do is beat his rival to a pulp. With this, Sok and Do join Mujin on the way to the duel venue. At the arena, everywhere is bustling with a crowd who want to see the duel and those who are there to make bets. Because of the high odds placed on Mujin, most put their money on him. Momentarily, he arrives at the arena with lollipops in his mouth, and those who saw him believe he is a weakling and would even prefer to cancel their bets. When he steps into the arena, he meets Choyeon, who asks him if he really wants to go ahead with the duel. The spectators, hearing this, believe that Mujin was the one who requested the duel first despite his weakness, and they believe that his madness is running riot. Mujin is utterly pissed when he realizes that the group is already painting them as the bad guys, and he plans to punish them for this. Mujin confidently tells Choyeon that he is not going to sit around and let her steal the secret manual of his clan, which is precisely why he has to fight them. The spectators are shocked to hear this because they never expected a merchant group to go after a martial arts secret technique. Choyeon is totally confident about the way things are going, and she believes that Mujin will pay for trying to act cool. The fire is set and all preparations are ready for the duel. The host announces that the duel's witness will be Han Yigong of the Kongdong sect. Han is seen standing on the balcony, looking all cool and strong, ready to bear witness to his master's wishes. He tells Dobo and Mujin to both fight fairly in front of the watching crowd. Just then, Dobo makes a shocking revelation, telling Mujin that the martial outfit that he is currently wearing was sent personally by him as a commemoration of Mujin's return. Mujin smiles when he hears this, and he whips out his large sword, telling Dobo that he will have no choice but to return the remaining goods after the duel. The entire crowd is shocked to see this because they have never seen anyone engage in a duel with such a large sword. In addition to this, they all believed that the Flame Emperor is known for his bare-handed martial arts. Even Do is shocked, and he asks Sok if Mujin said anything unusual. Basically, the two initially suggested that Mujin run because they believe he has no way of defeating his opponent. However, Sok is starting to have some sort of belief in Mujin, saying he might have a chance, but Do's conviction is completely different. Once both sides are ready, the referee hits the bell to start the game. Enraged, Mujin goes after Dobo right off the bat. He swings his large sword at him, delivering a powerful and devastating attack. Dobo narrowly dodges the strike, but it destroys the ground that it hits. The spectators are blown away because they never expected Mujin to be that fast and exceptionally strong. What everyone believed was that Mujin had no martial arts capability, but he was moving in such a crazy manner. Even Dobo is utterly shocked since he was expecting a very easy duel. Mujin continues with his attack as he charges toward Dobo yet again. He continues swinging his sword at him, but Dobo manages to block his hit, and they stand toe-to-toe against each other. This leaves a clashing sound and a glorious sight for them to see. Choyeon is surprised that Mujin is actually staying in the fight more than she gave him credit for. However, she is convinced that no matter what training he has done, he is still nowhere near Dobo. Mujin continues swinging his big sword at Dobo, but he easily dodges it, thanks to his flexibility. As the fight progresses, Dobo manages to land a counterattack that sends Mujin backwards, and he swears he is going to leave Mujin in a worse position than before. He is confident that he has what it takes to break a man's will. Standing at the balcony, Do confesses that he is impressed by how Mujin is holding out in the fight. Sok then tells Do that with what he is looking at, Mujin has not even revealed his trump card yet. Do believes that Sok is saying trash, but Sok mentions that he secretly watched Mujin train on his own, and he assures Do that something more powerful is coming. As the fight progresses, Mujin figures out that his strength is currently on par with Dobo's, leaving him to question the training procedure. However, he is not worried because no matter how strong his opponent is, he will always win, and this time, he plans to kill Dobo. Meanwhile, Jo is transporting Mujin's siblings, and he has arrived at his destination with them sleeping. He remembers Do telling him that the reason he is not coming yet is because he would like to stay around and gather whatever remains of Mujin after Dobo kills him. Even though Jo doesn't know if what they are doing is right, at least they have started already. Back in the arena, the two are still going at each other. Mujin is not worried because he believes that Dobo is nothing but a rookie to him. The two continue to trade blows, and even though it appears that they are matched, some believe that Mujin actually has the upper hand. People have started talking trash about Mujin, saying he is not that impressive. Just then, Dobo launches a powerful attack that he aims straight at Mujin. Do and Sok almost faint as they watch the attack go straight for Mujin, and all they can do is pray that he actually dodges the attack. Realizing that Dobo is onto him, Mujin employs the Peerless Nine Swords first form, the preemptive step. Dobo lands his hit, but thanks to the technique that Mujin used, he is able to block it, leaving the crowd in shock. Even Dobo is shocked, and he is forced to move backwards. Realizing that Mujin is going crazy, Dobo gathers his inner energy in preparation for a final strike. However, Mujin makes fun of him, saying his inner energy gathering is too slow. Mujin then activates his technique's second form, and he dashes toward Dobo with so much malice. Dobo can feel this, and all he can do is block Mujin's attack in a struggle, leaving him totally confused as he cannot believe that he is losing to Mujin. Dobo puts all of his strength into blocking Mujin's attack, but before he knows it, his sword shatters right in front of him. Mujin's sword passes through, slashing Dobo really hard. Dobo is thrown to the ground while Choyeon screams in frustration, calling out Dobo's name. Dobo lies there in a pool of his own blood with his right arm missing, and Mujin automatically wins the duel. Mujin then walks over to Dobo's arm and says he will be taking it with him as payment for the 17 years of grudge. Choyeon is shocked to hear this, and Mujin says that the merchant group might actually find a way to reattach his arm. Han leaps off from where he is watching to check on Dobo. Choyeon also rushes at them, and Han mentions that Dobo's energy core has also been destroyed. Han stares at Mujin, asking him if he really had to go that far. Mujin acts confused, asking Han what he meant by what he said, and Han says there was a clear gap in their skills because the fight was already over a long time ago. Mujin then replies that since he has a big mouth, he also has a lot to say. Mujin then asks if it was really necessary to use the 7-wound fist strike on the head of a 5-year-old child with no martial arts skill. With pure rage in his eyes, Mujin tells Han that what he just did is merely a closure of a grudge that he has been holding for the past 17 years. Mujin also adds that they are about to start paying for everything they have done against the Hua clan. With clear malice, he urges Han and his subordinates to prepare themselves very well. Choyeon crashes to her knees in pain, swearing that she will never forget what Mujin just did. As Mujin walks away from the stage, the spectators cheer for his victory because they are impressed by how he crushed Dobo. In addition to the beautiful things that they witnessed, they realized that they had never seen the sword he had used in the past. Basically, they are all hyped because a new martial arts master has been born. Do and Sok rush to meet Mujin, and he tells them that it is time they head back home. As he walks away, he suddenly turns back, asking Do if he has spent all the gold he entrusted to him. Do nervously replies that there is still a little of it left. Mujin then says he might have to stop by the Bangho sect because he would have to borrow money. Suddenly he tells Do that he doesn't care if he, Joe, and the other martial artists want to leave, but he lets him know that there will be great consequences if they try to take his siblings from him. He says this with so much killing intent that it almost cripples Do where he stands. Meanwhile, his siblings are already screaming at Joe for taking them away when they are supposed to be watching their brother's duel. Joe knows that they are done for when he reads the letter that the pigeon just delivered and realizes that Mujin unexpectedly won the fight. Do told him in the letter that they had been discovered, and he urged him to return to the house immediately. Without delay, Joe starts riding back home, but in fear, while the kids are celebrating that they want to go back and see their brother. Later on, Mujin tells Do that it is time for him to deal with the Bangho sect, and he tells Do not to worry himself about anything. Even though Mujin is now considered to be capable, Do urges him not to get himself entangled with the Sosol sect in whatever way. Realizing that the old man is just overthinking things, Mujin tells him that he won't. With this, Mujin heads out to meet the Bangho sect, but Sok is worried that things might turn out horribly. Mujin says he can't delay things any further, and he urges Sok to stay very close behind him. Momentarily, Mujin arrives at the Bangho sect, shocking Ma because he never thought he would see Mujin again. Mujin tells Ma that he is there to pay back his debts, while also making fun of Ma because their sect now looks deserted. Ma tries to cover up their loss by saying most of the gamblers in the region only left because they needed to watch his duel against Dobo. Since he claims that everyone went to watch him fight, Mujin asks him if he held betting pools on his match. Without a doubt, Mujin is pretty sure that they gave him the higher odds, and from this, they would have made a bulk load of money. Since they have made some money, Mujin automatically reveals his interest, and Ma obviously knows that he is about to milk them. To avoid getting into any trouble with him, Ma tells him that they are going to express their gratitude. Mujin is pleased to hear this, since everyone obviously likes money. Ma can sense the cold aura coming from Mujin's body, and it simply shows that he is filled with so much killing intent. Mujin then asks Ma about his boss, and this shocks Ma, asking him why he wants to know where their boss is. Mujin slams his hand on the table, telling Ma that he is pissed when he has to ask a question more than once. Mujin is about to run wild when the leader of the sect, Chai Wongyul, appears in the room. Mujin is surprised to see an ugly face who turns out to be the leader of the sect. Che confesses that his boys have already told him about Mujin, and Mujin asks him why it is so hard to see him. Mujin doesn't hold back from taunting him, telling him that he has an ugly face. Standing behind Che is an interesting fellow, and Mujin asks if the fellow is his servant. Flowing out of the dude is pure malice, and he turns out to be Death Black Crow from the Sosol sect. Black Crow scolds Mujin for eyeing his money, and even though he was told to avoid the Sosol sect, Mujin just found himself staring at one. Mujin simply tells the dude to keep his mouth shut if he doesn't want to die. Black Crow angrily dashes at Mujin, ready to tear him apart, and this scares Sok. Mujin doesn't feel any threat coming from Black Crow, as he is determined to take down anyone who gets in his way. Mujin throws a chopstick at Black Crow, and with so much power behind it, he punctures his hand. This is when it dawns on Black Crow that Mujin is not an ordinary dude, and he needs to take him seriously. Mujin then tells Black Crow that he wants no compliment from someone as trashy as him, but this gets Black Crow mad, and he angrily runs toward Mujin again. This time, Mujin decides to meet him halfway, and he runs toward him, but suddenly vanishes right in front of him. He appears behind him, shocking him. Black Crow frantically throws hands at Mujin, but he easily dodges while making it obvious that he is toying with him. Black Crow cannot believe that someone as young as Mujin is actually dodging his attacks. Mujin then decides to put one more hole in Black Crow. Mujin pushes the chopstick into his left eye, causing him so much pain that his scream scares those who are watching. Black Crow falls to his knees while calling Mujin the B word, telling him that the social sect will come for him for attacking a member. Mujin is interested to see what the sect is capable of, and he kicks Black Crow in the head while telling him to urge the social sect to come at him all they want. However, before the sect comes, Mujin lets Black Crow know that he is not leaving the room alive. Just then, Black Crow starts begging, telling Mujin that he is ready to give him anything he wants as long as he spares his life. Mujin is surprised that Black Crow desires to live, but since he offered him wealth, Mujin holds back from sending him to the afterlife. Black Crow says all his wealth is in Dechang, but he promises to bring them back. Mujin is ready to take the deal, but he assures him that he is a dead man if he doesn't return with the money. With fear creeping through his body, he rushes off, promising to be back as fast as he can. Once he is done dealing with the Black Crow, he turns to Che, who is already pissing his body, and he tells him that it is time they settle their debt. Che immediately falls to his knees, begging to be spared, while promising to give everything that he has. Mujin laughs at this, telling Che that he has nothing to offer him because his properties are already his. Che is confused when he hears this, and Mujin tells him to add the profits he has gotten out of commoners in addition to the lives he has ruined by manipulating martial clans to equal out his assets. With tears in his eyes, Che says he is willing to give Mujin everything, but this pisses Mujin off and he shatters Che's brain, reminding him that he can't offer him what he already has. Fear grips everyone watching this, and Mujin turns to them, asking them who is after him in the command line. Ma quickly steps up, saying he is the vice sect leader, and he falls to his knees, begging to be spared. He promises Mujin that he is going to live honestly if given another chance. Because he pleaded sincerely, Mujin decided to spare his life. Mujin then asks Ma how much Che was worth, and Ma starts with his house. He says everything is worth 4,000 gold, and Bungho's assets are about 10,000 gold. In addition, there is a 500 gold tribute from the Sozal sect. Basically everything totals over 20,000 gold, and Mujin mentions that he wants everything to come to him. Ma then tells him that he is going to prepare everything and bring it to him. Mujin is pleased to hear this, since he wants everything handled without delay. Once Ma is gone, Mujin stares at the other sect officers with a very deadly expression, and he tells them to start negotiating their lives. This shocks them, and he reminds them that Ma is the only person he promised to spare. Fear grips them, and they start begging to be spared. Momentarily, Mujin returns home with several boxes filled with treasures and money, leaving Do shocked. He tells Do that each of the boxes has about 400 gold in it. Do tries to remind Mujin that the Bangho sect is backed by the Sozal sect. However, the main problem is not the Sozal sect, but who is allied with them, and this is a scary dude named Ju Sugang. Do adds that the sect also adds that the sect has the Black Crow and the Red Crow too. The moment he hears Black Crow, Mujin tells Do that he has already dealt with him. This shocks Do, and Mujin tells Do not to place him on the same level as him or Joe, because anyone who comes looking for the clan's trouble will end 6 feet under. After he is done saying this, he tells Do to get him some beef, and he also orders that his siblings are well fed when they return. As Mujin turns around to leave, Do cannot believe that Mujin has already put fear in Black Crow, who is considered a menace across the region. Do basically realizes that Mujin is totally different from the person he once knew. Meanwhile, Choyeon has hired assassins to take out everything dear to Mujin. But she orders them to bring back one of the kids alive. In the past, the Flame Hua clan was pretty successful, and the remarkable man known as the Flame Emperor drew admiration from countless martial artists who were always watching him. He even received praises from the prestigious Tang clan of Sichuan. In a single generation, the Flame Hua clan became a martial clan that no one could ignore. Those who are considered peak martial artists even think twice before messing with the Flame Hua clan. Because of this, there was a time when the people of Xichang would cheer passionately whenever the clan's members walked the streets. However, after the Flame Emperor died, the next patriarch showed how trash he is, and because of this, the Flame Hua clan gradually declined. Those who had been loyal to the family started walking away one after the other. With this, the image of the emperor who once ruled his world became split among those who remember him and those who don't. But the one thing that remains is that he is an extraordinary man. Because of the immense aura that Mujin has when walking, the elders start comparing him to the late emperor. Soon afterward, wounded warriors show up to tell Du that they have been ambushed by assassins, and Elder Joe and a bunch of warriors are the only ones fighting the assassins. The moment Do hears this, he realizes that the 2 young ones are in danger, and he tells the warriors to notify Mujin immediately while he goes ahead of him. In the forest, Joe finds himself standing up against the assassins, since the warriors with him have been taken down. Even in the face of immense danger, he stands strong with all readiness to protect the kids. Just as he is about to be overwhelmed, Do shows up just in time to lend him a helping hand. This pisses the assassins off because they had almost accomplished their mission before Do showed up. The assassin leader screams at his men, telling them to take down the two, and another round of fierce battle ensues. Do manages to exchange a few blows with the assassins, but old age soon catches up to him and the assassins get the upper hand. Before he knows it, he gets cut on the shoulder, forcing him backwards. One of the assassins then makes Do his mission, and he tells his comrades to kill one of the kids. He pushes Do backward, forcing him to stay on the defense, but Do refuses to back down. Moments later, Do gets cut really badly, and he screams out in pain. Do crashes to the ground with no way to defend himself or the kids. Since Do is out of the equation, the assassins focus their attention on the kids, asking which of them they are going to kill or spare. Even though Dojin can't do anything to help, he still stands his ground to defend his sister, and the assassins decide that he will be the one to die. Just as they are about to cut Dojin down, Mujin's voice echoes through the forest, telling them to stop right where they are. He looks absolutely menacing as he dashes toward them at a great speed, but the assassins don't look scared since Mujin was previously known as trash. The assassin leader then tells his men to kill Mujin, since he has decided to get in their way. One of the assassins dashes toward Mujin, but Mujin uses him as the first target for his rage. He shatters the dude's sword with little to no effort before launching a vertical strike that cuts the dude in half. Without wasting time, he moves past the dude and heads for the rest of the assassins. The moment they see how crazy he is, the leader of the assassins orders his men to come together and take Mujin down at once. The group quickly gangs up on him, but before they can reach him, Mujin activates the Peerless Nine Swords' fifth form, called the Army Slayer technique, and he slices through all of them like tissue. One of them tries to get the edge on Mujin, but he easily dodges before relieving the dude of his head. This is when it finally dawns on the surviving assassin that they are going up against a monster. Before he can even make another move, his right arm has left his body and he screams in pain. Mujin then tells him not to make another move if he still wants to remain among the living. Mujin turns around to see Joe helping Do up, and Dojin is covering his sister's eyes so she doesn't see the carnage going on in front of them. Dojin assures his sister that they have nothing to fear because Mujin has shown up and has beaten up all the bad guys. Mujin walks up to the two and he asks them if they are okay. Dojin assures him that they are good, and Mujin suggests that they must have been scared. But Dojin tells him that he is not, claiming that he is the son of a martial master. Mujin is relieved to hear this and he pats the boy on the head for his bravery. He then tells Elder Joe to take the wounded warriors and his siblings back to the estate. The moment the group leaves, Mujin turns his attention to the last assassin, telling him to keep his mouth shut about his chopped-off arm. Mujin then asks him if he was sent by the Chonghua merchant group. The dude hesitates before answering, and Mujin tells him that he might spare his life if he answers honestly. The assassin gets curious when he hears this, and he quickly reveals that Choyon hired them through the Death Forest faction. After telling Mujin what he knows, he asks him if he is going to let him just like he said. Mujin then tells him to run back to Choyon to tell her that he has wiped out the group she sent after his siblings, and to let her know that he is coming for her head next. Later on, everyone has their eyes on Mujin as he walks through the street with his body soaked in blood. Those who have been looking down on him in the past couldn't do that again, since they can't risk becoming one of his victims. The people are curious to know if the prodigy that they knew when he was a kid is finally back. After making sure he has farmed enough aura on the street, Mujin finally returns home and Masak comes running over to welcome him, but Mujin pushes his head aside. He asks Masak if the wounded warriors are all in the medicine hall, and he says yes. Masak reveals that Dojin and his sister are also resting in their chambers to regain their strength. Mujin is glad to hear this, and he tells Masak to prepare a bath for him. Moments later, Mujin soaks himself in the nice bath prepared for him by Mujin. While taking his bath, he thinks of his siblings and his desire to keep them away from seeing the bad in the world. Even though they are children from a martial clan, Mujin doesn't think it is right for them to be exposed to cruelty at a young age. However, at the same time, he is worried that he is projecting his past fear onto them. The next day at the medicine hall, Mujin walks up to Elder Joe to ask him about the Red Flame art manual. Joe is shocked when he hears this, and Mujin asks him why he is startled. Joe asks him why he is asking for the manual, and Mujin realizes that Joe is worried that he is going to relapse and tear things apart. Joe subtly replies that this is not his reason, and Mujin basically tells him that he is planning to train on his own, since Joe is currently out of commission. Mujin can also see that Joe is doubting his ability, but Joe denies this. Mujin then assures Joe that he has nothing to worry about because he is not going to throw a fit. Realizing that Mujin has no ill intentions, Joe finally provides the manual for him. After Mujin is gone, Joe expresses his worry to Do, asking him if he has not made the wrong decision by giving Mujin the manual. Do tells him not to worry because Mujin has been displaying some really excellent swordsmanship of late. Do says it was because of Mujin that they were able to survive the assassination attempt. Do also adds that Mujin appears to have been cured, and he believes that the Taoist's treatment is working. Joe agrees that the treatment is working, but at the same time he wonders if the treatment is also helping with his martial arts skills. Do also say Mujin's sudden improvement is something to note, and he believes that he had a fateful encounter because this is the only explanation for his sudden improvement. Joe is happy with the way things are going, and he believes that the clan's decline is finally coming to an end. At the training ground, Mujin calls his siblings together to train them. Mujin explains the concept of the whole training to them, telling them that they are expected to move very fluidly. He mentions that it is a fundamental movement technique that he created himself based on the countless real combat experiences. The two are impressed when they hear this, and Soyeon cuts in, expressing her shock, since Elder Joe claimed that Mujin has no real combat experience. Dojin cannot believe that his sister is basically saying things as they are. Mujin then suggests that they move past the boring talks, and he tells the two to come at him with the basic fist technique that they have learned. The two take their pose, and they come after Mujin at the same time, but their movements leave Mujin ultimately disappointed. The display from the two made Mujin wonder if the two were truly from a martial clan. He realizes that the two lack the basic movement to even be considered martial arts. Frustrated by the poor showing that they are displaying, he tells them to stop. He says they need to stop training for the day because his head hurts. The two are surprised that he is claiming he has a headache when they didn't even touch his head. Mujin then lies that the two are more skilled than he thought. He tells them that the only thing they need to do at the moment is to strengthen their bodies before learning any advanced techniques. After the two are gone, Mujin realizes that he has a big task on his hands and it won't be easy. He then realizes that his master must have had a hard time training him too. Nonetheless, Mujin is prepared to restore the clan to its greatness since he was the one to blame for what happened. In addition to this, Mujin aims to defeat the one person he failed to defeat in his previous life. Mujin then grabs his sword and he begins his solo training. And he can clearly see that the sword has gotten really light in his hand. He also figures out that his speed is increasing with every repetition of sword forms. Some days later, Do and Joe finally return to duty. Maesok tells him that they have done everything he asked, and he commends them for a job well done, but Maesok wanted more. Mujin angrily reminds him of what would have happened if he had arrived on the scene a bit later. Mujin then warns the elders, telling them that they are going to die if they ever pull such a stunt again. The two acknowledge this, and they bow to Mujin while apologizing for being foolish. Moments later, the said Taoist who treated Mujin Do Youngsu shows up. Mujin doesn't know who he is, and he has already insulted him before Maesok tells him that he is the Taoist who treated him. Maesok apologizes to the old man, saying Mujin has not fully recovered, which is why he is acting the way he is. But Mujin kicks him off for saying trash about him. Mujin then decides to play along, and he tells the old man that he is sorry for not recognizing him. Mujin urges the man to follow him, since he must be exhausted from his long journey. Some days earlier, Maesok had told Mujin about the Taoist priest, saying he inherited the Taoist lineage of the Wudang sect. Maesok claims that Mujin was healed thanks to the positive energy healing from the priest, and he reveals that the chief steward paid a huge sum to invite the Taoist. Now in the present day, Mujin is glad that he is finally meeting the man, which is why he is inviting him inside the compound. Mujin then asks him if it is true that he inherited the Wudang sect's Taoist lineage, and Youngsu confirms this, while acting all cool. He mentions that he is the only Taoist to inherit the essence of the Wudang sect's true lineage. The moment Mujin hears this, he stamps on his feet and asks him with all seriousness if he is truly the Wudang White Immortal, because he has never heard of any successor of Wudang's Taoist lineage still alive. Youngsu wants to act like a fool, but Mujin lets him know that he has a little time frame to come clean before he changes his mind. The Taoist maintains his innocence, asking Mujin if he is doubting the one person who healed him, but Mujin immediately whips out his large sword. He tells Youngsu that since he is claiming to be a Taoist, he says he should have no issue dodging his strike. Mujin swings his sword and barely misses cutting the old man in half, but the strike leaves a huge dent in the floor. Maesok and the elders panic when they see this because they believe he is going crazy. Mujin tells the trio to keep their mouths shut and get him water because he wants to show them something funny. The moment the water arrives, Mujin soaks Youngsu with it. Youngsu still tries to act like he knows nothing, as he asks Mujin if this is the way they repay kindness in the clan. Mujin ignores him and grabs his long beard, which immediately comes off, shocking the elders and Maesok. Even Youngsu realizes that he is screwed because they have found out that he is wearing a fake beard. Mujin makes fun of him, saying he even tried his best to glue the beard carefully. Youngsu soon finds himself answering to Mujin and his retainers, and Maesok asks Mujin what he plans to do to the dude. Mujin replies that he has no intentions of letting Youngsu go, and he says he might just cut off his limbs and turn him into an eunuch too. Youngsu freaks out when he hears this, and he starts begging Mujin to spare him. Mujin assures him that he has no intention of killing him because if he does, there is no way for him to get his money back. Mujin says he just wants to cut off his limbs, but Youngsu begs in fear, telling Mujin to leave his body parts intact. Youngsu promises to return all the money that he swindled. Mujin accepts the deal, but lets him know that he is also going to charge him for not cutting off his limbs and manhood. Scared for his limbs, Youngsu tells Mujin that he is ready to pay back any amount as long as Mujin leaves him whole. Mujin then asks Do how much the dude collected from him, and Do reveals that he paid him 50 gold nyang. Mujin hears this and expresses his disappointment about how gullible Do is to have fallen for Youngsu's scam. In his defense, Do says he heard that Youngsu was a great healer. Mujin then turns to Youngsu, telling him that the first thing he's going to do is pay back the 50 gold. Youngsu reveals his intention to pay back the money, but claims that the money is back at his residence in Jinyang. Without hesitation, Mujin tells him to lead the way to Jinyang, which is 4 hours away. Do and Joe ask if they should come along, but Mujin tells them that there is no need for this since they are still recovering. He urges them to stay at home and make sure that there is no trouble. As he leaves with Youngsu, Do senses Joe's worry, and he urges him to trust the dude on the matter because he is no longer the man he used to be. Moments later, they get to where Youngsu's carriage is waiting, and Mujin is shocked to see the type of luxurious carriage that the dude is riding. This basically shows how well his scamming business is going. Mujin is even more blown away when he steps into the carriage and sees just how decorated it is. The inside is lined with cotton and finished with leather, and Youngsu says it is perfectly done because he travels a lot, so comfort is a necessity. Mujin smirks, saying Youngsu has a strong work ethic for someone who is a cook, and he asks him why he is not doing honest work, since he is a professional. Youngsu bows his head to Mujin, assuring him that he is going to embark on something legit from that moment forward. Mujin then lies down comfortably, telling the old dude that he needs to sleep. He suggests that he wake him when they have arrived at their destination. Youngsu acknowledges the order and assures Mujin that he will wake him the moment they arrive. Deep down, Youngsu holds ill intent toward Mujin, and he can't wait to show him what happens when someone wrongs him. The carriage soon departs, and after some hours of traveling, they arrive in a very silent and secluded area of the forest. Youngsu steps out of the carriage to meet an acquaintance, who appears to be a bandit. He tells the dude that Mujin is fast asleep inside the carriage. He tells the bandit to drag him out and make an example of him. The big guy is excited to do this because he doesn't know why someone would mess with the business of a Taoist. The big guy walks into the carriage and sends a punch in Mujin's way. Just as his punch is about to land, Mujin turns around to block the punch with his sword. Mujin smiles evilly while asking if they have arrived already. Mujin is disgusted with the guy standing above him, and he sends him flying out of the carriage, shocking Youngsu. The bandit feels the impact of Mujin's hit crawling through his body, and he decides to get serious since the claim about Mujin being impressive is not a false claim. Mujin slowly walks out of the carriage, asking Youngsu when their destination ended up being an isolated forest. Mujin finally realizes that he is a target for the Taoist too. He thought he was just a scammer, but then he figured out that he had other schemes too. Mujin doesn't take offense at this because he was looking for some action anyway. Mujin unleashes an overwhelming aura from his body while telling the big guy that he would like to see what he is made of. The big guy can sense the pressure coming from Mujin, and he calls on the rest of his gang to come out so that they can both take Mujin down together. 3 other big guys emerge from their hiding places, and it turns out that they are known as Zhongshan's 4 demons. The moment Mujin takes a good look at them, he can see that they are wielding demonic energy, but he doesn't say anything about this. Mujin makes reference to the variety in their weapons and tells them that he would like to see the depth of their skills. Without wasting any more time, Mujin dashes toward the leader of the team and pushes him away from his teammates. He puts him on the defensive as he continues launching a series of attacks on him. The rest of the team soon realizes that Mujin is after only the dude, and they mobilize to help him. Even the dude getting attacked is feeling the severe hit from Mujin's strikes. He compares his attacks to those of a heavy mace. He soon loses his balance, and Mujin kicks him in the face, crushing his mouth. Just then, the rest of the team catches up, and the closest tries to take Mujin's head off with his axe, but Mujin easily dodges and delivers a powerful elbow hit to his belly, causing the dude to scream in severe pain. The other 2 try to take Mujin down with a pincer attack, but he dodges, forcing the 2 to overextend their arms. This creates an opening for Mujin to easily punch one of them to the ground. Mujin then goes after the last dude, and the dude tries blocking Mujin's attack with his sword, but it shatters right in front of him. Mujin's sword almost cuts the dude in half, but Mujin holds back. The dude's life flashes before his eyes, and while he is still trembling from this, Mujin sends him flying with a powerful kick to the chest. With this, Mujin takes the 4 down, and he has them on their knees, struggling to breathe. During the fight, he has confirmed that they are using demonic arts, but this leaves him wondering how there are demonic arts in the Central Plains. Mujin considers them his juniors, and he doesn't want to kill his juniors. He is contemplating on what to do when the leader of the team screams out, telling Mujin that they are conceding defeat. He begs Mujin to spare them, and this is when Yongsoo realizes that he is screwed because Mujin was able to easily defeat Zhongshan's 4 demons. The leader of the team admits that they already figured out that Mujin was way above them after the first few moves. Mujin then asks him why they kept messing around when they already knew this. Mujin assures the dudes that he will spare them, but he is going to destroy their energy cores and sever their meridians. The moment they hear this, the team leader goes on his knees and begs Mujin not to ruin their lives as martial artists because they only did what they were told. Mujin then tells the dude to stop whining because they are already old as it is. Mujin demands to know who they learned from, and the dude initially acts confused until Mujin tells him that he would like to know his master. Mujin mentions that he can clearly see that they are using demonic energy, even if it is pathetic. Mujin is curious to know who taught them demonic arts, and the team leader reveals that they don't know his name. Mujin is pissed when he hears this because he can't believe that they are a bunch of useless disciples who don't know their master's name. The team leader then confesses that their master never told them his name, and he also adds that they shouldn't look for his other disciples. Mujin replies that they should have just put their heads down and learned trash martial arts instead of engaging in banditry. The team leader quickly corrects Mujin's misconception, saying that they are not thieves. He mentions that they only helped with their brother's business on the side. Mujin is surprised when he hears this, and he scolds them for helping him even though they know what Yongsoo's business is. This is when the team leader reveals that they believed he was in the business of saving lives. Mujin decides to let them go, and he tells them to stop being lackeys for Yongsoo. He threatens to kill them if he ever sees them do bad things again. The team leader thanks Mujin for having mercy on them, and Mujin turns to Yongsoo, telling him that the amount of the bill he is going to pay has just increased. In fact, he is going to pay for messing with his mental health, and this leaves Yongsoo totally horrified. After the carriage leaves, the 4 brothers suddenly awaken to the fact that Mujin is someone worthy of being their master. The 4 then chase down the carriage and they get it to stop. Mujin is wondering why the carriage stopped until he steps out to find the 4 bowing to him and calling him boss. The 4 tell him that they are pledging their loyalty with the assurance that they are going to serve him until they die. They beg Mujin to take them in, but Mujin believes that the 4 are suffering from being beaten up by him. He tries to discard them, but the 4 roar even louder, demanding that he take care of them while revealing that they are still quite young. This comes as a surprise to Mujin, who thinks the 4 are old dudes, since they all have ugly faces. Mujin maintains the fact that the 4 cannot be younger than him, who is 23 years old. He asks them if they suffered an energy deviation or something. The leader of the 4 is surprised by this because they expect Mujin to just believe that they are young. Mujin adds that he is surprised that demonic arts users manage to become warriors of the ruined households of the Orthodox sect because it actually makes no logical sense. The eldest of the 4, Cheolmuk, who is 21 years old, then tells Mujin that his master always said that being a demonic arts user is a way of living, not a faction or affiliation. Also staring at Mujin is the youngest of them, who is 18 years old, Nosak. Mujin agrees to Cheol's take, but wonders what sort of Orthodox family would accept demonic arts users because they might just get dragged into scandals. The second brother, Dongjiok, who is 20 years old, cuts in, telling Mujin that no one would dare to say such a thing because they are just going to bash their heads. The third brother, Jung Tai, who is 19 years old, agrees to this too. Mujin then tells them that they must follow all of his instructions if they want to serve in a household, and the 4 shout in unison, telling him that they are going to devote themselves. Tired of their screams and all, Mujin has no choice but to tell the brothers that they are now warriors of the Flamehua clan. Soon afterward, they arrive at Yongsoo's large mansion, and he invites them into the house. His servants are surprised to see him with strange faces, and they ask him what happened. But Yongsoo instructs his servants to prepare food in the annex. However, Mujin tells him to forget about the food because they need to go to the treasure room immediately. Yongsoo agrees and starts leading them to the treasure room while his servants almost crap their pants thanks to the scary presence of the 4 demons. Mujin is also surprised that Yongsoo has been living so well thanks to the money he has swindled over the years. Just then, they run into a warrior, Sojin. Sojin asks Yongsoo if there is any problem, but Yongsoo rushes over to tell him that there is no problem. He urges him to go back into the house, but Sojin insists that Yongsoo tell him whatever is wrong with him. Mujin then cuts in, asking Sojin why he keeps sticking his neck into other people's business when they already told him to leave. Mujin mentions that he can clearly see that he is Yongsoo's guest, so he should stay away from the entire situation because guests are not supposed to meddle in household affairs. Sojin insults Mujin, saying he has a big mouth, and Cheolmuk wants to jump in to deal with Sojin, but Yongsoo urges him to stand down because it is all a misunderstanding. Youngsu tells Sojin to stand down, and he decides to introduce Mujin and the four to Sojin, telling him that they are his guests. Instead of just staying back, Sojin decides to be even more rude when he finds out that Mujin is the master of the Flamehua clan. Mujin ignores him, telling him to move aside whenever he is done talking trash. Mujin is about to walk past him when Sojin tells Mujin that he should be ashamed of himself for running around with demonic users while terrorizing commoners. He then adds that Mujin's grandfather would be weeping in his grave as it stands, and he still doesn't stop there. He proceeds to call Mujin a pathetic trash too. Even Youngsu screams at Sojin for going too far, but Sojin assures Youngsu that he is a pro and would never lose to a scum like Mujin. Just then, one of the brothers whips out his weapon as he steps up to deal with Sojin, urging Mujin to give him permission. Mujin then tells him not to worry because he is going to handle the situation himself. He leaps into the plain arena, urging Sojin to join him, and Sojin excitedly does so. Sojin dashes toward Mujin with the intention of impaling him, but Mujin blocks the attack with his large sword. He commends his sword style, but tells him that he lacks strength. Mujin continues to play around with Sojin, and in no time, Sojin starts feeling the strong vibrations rocking his sword. The four demons see this, and they know it is over for the dude because he is already backed into a corner by Mujin. They mention that his sword is about to break, and if his sword doesn't break, his skull is going to break. Just as predicted, Sojin's sword shatters, and Mujin smiles evilly before sending the dude into the wall. The four demons are not surprised by this, and Mujin tells one of them to throw his iron club to him. Since the dude tells Mujin that his grandfather is going to cry in his grave, Mujin tells him that he is going to make sure that he sends him to his grandfather. Mujin starts beating the dude so hard that his cries rock the entire house. The four are impressed at how Mujin is beating the dude like a baby. Youngsu panics when he realizes that Sojin is about to die, and he rushes over to meet Mujin, telling him to spare him, assuring Mujin that he is going to pay for his life. Youngsu mentions that Sojin has ties with the unorthodox martial heavens, and it would be bad if they allowed someone like the dude to die in his house. Youngsu assures Mujin that he is going to pay for Sojin's life, no matter how much it costs. Mujin smiles when he hears this, saying he thought Youngsu was putting his hope in Sojin. Moments later, they make their way into the treasure room, and Mujin comments on how rich Youngsu is. Mujin wastes no time, and he suggests that they start calculating everything. He starts with the four demons, saying each of their lives costs 500 gold coins. Youngsu cannot believe his ears, because Mujin just agreed to accept the four into the clan, but he is still supposed to pay for their lives. Mujin then continues by telling Youngsu that the compensation for his limbs is 200 gold, while his life is worth 300 gold. Mujin then tells Youngsu that Sojin's life is worth 1,000 gold because he was very rude. Lastly, Mujin tells Youngsu that he is going to pay for his psychological damage, which is 3,000 gold. After he is done calculating, Mujin just tells the dude that he wants everything he has. He asks him if there is any objection to this, but Youngsu says no with tears running down his cheeks because Mujin is worse than even bandits. In no time, the four start packing up all the money in the room, and Mujin spots a folding screen standing in the corner. He notices a strange aura coming from the screen, and Youngsu notices that Mujin is staring at the screen. Youngsu asks him if he likes the screen, but Mujin replies that he is not sure. Youngsu then mentions that the folding screen is the work of a man named Master Jang Sosan. Surprisingly, Youngsu tells Mujin that he is free to take the screen if he wants. Without hesitation, Mujin agrees to take it, and Youngsu cannot believe just how greedy Mujin is. Once they are done loading the treasure into Youngsu's carriage, Mujin tells him that he will be taking the carriage because he surely does not need it again. Youngsu has no objection to this, and he tells Mujin that he can take it. With this, Mujin and the four demons ride away, while Mujin tells Youngsu to make sure he lives a righteous life. Mujin lets him know that he is going to see him again another time, but Youngsu prays that they don't see each other again because he has basically robbed him of everything he has. Youngsu starts wondering what he did so wrong that he had to run into a lunatic like Mujin. When they finally arrive at the Hua Clan Manor, Masok freaks out. He starts asking Mujin where he got all the money from because he is convinced that he killed for it. Mujin assures him that he didn't kill to get the money, but he urges him to keep the money, since they were running short of funds. Mujin then asks Masok if the four demon brothers look old to him, and Masok mentions that with everything he is seeing, they are well past 40 years. Mujin smiles when he hears this, saying he is going to tell the four of them this. Mujin then asks Masok where Joe and Du are because he has not seen them since he got back. This is when it dawns on Masok that the two are currently hosting important guests in the reception hall. Masok tells Mujin that they already told him to bring Mujin the moment he returns. Mujin is shocked when he hears that they have guests, and he immediately assumes that another scammer has shown up, but Masok clears the air, saying he is wrong. He also urges him not to beat up the guests. Mujin then makes his way to the reception hall, where the elders excitedly introduce him to the three merchant group leaders, who have been supporting the clan during difficult times. The first merchant leader introduces himself as Peng Quano, leader of the Pungyang Merchant Group. The second dude is Dong Guanyo, leader of the Muryong Merchant Union, and then the third dude is Huang Yocheong, the Golden Finance Manor Master. The trio expresses their joy that Mujin is back to his healthy state, and Mujin returns the courtesy. After some minutes of sharing insights and tea, Mujin asks them if they are there to collect the debts that the clan owes. This comes as a shock to the trio, and they let Mujin know that they have no intention to pressure him for repayment because they only came to congratulate him after they heard he had awakened. They even apologize if it seems they have caused him discomfort by coming. Mujin then tells the trio that he is grateful for their devoted support, but he lets them know that their repayment would be handled properly. Mujin mentions that he recently just gained his senses, and he is still not fully aware of the clan's current state. Because of this, he lets them know that he wishes to know the total debt that the clan owes their groups. Joe is surprised to see Mujin talking about repaying, but Mujin ignores him, and he continues with what he is saying. He tells the trio that they need to know the exact amount before they can discuss the repayment schedule, and the trio agrees to disclose the approximate amounts. As for the Pungyang Merchant Group, the clan owes them 5,300 gold. For the Golden Finance Manor, the clan owes them 3,200 gold. And lastly, the clan owes the Muryong Merchant Union 1,900 gold. After they are done disclosing the amount, Mujin totals it to 10,400 gold. Just then, the merchant leaders decide to say something that has been bothering them. They reveal that they have been under pressure from the Chonghua Merchant Group, and this surprises Mujin. The trio reveals that the Chonghua Group has been using their massive financial power to make things hard for them because they are stressing out the Hua clan for the debts they owe. In fact, the Chonghua Group has monopolized all their trading goods and cut off all the merchant groups that were dealing with them before. They even went to the most shameless part by stealing their branch managers. The trio is forced to admit that they no longer have the strength to endure the suffering. Apparently, they are being pressured to submit the rights to debt, which is why they had no choice but to speak up. Mujin then replies that he is thankful for all of their help so far because they were the only ones who stood by the clan while it was falling apart. Mujin lets them know that he understands that gratitude must be repaid properly, and he assures them that he is going to repay everything they are owed right away. This shocks the trio, and Mujin adds that in return for the interest and all the help they have rendered, the clan is going to free their groups from the grasp of the Chonghua Merchant Group. This shocks the trio, and they ask Mujin if he is trying to use force on their behalf. Mujin confirms this, saying this is exactly what he means. Du speaks up in fear, telling Mujin that the Chonghua Group is being backed by the scary Kongdong sect, which is one of the strongest sects within the entire Murim. The trio realizes that Do is freaking out, and they urge him to calm down, telling him that getting the debt repaid is more than enough because they don't want the Hua clan to clash with the Kongdong sect. They assure Du that their minds are now at ease, and while they are saying this, Mujin remains mute. After the meeting is over, the trio takes their leave, wishing the clan more success in the future. Mujin then tells Do to immediately gather information on the Chonghua Group, starting from their finances, operating regions, trade goods, and even their ties with the Kongdong sect. Do freaks out when he hears this, and it dawns on him that Mujin might actually be serious about what he said. Mujin is surprised that Do even thinks he is joking. He reminds Du that he already said grudges and kindness must be settled clearly. Mujin says the Chonghua Group will continue to be a pain in their arse if they allow them to continue operating. Mujin also adds that if they can't protect the merchant groups when they need it, they are not going to help them again. Because of this, Mujin is prepared to help them even if it is just once. However, he knows that the trio is going to dismiss the whole thing as the mad bravado of a lunatic. Just then, Mook shows up, telling Mujin that they have completed the task he gave them. Mujin is glad to hear this, and he tells the group to gather around so that they can greet the clan's elder and chief steward. Du and Joe almost faint when they realize that they are staring at the four demon brothers. The four pay their respect to the elders, asking them to look after them, but the two are too shocked to even reply. Mujin tells the two not to be too shocked yet, because there is something more shocking. He mentions that the four are younger than him, and the elders almost lose their minds. Even Masak, who is standing behind, doesn't want to believe his ears when he hears this. The brothers, on the other hand, wonder why the elders are freaking out because of them. The elders then ask Mujin why he brought in the four demon brothers without consulting them first. Mujin then throws it back to them, asking if they consulted him when they tried to sneak his siblings out of the mansion. Mujin then tells the elders that he holds the authority to make the four brothers stay or leave. He reminds them that he is the one who will become the next clan patriarch. Mujin then turns to Masak, telling him to go and buy a cow. Du is surprised to hear this, and he reminds Mujin that they have no money because they just paid out over 10,000 gold to the merchant groups. Mujin stays silent, and he simply takes them to the treasure room where they almost lose their minds. Mujin lets them know that he got everything from Youngsu, but he assures them that he didn't kill him. Du asks Mujin about the folding screen, and Mujin mentions that Youngsu claims that it is one of Jang So-san's pieces. Du almost passes out in shock when he hears this, and Mujin continues by saying the least they are going to sell the screen for is 90 gold, which is why he took it. Since there is money, Mujin tells Masok to stop talking and just go buy the meat. Meanwhile, Mujin knows that there is something wrong with the folding screen. The following morning, Mujin calls out his siblings, the 4 demon brothers, and the clan instructors. Mujin lets them know that he has come to the conclusion that they all need special training. He mentions that the foundation of swordsmanship is the body that wields it, and no matter how great the martial art is, it is useless if the body is weak. Because of this, Mujin lets them know that they are all going to start special training, which he is personally going to supervise. He then tells them that the sack of rice that is lying at their feet weighs 144 kilograms, and this will be their loyal training partner. Mujin adds that the rice is not food, and if he catches any of them eating it, they are dead meat. On the other hand, Dojin and Soyeon notice that their own sacks are about 15 kilograms at most. Cheolboin then asks Mujin what they are supposed to do with the sacks, and he tells them to hoist them onto their shoulders. Cheolboin is shocked to hear this, and another warrior complains, talking about how the sack is too heavy for even 2 men to lift. However, Mujin's countenance changes, and he screams at them to pick up the sack or else get trashed by him. He lets them know that his sword might not be enough to slice cleanly, but a hit from it would definitely break their bones. He lets them know that they have a choice of picking up the sack or sparring with him. Scared of Mujin's words, the warriors immediately pick up the sacks. However, Mujin tells the 4 demon brothers that they are to carry 3 sacks each, and if they don't want to, they are free to spar with him. The fear of sparring with Mujin pushes the 4 to immediately carry 3 sacks as their eyeballs want to pop out. The elders freak out when they see this, as they start wondering what it is that Mujin is trying to do. Mujin continues to motivate them as he lets them know that they have the strength to lift the sack as long as they have the right mindset. Mujin mentions that there is nothing impossible because only death awaits if they fail. Once everyone has picked up their sacks, including his siblings, he tells them to start sitting and standing. He lets them know that they are going to do this 200 times. Mujin makes the first move, and he tells the others to follow him as he screams out the order. The group screams as they try to maintain the stance, but Mujin continues to encourage them, telling them to tighten their stomachs and push up, or else they will die. Mook can feel his entire body crashing underneath him, but he knows he is dead meat if he can't endure it, because Mujin would simply beat him to a pulp. The elders start wondering what sort of training method Mujin has dedicated the warriors to, because watching it alone is exhausting. While they are sitting and standing, Mujin continues to motivate them, telling them that all they have been doing so far is wasting the clan's food under the pretense that they are martial artists. He lets them know that they have no right to complain about the training or anything else because they don't deserve to live if they can't endure just this little. By dusk, they finally reach 200, and one of them collapses the moment he makes the count. Mujin is not impressed that they had to spend the whole day just to warm up. He lets them know that their stamina is pathetic and that they don't deserve to be called martial artists. He then tells them that from that moment forward, they are going to become one with the rice sacks. He tells them to train with the sacks, eat with them, and even sleep with them. He mentions that the sack is their partner until he says otherwise. He then tells Jung to tie everyone to their sacks, and anyone who unties the sack would have their lives untied as well. Jung is so exhausted that he wishes he could see his mother's face. As Mujin makes his way to his room, tells Masik that from that day forward, everyone is to get beef for every meal. Masik then asks if he should prepare bathwater, but Mujin lets him know that he is going to tell him when he is ready. The moment Mujin crashes on his bed, he sleeps off immediately. That night, the whole group reports to the dining hall with their sacks tied to their backs while they eat. One of the warriors turns to his boss and mentions that his hands are shaking even though they only trained their legs. His senior lets him know that he is not the only one feeling this way. Apparently, this has never happened when they trained with their previous master, which makes it totally strange. The next day, the torturous training continues, and they are required to do push-ups this time around. Mujin makes sure to monitor their stance while they do the task he gave to them, even though he is also doing it. Cheolboin cannot believe that the warriors are all doing the push-ups, even though it is strenuous as hell. The following day, they take the training outside as they crouch around the village with the sack on their backs. The villagers watch in horror as they try to understand what it is that they are watching. The training still continues the next day as they push the sacks up and down. Even Mujin is feeling the pain, but he is impressed that his siblings are keeping up better than expected. He wonders if he should raise the difficulty, and the next day, he leads the group to a river with a mad current. The warriors are shocked when they see this, and while they are still doubting why they are there, Mujin tells them that their aim is to cross the river while carrying the sacks. The current alone scares the warriors, and to make it worse, There is a waterfall at the end of the river, which makes it even more dangerous. While the others are panicking, Soyeon is excited to participate in the grueling training. Suddenly, it dawns on her that Dojin can't swim, and she suggests that they tell Mujin about it. At the same time, the elders tell Mujin that crossing the river might be impossible because the current is too fast. They mention that people have died while crossing, not to mention those who are carrying heavy loads on their backs. Mujin smiles at the old men for worrying too much, and he lets them know that everything has been tested before they decide to proceed. The elders are confused because they don't know when Mujin tested the river crossing. Mujin just ignores them, and he tells the warriors that all of them are to cross the river or fight him. The moment the warriors realize what is at stake, they start jumping after Mujin. Even Mook tells his comrades that it is better they fight the current rather than face Mujin. Before they know it, all of them are already jumping into the river. Even Dojin has no choice but to jump into the river, even though he doesn't know how to swim. Dojin is desperate to prove that he is also a warrior of the Manhwa clan, which is his motivation to jump in. However, the current is too strong and Dojin finds it hard to keep up. Before he knows it, he loses his grip and starts sinking to the bottom of the river. The elders see this, and they scream at Mujin, telling him that Dojin is being swept away. Surprisingly, Boyne goes after Dojin, and he manages to grab him before it is too late. He tells him to take a deep breath and hold on tightly to him because they are going to charge straight for the fall, since it is already too late. With this, the two fall directly into the waterfall and the elders scream out in fear. However, moments later, Dojin and Boyne emerge in the distance. Boyne commends Dojin, telling him that he did well, and Dojin thanks him for saving his life. Mujin shows up on the scene, asking Dojin if he is fine and didn't slam into anything. Dojin assures Mujin that he is fine because Boyne showed up at the right time to save him. Boyne, on the other hand, is shocked that Mujin showed up right after, leaving him to wonder when he had been following them. Mujin then tells Dojin not to push himself too hard because it would be bad if something were to happen to him. Dojin replies to his brother, telling him that he is ready to see this till the end because he can't stay a child forever. With fierce determination, Dojin mentions that he can only become a proper martial artist of the Manhwa clan if he stays strong. The next day, the warriors are required to climb a steep cliff with the sacks on their backs. The moment they reach halfway up, Mujin tells them to crawl up quickly because falling from their current position means certain death. One of the warriors, a brown-headed dude, concludes that Mujin is crazy and he should have stayed back, but suddenly, he loses his footing. He starts falling, but manages to grab onto one of the warriors. He begs the dude to help him, and he urges him to grab the rock in front of him. After this, the warriors run back to the manor because Mujin lets them know that whoever falls behind will have to carry him on their back. A kid watching the whole thing is forced to ask his mother if the warriors are death row criminals, but his mother lets him know that they are warriors of the Manhwa clan. Suddenly, Soyeon crashes to the ground, and Elder Jo rushes over to check on her. She appears to be exhausted, and she urges Jo to carry her. Elder Jo immediately carries her, and as they walk past the other warriors, they find out that Soyeon was only faking the exhaustion. Mujin realizes that some are not happy with this, and he tells them that they are free to collapse like a little girl, since they are all comparing themselves to her. However, he lets them know that whoever does so might as well just sign his death warrant. When they finally reach the manor, they all crash to the ground, totally exhausted. Just then, one of the warriors, who helped the brown head, walked up to him and scolded him for always lagging behind during training. He screams at him, asking him how long he plans to be a wimp. He tells him to stop dragging others back if he knows he doesn't have the strength to keep up. Just then, the dude mentions that he is doing this because Mujin threatened to kill them. Apparently, he has been meaning to quit the whole warrior thing a long time now. However, he is scared that Mujin might just kill him if he says he wants to quit. The dude then screams at him, telling him that he is scared of Mujin, which is why he has been lagging behind in training. The dude threatens to kill the brown head since he is not fit to be a warrior. However, Boyne cuts in, telling the giant dude that not everyone can be like him. The dude acts rudely and punches Boyne in the groin, telling him that he is just going to start by killing him. Mook then intervenes, telling the warrior to back off because Boyne is right. He mentions that the brown head is doing the best he can in his own way. He mentions that the brown head is also their brother since he has come to the clan too. The giant dude argues that there is no way they are going to become strong if they keep acting like a wuss, but Mook tells him that Mujin has been training a few years ahead of them, which is why everyone is supposed to take things differently. Mook then tells the dude that he can only say such hurtful things when he has managed to surpass him. The giant dude angrily walks away, telling the brown head that he is going to kill him if he ever causes him pain again. Later that night, the giant dude is leaving the toilet when he hears someone in the distance. He quietly walks over to find Mujin training with his sword in the middle of the night, all by himself. The dude is impressed at how fast Mujin's movements are, and it dawns on him that Mujin is way above his league, even though they are not far apart in age. Suddenly, Mujin notices that someone is watching, and he tells whoever it is to step out before he comes to find him. The dude has no choice but to come out of hiding, and Mujin asks him what it is that he is doing. The dude then replies that he was on his way back from the restroom and he ended up running into his training session. He promises that he has no intention of watching on purpose, and Mujin tells him that he was already getting bored with the whole training thing. He tells him to drop the rice sack and pick a sword. The dude is shocked to hear this, but he does as instructed. Mujin then orders him to come at him, and the dude dashes toward Mujin at great speed. However, Mujin blocks his attack pretty easily while holding his hand behind him. The dude continues to make a move, and suddenly he realizes that he has become faster than before. Mujin also notices this, and he agrees that the dude has gotten better, but at the same time, he believes that he is not focused yet. Mujin manages to get behind him, and he slaps him so hard in the back, knocking him to the ground. Surprisingly, the dude immediately gets back on his feet. Mujin comments on this, saying he once went down in one hit, but it seems his strength is now usable. Even the dude realizes that something has changed in him because he would have been rendered immobile if it was before. Mujin then commends the dude, and he tells him to get some rest. The following day, Mujin tells the warriors that they are going to be working on their abdomens that day. He instructs everyone to lift the rice sack between their legs and hang on to it. The first group does as instructed, while the others wait in awe. After they are done with this, they run into the village again. The brown head is about to fall off when the giant dude surprisingly walks up to him, telling him to endure because they are almost there. Mujin notices this, and he smiles because his teachings are working. A month later, Mujin gathers the warriors to tell them that the special training is over. He tells them that they are free to untie the ropes and set down the sacks. Just as they are about to start celebrating, Mujin lets them know that they are going to be doing this training every year during the summer and winter seasons. He informs them that the next training will be during the next winter, which is just a few months away. However, he lets them know that it would be easier, since they have already experienced it once. Mujin basically tells them that they have come to the end of the training, but he reminds them that a strong body becomes a strong sword. However, he tells them that it is time for him to conduct a personal sparring training with them to deepen their experience. He tells them to step forward once he calls their names. And just as expected, they were all beaten senseless. But the pain brings experience, which in turn brings new change. With this, the 4 demon brothers were fully inducted into the clan as instructors. Just like that, the clan gradually began to regain its former glory, which once was a beacon in Xicheng. Later on, Du watches as Dojin spars with one of the instructors, and surprisingly, he is holding his own. The elders are happy to see that Dojin has also regained his happy face. They are glad that the 4 demon brothers have settled in, and this is all thanks to Mujin coming back to his senses to stabilize the clan. Du mentions that things are going so well that he is even scared. Apparently, Mujin has been stuck in the storage room for some days, and they wonder when he is going to finally come out. Unknown to them, Mujin is having a mental battle with the folding screen. Mujin notices that the stronger he pours out his inner energy, the more powerfully it pushes back with an even stronger force. However, he is excited to see who will give up between him and the folding screen. Days later, the folding screen finally expended the last of the energy in it, giving Mujin a way to force through. Mujin then walks up to the mirror and presses a button, which releases a bottle that contains a greenish substance. The smell from the bottle is bad, and Mujin admits that the person who installed the device in the screen is truly strange. Mujin finally realizes why he was feeling like some weird poisonous energy was leaking out. Suddenly, a book falls out of the folding screen, and Mujin picks it up. To his surprise, it is a manual on mind-severing sword art, which is what they were trying to hide on the screen. Mujin immediately sits down to study the book, but in the end, Mujin is left disappointed. He figures out that everything in the book is on par with one of Hubei's 10 great martial masters. Even though he is disappointed, he doesn't think it is a complete waste of time. He notices that the way the owner used the cultivation method is different from him, who uses the movement arts. Mujin figures out that the art is going to suit the Flame Hua clan much better. Basically, the reason he hasn't been able to teach the warriors swordsmanship is that there is a difference in his fundamental cultivation method and theirs. Apparently, the foundation of the Peerless Nine Swords is movement arts, while the foundation of the Flame Hua clan is Yang energy martial arts. It is important to note that the two energies have conflicting properties, which means recklessly mixing them might lead one into energy deviation. This is the major reason why the Peerless Nine Swords must only be passed on to a pure beginner with no prior sect. Mujin figures out that he was just lucky that the body he reincarnated to already had its energy core destroyed, which was why it was left in a perfect state of nothingness. Thanks to this, he was able to build up movement arts easily without any problems. Mujin smiles at the book in his hand because he knows this is about to become the sword art of the Flame Hua clan. Shortly afterward, Mujin takes the book to the elders, telling them to read it. The elders freak out when they realize what it is that they are holding. They tell Mujin that it was the original text of the mind-severing sword art that was lost more than 10 years ago. They can't believe that such a high-level martial art was stuck inside the folding screen. Mujin mentions that Youngsu most likely doesn't even know that it was there. Du then asks Mujin if he really wants to teach the martial arts to the warriors, and Mujin reminds him that the clan doesn't have a proper swordsmanship martial art, so it is basically their luck. Mujin mentions that starting from the next day, he is going to start teaching the warriors, but he is not sure the instructors will be ready to learn it. Mujin then walks off, telling them that he needs to sleep, but he tells the elders that they are free to copy it if they are also willing to learn it. The moment they hear this, they start celebrating like fish that just found water. Not only this, but the warriors also celebrate like they just won the lottery when they were told about the martial arts. In the past, the clan had lacked a martial art that they could call their own. Since this was a high-level art, it made the warriors bound even more tightly. Just as expected, Dojin and Soyeon also excitedly jumped on the wagon. However, the four demon brothers only focused on their own martial arts because they were already training harshly in their own way. Mujin is confident that without the mind-severing arts, the four have what it takes to rise through the ranks of martial arts. Before they knew it, another month had passed. Mujin steps into the yard and he is surprised to find it empty. Mujin then asks Masok where everyone disappeared to, and Masok mentions that the sparring tournament, the Little Dragon Ascension tournament, is being held. Mujin is confused when he hears this, and Masok assumes that he forgot. Masok mentions that this is Shichang's biggest event, which is held once every 5 years. Apparently, the winner gets the right of qualification in the Orthodox Murim tournament. The moment Mujin hears this, he leaps off into town without even asking Masok where the event is being held. Mujin tells Masok that he should have told him about something like this, and he is pained that the old men are trying to enjoy the good show by themselves. Meanwhile, Joe and the kids have arrived at where the tournament is being held. They are registering their names when a rude dude shows up. It turns out that the dude is the chief steward of the Baek clan, Jang Si-yoon, and he is there with the representative of the Baek clan, Baek Sayon. Jang expresses his shock at seeing Joe and the Flame Hua clan at the tournament. Joe ignores the dude's rudeness and humbly greets him. However, the dude just continues to talk down on the Flame Hua clan. He mocks them, saying he is surprised that they even have the entry fee to pay for the tournament. He asks Joe if his clan has something to eat after they are done paying for the tournament fees. He also asks if they have paid the membership fees that they have been owing for 10 years. Jang mocks Joe for bringing the kids, saying they look like kids who are about to starve to death. At this point, Dojin and Soyeon are already getting pissed off too. Meanwhile, Mujin is lost in town, and he regrets not asking Masok where the event is being held. He looks into the distance and concludes that it is being held where the crowd is gathered. At the same time, two unique individuals, an old man and his granddaughter, are seen walking through town. The granddaughter is watching the beauty of the town when Mujin rushes past her, urging her to get out of the way. Mujin then stops in front of them, asking where the event is being held. Frustrated, Mujin turns to the lady, asking her if she knows where the event is being held, but the lady just stares at him scornfully. Mujin asks the lady why she is staring at him that way, and her grandfather cuts in, telling Mujin that they are also wandering around looking for the venue because they are not from around there. The old man then tells Mujin to tell them if he manages to find it, but Mujin rushes off, telling them to find the venue themselves because they have legs too. Mujin then runs off like a crazy dude, and the lady asks her grandfather what might be wrong with Mujin because he has never seen anyone as rude as him before. The old man then mentions that it appears that madness has completely taken over Mujin. The moment the old man says this, it dawns on the lady that her grandfather is talking about Mujin, the grandson of Hua Jutai. The old man is glad that he came personally because something interesting is about to happen. At the entrance of the venue, the situation between Joe and Jang has gotten more tense. Joe tells Jang that the membership fees they owe will soon be repaid. Instead of Jang backing off, he still mocks Joe, asking which year he plans to pay the due. He even insults them alongside their secret arts. Tired of hearing the trash he is talking about, Joe reaches for his sword, telling him to refrain from speaking trash in front of the children because there is a limit to his patience. Jang then pulls out his sword, daring Joe to pull out his sword. Just before the two can get the chance to have a go at each other, Mujin shows up, telling them to back off because it is the kids' day, and it would be bad if the adults ruin it. With a stern voice and scary face, Mujin mentions that the day is for the children, who are the hope of Xichang. Mujin walks past Jang, and just like before, Jang starts insulting Mujin too. Mujin ignores him and walks over to his siblings, asking them why they didn't tell him that there was a special event going on. While Dojin is still stuttering, Soyeon steps up, telling Mujin that they wanted to win it so that they can surprise him. Mujin pats Soyeon on the head for her mentality, but Jang still can't keep his mouth shut. He mocks the clan for being poor, and Mujin lets him know that the most important thing in a clan is martial arts, not the level of their wealth. Just then, the old man from earlier shows up on the scene, commending Mujin for speaking his mind very well. The old man then turns to Zhang, suggesting that they put away their swords because it is a special day. However, Zhang tells the old man to mind his business because he is not from the Flame Hua clan. Zhang then continues by saying poverty is not something to brag about in a martial arts clan. He tells Mujin that he should have bought his siblings new clothes before coming to cheer them on. He makes it more hurtful by saying they must have spent all of the money on the entry fee. Du flares up again, but the old man cuts in. He mentions that there is no significance in dressing because dressing well doesn't turn a weak martial artist into a master. Zhang is frustrated about the old man always butting in, and he tells him to mind his business. Zhang finally decides to back off because he believes that he shouldn't be talking to paupers. Zhang says he would like to see if the clan's said training would pay off in the sparring ring. The old man notices the anger on Mujin's face, and he tells him not to allow Zhang's talk get to him because there are always guys like him everywhere. Mujin agrees with him and smiles. On the other hand, Zhou is staring at the old man, and he believes that he looks familiar, but he can't seem to place his face. Just then, one of the servants shows up to tell Mujin and his clan that they have prepared seats for them. Mujin steps into the arena, and he is stunned at how neatly they set the table with food. The kids are blown away by the food, but Mujin urges them not to overeat because they don't know when the sparring will begin. Surprisingly, the Baek clan is led to the VIP seat, and Zhang turns around to give Mujin a cold smile. This leaves Mujin wondering when exactly he is going to get the chance to beat the shit out of Zhang. In fact, he is already imagining himself beating Zhang by plucking out his eyes first. Just then, the old man shows up asking to sit with Mujin. Mujin wonders why the old man keeps following him around, but he tells him that he is free to do whatever he wants. The kids are about to start eating when Mujin communicates with them using a frequency whispering technique. He tells them to drop the food and not touch anything until he has eaten out of it first. The old man's granddaughter, Heir, shows up with a bottle of alcohol, and she pours some into his cup. The old man notices that Mujin is not drinking or eating, and he asks him what is wrong. Mujin simply replies that he just ate long ago. Moments later, the host, Seok Il-do, steps into the middle of the arena to welcome everyone to the event. Apparently, he is the head of the Seok clan, and he assures everyone that food has been prepared for them. Suddenly, Seok notices the old man where he is sitting, and he frantically rushes over to him. Seok bows his head to the old man, paying his respects to him. The old man is surprised that Seok recognizes him, and Seok mentions that there is no way he won't recognize the esteemed face of the Poison Emperor, Tang Sumun. Everyone freaks out when they hear the identity of the old man because of the position he holds. Apparently, there are only 4 people who held the title of emperor in the whole Central Plains. There is the Wudang Sex Sword Emperor, the Shaolin Temple Fist Emperor, the 4 Martial Heavens Whip Emperor, and the Tang Clan Poison Emperor. They can't believe that one of the strongest men in the Central Plains has just shown up at a small children's sparring tournament in Xichang. The moment Zhang hears this, he starts to panic because he already insulted the old man without knowing. While everyone is freaking out, Mujin remains calm because he knows the dude from his past life. He remembers that when the 10-year war with the Orthodox sect began, 4 of the great clans, excluding the Namgung clan, stayed out of the fight against the divine demon. The reason they didn't join the fight was that there was no good justification for joining the war. In addition, the heads of the said clans and their main fighting forces had been brutally dealt with by the divine demon. It turns out that one of the dudes who was there on that day was Tang Sumun of the Tang clan, who would eventually become the Poison Emperor. Seok tells Tang to follow him to the VIP seats, but Tang lets the dude know that he is fine where he is. Seok is shocked to hear this, and to try to please Tang, he tells Mujin that he is free to move his seats too. However, Mujin rejects the offer and suggests that they start the whole sparring event. Meanwhile, Tang can't take his eyes off of Mujin because the more he looks at him, the more he realizes that he resembles his friend, Mujin's grandfather, who held him up in his moment of despair a long time ago. Seok then tells Mujin that the event will start very soon, and he asks Mujin if he is interested in participating. Mujin is confused when he hears this, and he asks Seok what he is talking about. Seok reveals that he is talking about the Orthodox Murim tournament that is held once every 5 years, and since it is coming soon, he wants to know if Mujin is interested. Mujin simply replies that the tournament is not in his best interest, so he has no reason to participate. Out of nowhere, Zhang runs up to Tang to offer his greetings and also to apologize for what happened earlier. He tells Tang that he didn't recognize him, but Tang ignores him and continues with his drink. Tired of the whole noise and all, Tang puts his granddaughter to the task of getting rid of the brats. Hia gets on her feet, and she urges the group to go back to their seat because her grandpa doesn't want commotion. Seok then tells the old man that they are going to start the match right away. Before the match begins, Seok explains the match rules. He mentions that they can only make use of non-lethal weapons made of wood, such as wooden swords or wooden spears. In addition, The usage of killing strikes is also forbidden. He mentions that if a supervisor or official throws a blue pouch into the arena, it means the match is temporarily suspended, but a red pouch means the match has come to a complete stop. Once he is done going over the rules, he calls out the first participants of the day, Baek Sayeon and Soyeon. Soyeon is busy munching on a big portion of meat when she hears her name. Mujin then tells her that it is time for them to see how much she has improved. Sayeon, on the other hand, is confident that he is going to beat Soyeon senselessly. Soyeon also steps into the ring, telling Sayeon that he is about to become the stepping stone for her glorious ascension. Sayeon is surprised that Soyeon is speaking to him rudely, but Soyeon urges him to keep his mouth shut and stop saying trash. This pisses Sayeon off, and he lets Soyeon know that he is going to break her arms and legs for this. Using the whispering technique, Mujin asks Joe if they were always on the bad side with Jang and his people. Joe then reveals that it wasn't a major issue when the Flame Emperor was still alive, but after the previous clan head held the succession ceremony, a few vassals left and sought refuge with the Baek clan. Apparently, Jang is one of these sets of people. The more the clan declined, the more hostile they became. Mujin then asks them why they became a pain in the ass, and Joe reveals that they had a major clash with the previous clan head over differences in opinion. In addition, the Baek clan continued to grow as they took in more people from the Hua clan. Now in the arena, Sayeon dashes towards Soyeon, but she dodges his strike and kicks him in the chest. Before Sayeon can even recover from this, Soyeon has leaped into the air. She lands a knee blow to Sayeon's face, breaking his nose. Sayeon screams in pain and Soyeon stands over him, making fun of him because his nose is bleeding. Tang is surprised to see Soyeon using kick techniques, and he asks Mujin if he is the one who taught Soyeon this. However, Mujin mentions that it was Elder Joe who put Soyeon through such techniques. Hye then adds that Soyeon's athletic ability is high level too. However, she is interested in seeing how long Soyeon can hold out against an opponent with a sword. At the same time, Sayeon is raging as he screams at Soyeon, telling her that he is going to kill her. Sayeon dashes towards Soyeon, swinging his sword around, but Soyeon keeps dodging, thanks to her impressive agility. Hye is impressed at how Soyeon is able to dodge everything thanks to her movement art. At this point, Sayeon is getting frustrated, and he calls Soyeon a slippery toad. Before Soyeon knows it, she finds herself cornered by Sayeon with no space to dodge. Do and Joe freak out because they believe it is the end for Soyeon. Jang, on the other hand, is celebrating because he believes Sayeon finally has what it takes to finish Soyeon. Sayeon charges towards Soyeon with everything he has, but to everyone's surprise, Soyeon acrobatically leaps over Sayeon. Sayeon turns around with anger, telling Soyeon that she has been running around for a while. However, Soyeon lets him know that he just fell for her trap. Sayeon is confused by this, and Soyeon tells him that she finally has the chance to beat the living shit out of him because he is the one backed to a wall. Soyeon raises her leg with so much ferocity, and she dares Sayeon to block the attack with the dead wood he calls a sword. Before Sayeon knows it, Soyeon lands a powerful kick to his head, sending him to the floor in pain. The sudden change in the pace of the game impresses the elders, and they start rooting for Soyeon, while Jang is groaning in frustration. Sayeon tries to fight back, but Soyeon is just too goated for him, and she continues kicking him around like a ball. Before Sayeon knows it, Soyeon sends him flying, and even breaks his wooden sword too. Jang fears the worst, and he screams at the referee to throw in the blue pouch. By this time, Soyeon is already standing above Sayeon, ready to finish him off. However, the referee saves his ass. But instead of keeping his mouth shut, Sayeon starts talking trash again. He talks about coming over to the Hua clan and wiping all of them out. This is when Soyeon snaps, telling Sayeon that she has no intention of stopping since she has shattered Sayeon's sword. Sayeon tries telling her that the blue pouch has already been thrown in, which means the match is suspended. But Soyeon replies that this is none of her concern. Soyeon walks up to him, telling him that he is free to come to the clan later with all the warriors of his choice. But at the moment, he is so dead. Sayeon doesn't understand what is going on until Soyeon descends on him, knocking him to the ground. Tang watches in horror, while Mujin jumps up to celebrate, telling Soyeon that this is the way. Jang gets up to ask the referee why Soyeon didn't stop even though the blue pouch was already thrown in. However, Soyeon gets disqualified for hitting Sayeon after the match was suspended. The elders are disappointed, but Mujin is laughing like a maniac. As Soyeon returns to her seat, she shoots out her tongue in front of Jang to mock him. Soyeon returns to her seat, and the elders demand to know why she continued fighting, even though the pouch had been thrown in. Soyeon replies that she was aware, but she enjoyed beating Sayeon up rather than winning. Mujin laughs out loud, agreeing to his sister's take on this. Mujin doesn't stop there as he starts dancing like a turkey, as if his sister just won the tournament. Meanwhile, Jang is fuming with anger as he watches Mujin jump around in mockery. Mujin is so happy that he tells Tang that they should drink all they want. However, he lets Tang know that he will be the one to pay for it. Tang then asks Soyeon why she didn't use the clan's secret art because she would have easily won the fight. Soyeon replies that she didn't see the need to use the secret arts on trash like Seon because she was already beating him senseless without it. In addition, Soyeon believes that Seon might find a way to counter it if she uses it recklessly. Tang laughs out loud when he hears this, and this is because he agrees with Soyeon. Tang then ordered more liquor, and with this, their drinking party continued. Everyone in the arena was fixated on Mujin casually clinking cups with the Poison Emperor. Even though there were lots of matches going on, everyone was staring at Mujin and Tang. Even Seok was already growing irritated about the whole thing. Not long after this, the match between Dojin and Seok's rep, Chu Yong, comes up. Dojin leaves the table, and Mujin motivates his brother, telling him to give them hell. Tang is surprised when he sees Dojin go to the arena with a sword, instead of relying on the bare-handed technique. The referee starts the match, and Seok is confident that his prodigy will come out as the winner in the tournament. He is hoping that he would get Tang's attention with this, but Chu Yong's first move ends up being his last, as Dojin easily dodges him and lands a finishing blow to his head. Everyone watching is shocked when they see this because they didn't even understand what just happened. On the other hand, those in the Hua corner are celebrating Dojin's win. Even Tang is impressed by the swordsmanship that he just witnessed because he didn't know the Hua clan had such a technique. Mujin then reveals that the swordsmanship displayed by his brother isn't merely a sword technique with good efficiency, but it is a sword technique that contains the principles of advanced martial arts. The people are confused when they hear this, and Mujin jumps up from where he is, showing everyone the martial arts book of the mind-severing sword art. Everyone almost goes blind thanks to the incredible energy coming out of the secret manual. Mujin then makes a bold move of telling the crowd that whoever wants to learn the art is free to join his clan. He assures them that everything in the book will lead them to remarkable growth in martial arts. Just as expected, the crowd starts to go nuts as they all jump to tell Mujin that they are interested. Mujin then tells them that whoever is interested in joining should talk to Elder Do. Elder Do wastes no time whipping out his pen and telling all the interested parties to line up. Tang laughs out loud, saying Mujin is definitely living up to his reputation of being crazy because he has the guts to recruit members in the middle of an event. Meanwhile, Seok has lost his patience, and he wishes that Tang were not in attendance. Jung then walks up to him, asking him if he is seriously going to watch as Mujin and the Hua clan do as they please. Seok replies that Tang is watching and there is really nothing that they can do. Jung then mentions that he has a strategy, and this strategy involves them swapping the bracket so that they can bring in Seok Yoso. Thanks to the Hua clan losing its power in recent times, the Seok clan and the Baek clan started scheming to fill the vacuum with their own power. One of the ways they have done this is the Dragon Ascension tournament, which is being held every 5 years. They have basically manipulated the tournament bracket to make their apprentice martial artists win so that they can send them into the Orthodox Murim tournament to raise their group's name. Thanks to the group's power rising through this, they decided to monopolize the Little Dragon Ascension tournament to continue expanding their influence. When it is finally time for the final match in the top 32 for the tournament, the referee introduces Seok Yoso as the contestant against Ban Yeowol of the Half Moon sect. Apparently, whoever wins the match is going to face Dojin in the next round. Suddenly, Joe notices that Yoso is not supposed to be participating. Joe mentions that he is the champion of the previous tournament, and there was news that he had entered the Diankong sect to train. Even his opponent, Ban, is shocked when he sees Yoso, and he asks him why he is participating. Ban mentions that the tournament only allows participants up to 14 years old, and Yoso confidently replies that he is aware of this. Yoso mentions that he is 14 years old, but Ban replies that he is lying because he is already 15. However, Yoso didn't allow Ban to finish his statement before going after him. Yoso knocks Ban to the ground pretty easily, making him the winner of the match. Yoso proudly talks about how his birthday hasn't passed yet. Joe is pissed when he sees this, and he wants to intervene, but Mujin tells him to leave it, because Yoso is the best opponent that they can ask for. Not long after this, Dojin steps into the ring to face Yoso. Tang notices the change in the atmosphere, and he figures out that this is a finals match in advance. Even though Dojin seems to be at a disadvantage, the elders and his sister encourage him, telling him that he can win. Mujin, on the other hand, wears his serious face as he tries to understand the situation. Yoso then tells Dojin that the sword technique that he used got his brother eliminated. Dojin asks him if he is trying to get revenge, but Yoso tells Dojin to stop saying trash. Yoso mentions his plan to make sure that Dojin doesn't use the sword again. Without wasting time, Yoso charges at Dojin with the 12 radiant sword strikes, forcing Dojin on the defensive. However, Yoso continues pushing forward, making life difficult for Dojin. Tang assesses the situation, and he easily figures out that Dojin is going to have a difficult time dealing with Yoso. Meanwhile, Seok is glad that Yoso is beating Dojin up because he wants to prove to the Emperor that they are superior. Yoso swings his sword hard at Dojin and mocks him for losing his balance. Just then, Yoso gets the drop on Dojin, and he hits his hand with his sword because this is what he has been waiting for. This hurts Dojin so hard that he crashes to the ground in pain. Yoso is about to finish the fight when Mujin throws in the blue pouch to stop the fight. Yoso smiles, believing that his victory is already secured. Mujin calls Dojin out of the arena to check his hand, and he realizes that Yoso intentionally targeted the joints. Mujin helps Dojin to rearrange them a bit, and Dojin screams out through the entire process. After he is done, Mujin tells him that he has set the bones, but it might be hard for Dojin to use the sword. He asks Dojin what he plans to do, and Dojin tells his brother to tie his hand to the wooden sword. Mujin is impressed when he hears this, and he goes ahead to do what Dojin requested. Once he is done, Dojin returns to the arena, looking more determined than before. Tang commends Dojin's bravery, and Mujin says this is the least Dojin can do because it's from a respectable martial arts clan. When Yoso returns to the ring, he expresses his surprise that Dojin didn't actually run away. However, Yoso lets Dojin know that he is about to do to him what they did to Mujin when he was young. Dojin is forced to ask Yoso what he just said, and Yoso leaps toward Dojin, talking about how he plans to make Dojin and his brother the new pair of crippled brothers in Xicheng. Dojin stays calm. He recalls his earlier conversation with Mujin, who had asked whether he truly wanted to win. Dojin answered firmly that he wanted to win and bring honor back to the clan. Mujin told him not to worry too much and assured him that he would make their clan the greatest in Xicheng. He then explained that the best way to win was to stay focused on the duel and wait for Yoso to use a sword technique. Once Yoso does, a small opening will appear in the center, and Dojin must strike without hesitation. Dojin follows his brother's advice, and the moment Yoso charges in with his sword technique, Dojin heads straight for his center. Before Yoso can get to him, Dojin strikes him first, leaving Yoso completely shocked. That single strike pushes him back, while Seok, the head of the clan, watches in horror as his plan to crush Dojin crumbles. Meanwhile, Mujin is quite pleased with this result, while Dojin can't believe he successfully landed a hit on the arrogant brat. As Yoso's back hits the ground, Elder Joe, Steward Do, and Soyeon excitedly cheer for Dojin. Yoso quickly recovers, but is pissed and starts hurling insults at Dojin, threatening to murk him. Seeing him already standing, Dojin worries that his strike might have been a little too weak. Yoso then threatens to end him, but before he can finish his sentence, a red pouch strikes him in the face. Furious, Yoso demands to know who threw the pouch, and Mujin casually responds that he did it. Mujin commends Dojin for doing a good job and forfeits the match on his behalf. Seok is surprised to hear this and questions his decision, but Mujin explains that he doesn't plan to stake his brother's life on some petty tournament. With that, he signals for his family to leave so that they can get Dojin's hand treated quickly. Just as they're about to leave, the Poison Emperor Tang asks to follow Mujin home for a drink. Just as his granddaughter Hye is about to stop him from going to a stranger's house, Mujin casually agrees to let them come. As the group leaves the tournament ground, everyone is surprised that Mujin withdrew from the match. They are even more concerned that the Poison Emperor was leaving with him. Yoso curses under his breath that his opportunity for revenge had been ruined. Seok is even angrier as he watches them leave after humiliating him. Meanwhile, in the streets of Xicheng, heads turn as two troublemakers troop in with Death Black Crow, whom Mujin previously defeated at the Bangho sect. Mujin had asked him to bring all his assets, but Black Crow came back for revenge instead with Yohang from the Sosul sect. Yohang swears to teach Mujin a lesson and assures Black Crow that he has nothing to worry about since they came with a member of the Crimson Sword sect. With such a backing, he believes that no one in Xicheng can stop them. The dude from the Crimson Sword sect, Sugong, also backs Yohang's claims, making him very confident. They soon arrive outside the Hua clan estate, and Yohang destroys the huge estate gate with a single kick while feeling quite smug. Masuk freaks out when this happens and asks them why they broke down the gate. Yohang is pissed that a mere servant dares to question him, and his deadly look almost causes Masuk to flatline on the spot. Just outside the estate, the four demon brothers, now the martial instructors of the Hua clan, are happily returning home after stuffing themselves. They are puzzled when they notice that the gate of the estate has been torn down. Cholmuk thinks it might be because the wood is rotten, but his eyes widen when he enters to find Masuk under Yohang's feet. Yohang continues to mouth off proudly, and despite the four brothers' arrival, they remain unmoved. Jungtae wonders what they're doing while Cholmuk remarks that it doesn't look like a voluntary bowing ceremony. This cracks Yohang up, convincing him that Mujin must have recruited a bunch of big dum-dums. This pisses Dongjiak off, and he angrily challenges them to a fight. At the same time, Black Crow tries to recall why the four brothers look so familiar, but before he can figure it out, the four brothers pounce on them like predators. A few moments later, Mujin and the others return to the estate, stunned to see Yohang and his crew completely crushed. Cholmuk quickly explains the situation to Mujin and how the intruders beat up Masuk. Just then, Masak rushes towards Mujin crying, but as usual, Mujin keeps him at arm's length while he asks about the identity of the intruders. However, he notices Black Crow amongst them and recalls that he was supposed to bring all his assets as compensation. Knowing he messed up big time, Black Crow begs Mujin to forgive him, but Mujin ignores him. Mujin then questions Sugang, asking if he came to help Black Crow get revenge. Instead of responding, Sugang smugly introduces himself by some terrible nickname, but Mujin is only interested in whether he has money to pay for his life. When Tang learns that Sugang is from the Crimson Sword sect, he asks him if it's a part of the Four Martial Heavens. Sugang almost craps his pants when he realizes that Tang is the notorious Poison Emperor. Tang is furious that the Crimson Sword sect dares to set foot on Sichuan land to strong-arm an orthodox clan, which can be considered a declaration of war. Enraged, he unleashes his terrifying emperor-killing intent, almost crushing everyone with the pressure. Elder Zhou quickly shields Dojin and Soyeon as Tang's killing intent causes the ground to shake violently. Sugang, on the other hand, begins to tremble as he wonders why Tang is backing the Hua clan. Basically, Tang is one of the strongest dudes in the current martial arts world, and Sugang knows that if they offend him, their whole sect will be completely crushed. He quickly bows frantically, slamming his head to the ground and apologizing to Tang. Sugang's sudden switch in behavior shocks Yohang and Black Crow. However, Tang continues to rage and threatens to show them the might of his Tang clan. He even threatens to annihilate their 9 generations after he's done with them. Sugang continues to beg, but before Tang can make a move, Mujin stamps his feet, dispelling his killing intent. Hia is shocked speechless as she wonders how Mujin stopped her grandfather's powerful killing intent so effortlessly, but even Tang is a bit surprised by this. Mujin then warns him to stay in his lane, reminding him that he doesn't run the Hua clan. Hearing this, Tang bursts into laughter and apologizes for overstepping. Mujin then tells Zhou to take Maesok and the kids to the clinic. Zhou quickly does as he is told, but Soyeon and Dojin are not too happy that they can't watch the fun. After making sure that they've left, Mujin prepares to torture Sugang for beating up Maesok and smashing their so-called precious oak gate. He stabs a small wood into Sugang's shoulder, asking him if he knew how precious that gate was. Mujin then twists the stick further, explaining that the gate was made with an ancient oak tree, and it carries his grandfather's spirit. As Mujin continues to torture him, Sugang quickly confesses that he wasn't the one who destroyed the gate. However, Mujin doesn't care because Sugang was still an accomplice. Mujin then tells him to pay 10,000 gold as compensation, but Sugang protests the absurd extortion. Dongjok and Chulmuk are shocked that Sugang dares to raise his voice in front of Mujin. To show Sugang that he means business, Mujin twists the stick further, making him immediately agree to pay up. Once he agrees, Mujin pulls out the stick and turns to face Yohang, who trashed his precious gate. Yohang hurriedly apologizes, and Mujin tells him to pay 20,000. Yohang agrees without hesitation, and Mujin turns to face Black Crow next. Black Crow begs Mujin to spare him and promises to do as he was told, but Mujin ends him on the spot, refusing to give him a second chance. He then orders Sugang and Yohang to liquidate Black Crow's property and bring it to him the next day. A few days later, Hua Clan estate buzzes with activity as Steward Do oversees the repairs. They were rolling in money, so they replaced the gate with an actual expensive oiled oak and replaced every worn-out material in the estate. Mujin was quite pleased with their new look, and more martial artists enrolled to take the clan's warrior test. This is because Mujin had promised to teach them advanced martial arts, while also giving them a stipend. Everything was going smoothly for Mujin, except for the fact that Tang and his granddaughter decided to become regular visitors at the estate. Mujin can't understand why they turned his home into their personal tea parlor. Fed up, he questions Tang about it, but all he gets from the old man is a casual laugh and cracking jokes, annoying Mujin further. Tang tells Mujin that he enjoys the Hua estate because it's full of life and activity, which makes enjoying tea there better. Getting more serious, Tang then asks Mujin if his energy wielding is from movement arts. After a brief pause, Mujin replies that it is, and Tang begs for his understanding. Before Mujin can figure out what he means, Tang suddenly attacks him. Mujin manages to block the strike, but Tang continues to attack while he tries to stop her grandfather. Steward Do and Elder Zhou are stunned and wonder why they're fighting. Tang soon unleashes his poisonous explosive punch, but Mujin uses Chi Destruction from the Peerless Nine Swords' third form to dispel the attack. Once the dust settles, he realizes that the attack wasn't poisonous after all. Meanwhile, Tang finally confirms his suspicions that Mujin's swordsmanship is the Peerless Nine Swords technique. Mujin is surprised that he knows about it. Tang tells him that he can never forget about it after witnessing it once. He apologizes for attacking Mujin and explains that he just wanted to confirm the technique. He then invites Mujin to sit for a chat, but Mujin finds the old man ridiculous. After getting Hia to pour him another cup of tea, Tang expresses his surprise that he was able to see the Peerless Nine Swords again. He then asks Mujin how he knows this sword technique, but Mujin refuses to answer until Tang tells him how he recognized the sword technique in the first place. Tang explains that he first saw it a long time ago while fishing with his grandfather and brother. Back then, poison martial arts was popular, and Tang's grandfather made a name for himself. He was known as the Heavenly Poison Emperor, and although retired at the time, he was known as a master during his prime. That day, while they were heading out, a swordmaster appeared out of nowhere and challenged Tang's grandfather. Tang and his brother rushed to hide while the two men clashed fiercely. The Heavenly Poison Emperor used the Poisonous Explosive Punch, while the Swordmaster used the Peerless Nine Swords technique, Qi Destruction. Tang was amazed, which is why he could never forget that sword technique. Though he was hoping for his grandfather to win, the way the Swordmaster easily defeated the so-called strongest emperor left a mark on Tang. After the clash, the Swordmaster left quietly, and all Tang could do was watch because he was too young. However, after that day, the words Peerless Nine Swords remained in his memory. After narrating the story, Tang asks Mujin if that was the Swordmaster's name. Mujin replies that it is not and explains that it is simply the name of the sword technique. Tang then asks Mujin if he's a disciple of that Swordmaster. Mujin explains that although he inherited the sword technique, the Peerless Nine Swords Swordmaster is not officially his master. Tang finds the whole connection a bit confusing, but Mujin tells him that he can't reveal some details. However, he plans to find an heir later to legitimately teach the sword technique. Afterwards, Tang apologizes again for attacking him, and Mujin then asks if he knows anything about swordless marks. His eye widens when she hears this, but Tang claims he has never heard about it. Mujin doesn't press any further and decides to leave, but Tang stops him. He reveals that he has been frequenting the Hua estate to find out what Mujin thinks about his granddaughter. Hia is shocked to hear this, and Mujin feigns confusion at the question. Tang teases him for being sly before asking what he thinks about taking Hia as a wife. Steward Do and Elder Zhou are delighted to hear this, while the four brothers begin to celebrate early. Mujin, on the other hand, is rendered completely speechless while Hia, who was protesting a moment ago, blushes as she waits for an answer. Tang asks Mujin again, and Mujin struggles to respond as memories of Yonhwa from his past life fill his mind. He then tells Tang that he has no intention of marrying anyone in this life. Hia's eyes widen when she hears this, but Mujin doesn't stop while he's ahead. He further adds that Hia is not exactly his type, and this infuriates her. She quickly fires back, telling him that she's not interested in him either. Tang studies Mujin for a while and questions if he's into men. Mujin is furious that he even considered that, but Tang explains that no straight dude can reject a catch like his granddaughter. Mujin lets him know that everyone has a type and tells him to respect his decision. This only infuriates Hia more while Tang tries to figure out what is wrong with Mujin. After Mujin leaves, Hia scolds her grandfather for embarrassing her and tells him to let it go. Tang reminds her that she was also looking forward to Mujin's answer, but Hia denies it. She swears that she never wants anything to do with an arrogant brat like Mujin again. Since Hia claims she's not interested, Tang decides to bring his younger granddaughter, whom he claims is gentler and has a better attitude than Hia. He tells Hia that Mujin is a great catch and he doesn't plan to let him slip away. Annoyed, Hia tells Tang to just stay with Mujin and angrily walks away. Later, Mujin heads to the clan's training grounds to meet the over 200 new martial artists who want to join their clan. A few moments later, Mujin introduces himself to them and lets them know that he doesn't care why they came, but they must train to become strong and loyal. He explains that the clan's warrior selection test will be the hardest trial they will ever face and lets them know that they can freely quit midway. However, he promises to reward those who endure until the very end. Mujin then introduces them to their martial instructors, the four demon brothers who will be responsible for their training. Afterwards, he wishes them luck and hopes to meet them still breathing the next time they meet. After Mujin leaves, Chilmuk introduces himself as their senior instructor and orders them to carry a sack of rice on their back. This causes an uproar amongst the recruits as they begin to ask questions and protest. Chilmuk then tells them that the only way to skip the training is to defeat him and the other instructors in a duel. He adds that anyone who wins will automatically be given the position of an instructor. Hearing this, several of them immediately decide to quit, but Dongjok blocks them. They remind him that Mujin said they could quit freely, but Dongjok explains that the only way they can leave is in bandages. He then gives them a death stare and asks them to choose if they want to continue or leave in a body bag. Terrified, the new recruits finally realize that they never had a choice the moment they stepped in. Without any better option, they decide to follow orders while the instructor continues to dish out threats just in case anyone still wants to defy them. Meanwhile, Mujin watches the whole thing from a distance, satisfied with the results. A few moments later, an injured man staggers into the Hua clan's estate, calling for help and asking to see Mujin. But before he can get past the gate, he collapses just a few feet away. Masak sees this and tries to wake him up, but he soon recognizes him as a deputy of one of the merchant groups. Later that night, Mujin checks on the injured dude, and Steward Do lets him know that the guy is out of danger. Apparently the injured guy is from a merchant group, and he brought news that the Cheonghua merchant group has been terrorizing other merchants. Some merchants who resisted were even beaten to death. Mujin tells Du that it's time to move up their plan to settle their grudge with the Cheonghua group. He instructs Du to tell Dongjok to handle the warrior test while the other brothers get ready to leave with him. Unbeknownst to them, Soyeon and Dojin overhear this, and Soyeon is very excited and plans to secretly follow them. However, Dojin doesn't want to, but after a little push from Soyeon, he agrees to go with her. A few moments later, Mujin, Cheolmuk, Nosak, and Jangtae set out for their adventure, while Soyeon and Dojin secretly follow them. Using their swift movement arts, Mujin and the group move quickly while Soyeon and Dojin struggle to keep up. Suddenly, they stop in a clearing and realize they're surrounded. Meanwhile, Soyeon and Dojin hide behind a rock, watching them from a distance. As more assassins emerge from the shadows, Mujin and his men realize that they've been ambushed. A fierce clash begins, and the assassins soon realize that they are no match for a monster like Mujin. At the same time, Soyeon and Dojin are speechless, especially Soyeon, who is just seeing real combat for the first time. She trembles as the stench of blood fills the air, even though they're a little far from the battleground. After taking care of the assassins, Mujin questions one of them and promises to spare his life if he reveals who hired them. Cheolmuk tortures the dude to make him more willing to talk. The assassin then reveals that they belong to the Death Forest faction and the Cheonghua merchant group hired them. Mujin is pissed to hear this because they're the same group that was hired to attack his siblings before. The assassin begs Mujin to let him go, and he agrees, leaving Cheolmuk confused. Even the assassin is surprised that Mujin is letting him go after single-handedly ending a dozen of his men. Mujin then orders him to pass on a message to his faction and warn them that he will end as many of them as dare to come. After receiving the message, the assassin hurriedly bolts just in case Mujin decides to change his mind. On his way out, he even passes by Soyeon and Dojin, but fortunately, he doesn't notice them. The two of them are about to head back home when Cheolmuk senses their movement and swiftly grabs them. After knocking some sense into them, they apologize to Mujin for sneaking out. Mujin scolds them for taking such a risk, especially if an enemy had spotted them first. He then shows them the corpses of the assassins to teach them that death happens to anyone without any warning. Mujin's little teaching moment seems to put some good old fear in Soyeon and Dojin's little minds. He further warns them that a single misstep can determine their life or death, as death is always lurking around in the martial world. Hearing this leaves Soyeon and Dojin terrified, and Mujin warns them never to act rashly again. They then decide to camp out for the night and return to the clan the next day. A few moments later, Soyeon and Dojin watch in horror as the demon brothers burn the assassins' corpses. The sound and the smell burn into their minds, leaving behind a memory they will never forget. Early the following morning, Mujin hands his siblings to Jangtae while he continues with the other two. He worries that the clan might be in an uproar when they notice that Soyeon and Dojin are gone. Mujin bids them goodbye, and after they leave, he tells the others to hurry since they wasted time because of the kids. Just as Mujin predicted, the whole Hua clan was panicking because of Soyeon and Dojin's absence. Maesuk is more confused because he confirmed they were in bed last night. Meanwhile, Jangtae questions the two siblings and comments that Soyeon must be the mastermind behind their late-night adventure. Soyeon confirms his suspicion, and Jangtae chuckles because he knows that she's the leader between the twins. Just as Dojin is about to explain how she roped him into it, a sudden cry for help echoes through the forest. They turn towards the sound to see some lecherous dude harassing a nun. The lecher enjoys watching her struggle as he boasts about how he already knocked out her companion. The nun continues to call out for help, and Jangtae tells the kids to stay back while he checks it out. However, he changes his mind when he sees the terrifying-looking dude. Sensing danger, he tells Soyeon and Dojin to hurry back home, knowing that they might get hurt if he tries to fight the lecher. The dude soon notices them, and Jangtae feigns ignorance, telling him that they were just passing by. Fortunately, the guy ignores them and gets back to harassing the nun. Unfortunately, Dojin decides to play hero, saving the damsel and angrily calls out the dude for being a shameless trash bag. It is at that very moment that Jangtae and Soyeon realize they're so screwed. After Dojin's provocation, the lecherous dude leaves the nun and turns his attention to Dojin, threatening to crush him. However, Jangtae swiftly steps in and tries to attack the dude, but he dodges effortlessly, leaving Jangtae puzzled. After their short encounter, the man realizes that Jangtae lied earlier and was actually a martial artist. Jangtae, on the other hand, struggles to stand after their little clash and notes that the lecher is a powerful martial master. He quickly instructs Dojin to take Soyeon and make a run for it on his signal. Jangtae warns him not to stop or look back and use the little movement arts he learned to run as fast as they can. After dishing out the instructions, Jangtae tells Dojin to leave while he charges forward again to buy them time to escape. While Jangtae struggles during the fight, the crazy dude seems to be enjoying every second of it, and a few moments later he practically wipes the floor clean with Jangtae while enjoying watching him struggle in pain. Jangtae notes that the crazy dude's swordsmanship is impressive and might even be above Mujin's level. But despite the obvious gap in their skills, he gives it his all. Meanwhile, Dojin, who is supposed to be running away, refuses to leave Jangtae behind. Just as the crazy dude is about to go in for the finishing strike, Jangtae's life flashes before his eyes. Still, all he's worried about is that Soyeon and Dojin will be next if anything happens to him. Fortunately, Mujin steps in at the last second and blocks the strike, saving his life. The crazy guy is shocked and clearly upset that his fun was interrupted. Meanwhile, Soyeon and Dojin brighten up as their savior, Mujin, arrives. Mujin wastes no time and jumps straight into the fight while Jangtae watches from a distance, but he quickly starts worrying when Mujin begins getting overwhelmed. Meanwhile, the crazy dude, excited that he has found a worthy opponent, ups his game as he unleashes his chain moon slash attack. Mujin, on the other hand, struggles to block his attacks. As the battle gets more intense, Mujin's men begin to worry that he might be getting overwhelmed. Chomuk, especially, is speechless by the dude's movements and wonders if he has some kind of divine weapon backing him up. Worried about Mujin's safety, he orders his brothers to prepare to help him with their full power. However, Jangtae stops them from making any move. He lets them know that this battle is beyond their league, and they might just get in Mujin's way if they try to interrupt. He advises them to watch Mujin's movement to understand that he has a plan. It turns out Mujin has been on the defensive, carefully avoiding every single strike just to read his opponent's technique. At the same time, the nun who was previously being harassed regains her composure and watches the clash from a distance. While the crazy dude rages on mindlessly like a madman, Mujin carefully studies his sword speed and movement with every strike. He also pays attention to the impact force of every hit, and in that very moment it finally clicks. By this time, the crazy dude has already noticed that Mujin has been skillfully evading all his attacks. After studying his opponent's technique, Mujin decides to apply it all to his sword form, just like his master taught him. Mujin's master once told him that the true power of the Peerless Nine Swords is only revealed when it clashes with a strong sword. Back then, Mujin had asked if the Peerless Nine Swords technique was stronger than his master's demonic spirit sword art. However, his master replied that the demonic sword art is only a little stronger. After recalling his master's words, Mujin smiles like a maniac, telling the crazy dude that he has comprehended all his sword strikes. The crazy dude is confused, but Mujin doesn't give him time to think as he finally strikes back, leaving him stunned. Mujin quickly overwhelms him in no time, finishing him off with a single strike. Soyeon, Dojin, and the demon brothers are left speechless as Mujin cuts down the previously powerful smug dude. Even the dude himself can't believe he was defeated by a young brat. Still, he tries to find out Mujin's name before he joins his ancestors, and Mujin humors him. When the dude hears his name, he recognizes him as the so-called mad dog of the Hua clan. With that, the crazy dude breathes his last with Mujin's name on his mouth. At the same time, Mujin curses him never to find peace, even in death, and to choose his battles wisely in his next life. Meanwhile, the other nun, who was knocked out, has regained consciousness and wonders what happened while she was out. She also heard Mujin mention his name and finds it a bit familiar. After racking her brain, she finally recalls that he's the crazy young master of the Hua clan, though she finds it hard to believe he is so strong. In the meantime, Mujin checks on his siblings to see if they got hurt. Dojin assures him that they're fine because Jangtae saved them in time. Jangtae wonders how Mujin knew they were in trouble, and Mujin explains that he simply had a gut feeling. He then asks them how they ran into such a lunatic in the first place. Jangtae explains that they were passing by when they saw the man harassing the nuns. He further adds that he planned to walk away since he was with Dojin and Soyeon, but Dojin had to play the hero, which pissed off the dude. Mujin is surprised to hear that his little brother stood up against such a powerful guy. Dojin immediately apologizes for making things worse, but Mujin commends him for being righteous. Dojin is stunned to hear his brother praise him, and this unlocks a core memory in his tiny brain. After helping her nun companion up, one of the nuns introduces herself as Ryong, a first-generation disciple of the Ma sect. She then thanks Mujin for saving their life, but Mujin ignores her introduction and asks her about the identity of the dude he just murked. He was asking because he had never heard about any powerful martial master around there. Ryong explains that the man was a peak martial master known as Crimson Moonsword. Apparently, he's from the Crescent Moon Sword sect of the Four Martial Heavens. Ryong further adds that he picked a quarrel with them, demanding to know the location of one of their junior nuns. He was a famous lecher, but Ryong didn't expect him to attack them out of the blue. After hearing Ryong's story, Mujin remarks that Crimson Moon's terrible attitude is definitely why his swordsmanship was garbage. At this point, he's fed up that everyone from the Four Martial Heavens is either garbage or trash. Ryong then thanks Mujin again for saving them and hopes to one day repay the debt. However, Mujin tells her to direct her gratitude to Jangtae and Dojin. He also lets her know that he didn't come here to save her. Ryong then thanks Dojin, leaving him blushing and feeling like Wonder Boy. Even though he claims he didn't do anything, Mujin looks at his little brother with pride. Afterwards, the group prepares to go their separate ways, and Jangtae continues with the twins while Mujin goes ahead with the other demon brothers. As Ryong watches her new hero leave, she can't help but be amazed that the rumors about his powers were true. This makes her wonder if things in Xichang are really about to change. Later that night, Mujin and his men arrive outside the home of the Pengyang merchant group master, Peng. Mujin's sudden appearance greatly surprises Peng, but Mujin reminds him that he has come to keep his promise. Peng immediately orders his servants to prepare a lavish feast for his guest. During the feast, he apologizes that they couldn't offer more because money has been tight for them lately. Mujin even remarks that Peng looks more weary because he must be having a tough time. Just then, the other two merchant masters, Dong and Huang, rush in, excited to see Mujin. They can't believe he made it all the way there without an army to protect him. They question how he made it through such a dangerous route in one piece. Mujin reveals that he actually dealt with more than 24 assassins and also took down a powerful lunatic named Crimson Moon Sword. The merchant masters are stunned to hear that Mujin took down the notorious Crimson Moon. One of them can't believe Mujin took down a lunatic from the four martial heavens. Peng, on the other hand, simply finds it unbelievable that Mujin survived such an ordeal. Meanwhile, Merchant Master Huang is just pleased that this will make Mujin's name more formidable. Afterwards, Mujin tells them everything, including how it started with the injured deputy leader who ended up on his doorstep. The merchants complain about Changhua Merchant Group's recent tyranny. Peng even fears that they may storm their private homes if left unchecked. Mujin then asks them to propose solutions since he only came to draw his sword if necessary. Since he needs a good justification to act against them, Mujin decides they should begin their plan with the nearby cloth street. He then gives them instructions on how to prepare for their grand plan. The following day, Chulmuk and Nosak head into the cloth street to carry out phase 1 of Mujin's plan. However, they're surprised to find the market completely empty and desolate. A few moments later, they notice a nearby stall and stop for some food. Suddenly, some dude tries to poach them to another restaurant while the owner of the food stall watches quietly, trembling. Chulmuk glances at the so-called good restaurant, where a bunch of mean-looking thugs are waiting. When he refuses to move, the guy turns hostile and tries to convince him some more. However, he quickly scurries away like a rat when Nosak angrily warns him to back off. He then reports back to his gang, after which the group returns and tries to convince Chulmuk and Nosak to move to their restaurant. Chulmuk calls them a bunch of clowns and tells them to back off, which only infuriates them. As the thugs begin to mouth off, Chulmuk is annoyed, and after trashing their big mouths, he sternly challenges them to a fight. After the provocation, the thugs immediately attack Chulmuk, but he effortlessly crushes them, and Nosak also does the same. While they clash, the shop owner trembles nearby as he watches his little stall get crushed. In tears, he reminds the thugs that they promised not to break stuff in the shops. A small crowd soon gathers to watch the show and can't believe the dudes who have been terrorizing them are getting crushed. Meanwhile, back at the Pengyang merchant group, Mujin writes a letter and gives it to Peng to deliver to the Tang clan. Peng agrees to send it quickly by carrier pigeon, but he can't help but marvel that Mujin has a connection to the Tang clan. Just then, Chulmuk and Nosak return from their fishing expedition with the thugs from earlier as their catch. They force them to their knees and order them to keep their heads down like hostages. Mujin commends the boys for a job well done. Suddenly, one of the thugs starts mouthing off as usual about his connections. But Mujin lets him know that he knows they're thugs from the Changhua merchant group. He then gives the dude a death stare, scolding him for daring to threaten his men in the first place. He further explains that their actions can be called a declaration of war. The dude quickly tries to explain that they don't want any trouble. But, just as he raises his head, he realizes that the person in front of him is Mujin of the Hua clan. The guy wonders why Mujin is there and why he has such an imposing aura around him. Mujin then demands to know the location of their boss, and it's at that moment that the guy realizes they fell into Mujin's trap. Chulmuk and Nosak went there just to provoke them into making a move to give Mujin the justification he was looking for. Since the thug doesn't plan on revealing his master's location, Mujin signals for Nosak to give him a little push. Nosak immediately cuts down one of the thugs to show them that Mujin means business, but the guy still refuses to talk and questions why Mujin is torturing them. He even adds that they don't have a boss, so Mujin orders Nosak to make the next guy's head roll. However, before Nosak can make his move, the dude decides to confess and begs Mujin to spare his life in exchange for the information. Mujin is pleased with this outcome and even gives him a pat on the head for being a good sport. Mujin then asks the guy again who his boss is and menacingly demands to know his location. Just the look on Mujin's face alone terrifies the guy. Somewhere in the Zigong Taishan Martial Hall, the Shaolin Grandmaster Hyunwoo Monk is shocked to hear about Mujin's recent conquest. He can't believe Mujin truly defeated the notorious Crimson Moon Sword of the Four Martial Heavens. His companion, the master of Taishan Martial Hall, Ilchong, excitedly confirms the news. He further adds that Mujin, who was born with the heavenly martial body, has become an impressive martial master. Hyunwoo is pleased with this news and mentions that his master, Hyegwang, was not wrong about Mujin. He also adds that Mujin's power is a great blessing for the martial arts community of the Central Plains. Apparently, Hyunwoo's master, Hyegwang, was deeply disappointed that he couldn't take in Mujin after he lost his powers. Ilchong is also pleased that Mujin's talent has finally seen the light of day. He also tells Hyunwoo that Mujin's siblings are exceptionally talented. Hyunwoo is surprised to hear that Mujin actually has more blood-related family members in the clan. Ilchong lets him know that Soyeon and Dojin showed off their talent at the just-concluded Little Dragon Ascension tournament in Xichang. He also reveals that one of them even managed to pressure a Daikang sect disciple who was 5 years older than them. Hearing this, Hyunwoo thanks Ilcheong for the tea and hurries off, looking suspicious. He plans to go on a journey to Sichuan. Elsewhere in the Ma sect, Jinhwa, the elder of the sect, drops by to check on Ryong's recovery before leaving the sect. Ryong wonders why Jinhwa is leaving the sect so late at night. When she asks if something happened, Jinhwa assures her that everything is fine. She explains that she's going to the Hua clan to repay Mujin for saving her sect members. She also plans to give his two siblings a small gift on behalf of the sect. Ryong is pleased to hear this as she begins singing Mujin's praise, calling him a hero among heroes. She also praises Soyeon and Dojin for being bright and smart. Jinhwa finds it amusing and teases Ryong for praising Mujin and his siblings for the 100th time so far. As she leaves, Ryong tells the elder to stay safe on her journey. She can't help but wonder what type of small gift the elder plans to give to Mujin's siblings. Back in the Tang clan, the Poison Emperor Tang receives Mujin's letter and decides to head to the Hua clan with his other granddaughter, Zhong. However, Zhong's father, the current head of the Tang clan, Zhong Chun, protests. He rejects Tang's plan to arrange a marriage between Zhong and Mujin. Zhongshan complains that his daughter is too young, but Tang reminds him that she's at the perfect age to get married. But Zhongshan wants Zhong's husband to marry into the clan. He fears that she might get mistreated if she marries far from home, so they need a live-in son-in-law. Tang scolds him for trying to ruin such a good marriage prospect and decides to ignore all his complaints. Zhongshan continues to bark and is even more pissed that Tang is heading to the Hua clan after receiving Mujin's letter. Tang ignores him, calling him a daughter-doting fool. On his way out, he runs into Hye, who offers to go with him. Apparently, Hye is just a granddaughter of the Tang clan's collateral branch. Tang is surprised that Hye is offering to go to the Hua clan and reminds her of how she acted as if she hated it there. Hye explains that she simply wants to accompany him since Zhong is too young and knows nothing about the world. Just then, Zhong chimes in, letting Hye know that she knows everything she needs to know about the world. She further adds that she doesn't want to be treated like a kid anymore. They then decide to go together, and Hye promises to show Zhong some of the good restaurants around the Hua estate. Zhong is pleased to hear this, and with that, the trio heads to Xichang. Elsewhere, Mujin and his men follow the thug into the pleasure district to find his boss. The pleasure ladies try to win them over, leaving the demon brothers, who are still wet behind the ears, flustered. Chilmuk blushes red, telling the ladies that he might be a little underdeveloped for their advances. This leaves the pleasure ladies quite confused, seeing as Chilmuk is practically a buff giant. Just then, the thug tries to sugarcoat the pleasure district and proudly tells them that it's the very core of the city. He explains that the pleasure district moved in after the cloth merchants gradually disappeared. And all this was done thanks to the operations of the Chonghua merchant group. Mujin is disgusted to hear this and lets him know that the so-called Chonghua group drove the merchants away in the first place to build such a place. Seeing the look of displeasure on Mujin's face, the thug feigns ignorance. Mujin then lets him know that he and his comrades played a crucial part in what happened to the cloth street. The thug quickly apologizes, saying he wasn't aware of it. However, Mujin tells him that he didn't know because he doesn't care how the merchants driven out are struggling to survive. Annoyed, Mujin abruptly ends the conversation and yells at the guy, asking if they're almost at his boss's location. The thug assures him that they're almost there, and a few seconds later he stops in front of a huge brothel. The brothel is known as Twin Flower House, and it is the biggest and most famous in Sichuan. Mujin is amazed by the magnificent building, which looks more like a king's palace. Upon entering the Twin Flower House, a thick fog hits them. While the demon brothers are more awestruck by the magnificent interior, Mujin finds the smell of the place suspicious. Just then, one of the girls tries to serve the thug but quickly sends her away. He then tells Mujin that his boss is upstairs, but on their way there, Nosak's head starts to feel foggy. This leaves him puzzled because he doesn't remember drinking any booze. Suddenly, he begins to see a special pleasure scene, leaving him flustered. Meanwhile, Chilmuk is also experiencing something similar as a damsel in distress begs for his help. She asks Cheolmuk to hold her and tries to seduce him, and unfortunately, he begins to fall for her trap. At the same time, Mujin is thrown into his own personal hell when he sees a pleasant lady who looks like Yeonhwa from his past life. Mujin can tell just from her voice, and his eyes widen in shock when he finally sees her face. While the girl tries to seduce him, Mujin struggles to break free from the illusion. Unfortunately for them, he easily breaks free and with a single powerful strike dispels the fog in the room. The explosion knocks his men back to their senses and causes a huge commotion outside. After dispelling the fog, he angrily orders the woman to leave and she scurries off, terrified. Chilmuk and Nosak finally come to their senses, confused about the whole thing. Chilmuk barks at the thug for not giving them a heads up and the guy quickly apologizes. Apparently, the brothel is filled with hallucinogenic smoke to make it more addictive for their targets. This infuriates Mujin as he angrily orders that the pleasure house be shut down at once. He also decides to burn it all to the ground when they're done. He then orders the thug to show them the way to his boss, and the guy complies. A few moments later, they finally find the so-called boss, who's also high on his own turf. Mujin immediately signals Nosak, who swiftly knocks him back to reality. After regaining his senses, the boss questions Mujin's identity, and Mujin proudly introduces himself. Mujin then asks for his rank in the Cheonghwa merchant group. The boss wonders how Mujin found his hideout and replies that he's the deputy chief steward. Mujin then tells the steward that he has 10 days to withdraw every single Cheonghwa merchant business from Songryu town. He also warns the deputy steward to stop all petty attacks against the Hua clan. The deputy steward questions why he should follow Mujin's orders and is puzzled because he has never done anything against the Hua clan. Seeing he's just a clueless pawn, Mujin orders him to pass on his warnings to his superiors. Mujin warns him again that he'll take it as a declaration of war against his clan if the Cheonghwa merchant group doesn't withdraw within 10 days. Mujin's threats terrify the deputy chief steward. Mujin also tells him that the twin flower house will be closed down immediately. On their way out, they set the place on fire to make sure it stays closed for business. That night, the so-called biggest brothel in town burns to the ground, causing a stir. As they head out, Mujin orders Chilmuk to prepare a messenger pigeon the moment they arrive. He plans to involve the remaining 2 demon brothers in his next plan. Back in the Hua clan estate, Jinhwa and Hyunwoo cause a commotion as they bicker about who should enter the estate first. Elder Joe tries to step in, but the 2 old geezers completely ignore him. They continue to bicker until Tang's arrival, causing them to stop. Tang wonders why they came, and the 2 old guys are also surprised to see him there. They question why he came, and Tang proudly boasts that he rushed over on Mujin's personal invitation. This makes Jinhwa and Hyunwoo, who were arguing earlier, unite against him. They protest that they came first, so their business should be the priority. However, Tang refuses to back down and reminds them that he's the Poison Emperor, so he has seniority over them. While the 3 powerhouses argue about who should go first, Joe sweats buckets, caught in between a fight that has nothing to do with him. He prays silently for Mujin to return before they tear down the estate. A few moments later, the trio finally settles inside the estate, and Tang enjoys his tea as usual, while the others quietly watch him. He then remarks that it's been a while since the 3 of them have gotten together. Hyunwoo mentions that it's been 5 years since they last saw each other. Jinhwa tells them that she never expected to see both of them in the Hua clan. She further expresses her relief that they both look healthy. Tang then asks why they came and boasts that he's close to Mujin, so there's no need to question his purpose for coming. Hyunwoo tells him that the Hua clan has a karmic bond with the Shaolin Temple. However, Tang replies that he has never heard of any such connections. Hyunwoo explains that his master was the first to discover Mujin's martial talent. Tang finds it laughable that such a petty reason can be considered a karmic bond. But after Hyunwoo quotes a Confucius verse, Tang decides to let him have the last say. He then asks Jinhwa if the Ma sect also shares a karmic bond with the Hua clan. Jinhwa tells him that her sect truly has a closer connection to the Hua clan than both of them. She explains that Mujin defeated the Crimson Moon Sword and saved 2 of her disciples. She further adds that she came to repay the debt. Tang questions how she plans to do that, and Jinhwa says she's offering something precious. She then reveals that she'll directly teach several secret arts of the Ime sect to the Hua clan. Elder Joe is stunned to hear, and as if that isn't enough, Hyunwoo adds that he came for the same purpose. He explains that he's been unable to find a worthy disciple, but after learning that Dojin possesses extraordinary martial talent, he decided to make him his disciple. Elder Joe is not too pleased to hear this news and considers blocking the 2 geezers from scheming while Mujin is away. Since the Hua clan has 2 siblings, male and female, Jinhwa notes that there's no need for them to bicker. Hyunwoo also agrees that they can each take 1. Tang reminds them that Mujin's siblings have already been initiated into the secret arts of the Hua clan. Therefore, taking them as disciples into an unorthodox sect is impossible. This is because for the 2 of them to enter the temple ranks, they have to sever their bloodline succession to the Hua clan. Tang sternly warns them that making such a big decision without the right authority present is a bit inappropriate. Sensing hostility, Hyunwoo quickly apologizes. He explains that the rules of the Central Plains are rather stiff. He then clarifies that Dojin doesn't have to enter the Shaolin Temple ranks. Hyunwoo explains that he simply wishes to teach him and leave a mark on the world. Despite that, Joe is still not comfortable with how they're discussing the future of the Hua clan without its head. This makes him quietly wish for Mujin to come back soon. Meanwhile, in the training grounds, the other two demon brothers finally receive Mujin's letter. After reading it, Dongjok tells Jangtae to prepare, as they need to leave right away. Just then, Hye suddenly calls out to them, asking when Mujin will return home. While Hye stammers for the words, Jeong hides behind her, a little scared. Meanwhile, the brothers, who have never even spoken to a girl, immediately freeze stiff, unable to say anything. Back in the Kongdong sect, the sect elders urge their sect leader to make a decision about the Cheonghua group's clash with the Hua clan. One of them says the sect needs to support Cheonghua since the group helped during their tough times. However, the sect leader refuses because they have no justification to interfere. One of the sect masters, Haechan, reminds him that their prized disciple Dobo, the son of the Cheonghua merchant group leader, was crippled by the Hua clan. Another sect master, Jo Kwon, argues that their sect should not meddle in personal disputes. He adds that they already showed support by sending a witness for the duel between Mujin and Dobo, so there's no need to do more. He also reminds them that the Hua clan is an orthodox sect, like the Kongdong sect. Therefore, they can't go to war against a fellow orthodox sect. He finally lets them know that getting involved will only bring great shame to the Kongdong sect. However, the sect leader Haewan doesn't want to completely abandon the Cheonghua merchant group. This is because the merchant group helped them in their time of need, so ignoring them now will be considered unrighteous. Haitian agrees with this while Jokun remains indifferent. But after considering it for a while, Jokun figures out a way to step in without offending both sides. He suggests they resolve the dispute between the two by sending a martial master to mediate without fighting. The sect leader agrees with his idea and decides to send their most skilled and trustworthy martial master, Jayul. A few moments later, Jayul meets up with Hoyan, the deputy group master of the Cheonghua merchant group. Hoyan humbly thanks Jayul for personally coming to help them mediate. However, to avoid any misunderstandings, Jayul warns him that he didn't come to be anyone's sword. He further adds that the Hua clan is a fellow orthodox sect, so he cannot raise arms against them. Hoyan assures Jayul that he understands and has already been briefed by the Kongdong sect leader. After laying down their cards, Jayul and Hoyan decide to set out on their peacekeeping mission. That night in the Pengyang merchant group courtyard, Mujin duels with Cheolmuk to test his progress. Cheolmuk fights with everything he's got, but Mujin easily overwhelms him. After punching him in the gut, almost causing the poor dude to pour his gut out, Mujin slams him into the ground. Meanwhile, two of the merchant group leaders watch the fight in awe. They can't believe that what they're witnessing is simply training and not a death match. Cheolmuk, on the other hand, is completely wiped out after getting his peaches whooped. However, Mujin praises him for improving his stamina and withstanding his crazy punch. Next, Nosak charges in with his spear to show how well he has progressed. Mujin swiftly dodges the attack and strikes back, but Nosak manages to block a few strikes. Mujin tells him he's too slow and decides to show him how a good ambush works. He suddenly appears behind Nosak, giving him pointers on how to move faster. Nosak complains that Mujin is just unreasonably fast, earning him a hard slap on the back for whining. After the training session, Mujin tells Cheolmuk that his movements are too stiff. He advises him to find a new and better way to be flexible. Suddenly, one of the merchant leaders rushes, looking flustered as he calls Mujin's attention to their unusual visitors. He quickly explains that representatives from the Cheonghua merchant group and the Kongdong sect have come to see Mujin. A few moments later, Mujin struts in like he owns the damn place. Before offering greetings, Jayul praises Mujin for upholding the proper orthodox spirit. After greeting Mujin, he introduces himself as the law pavilion master of the Kongdong sect. As he tells Mujin to sit down, an awkward silence descends on the room. Mujin takes his precious time to sit down, after which he introduces himself without bowing much. This irritates Jayul a bit as he quietly studies him, noting that Mujin is a bit of an arrogant brat despite being so young. However, Jayul understands that his arrogance is understandable since even a hidden dragon is still a dragon. Next, Hoyon introduces himself as the deputy leader of the Cheonghua merchant group. He then questions why Mujin wanted to see him. This question annoys Mujin as he realizes his warning wasn't taken seriously. Hoyon then angrily asks why Mujin has been harassing his merchant and businesses. Mujin finds this laughable and quotes an adage of the kettle calling the pot black. Fed up with Mujin's arrogance, Jayul chimes in, but Mujin completely disregards him. He taunts the Cheonghua merchant group for thinking they're so formidable that the Kongdong sect is their lackey. Both Jayul and Hoyon are shocked by Mujin's blatant disrespect. However, Mujin boldly questions whether they think bringing some so-called elder from the Kongdong sect can intimidate or make him bend the knee. Jaehyul is surprised to hear this and never expected Mujin to have the guts to say such words. Nonetheless, he turns to Hoyeon, scolding him for making him believe that it was a one-sided attack. Hoyeon denies this, saying he has no idea what Mujin is talking about, and Peng decides to explain what happened. He mentions that days ago, warriors from Mujin's clan were attacked by warriors from the Gui merchant group in the Fabric Street, and in the process, many of the Pengyang merchant group shops suffered losses from the fighting. Peng lets Jaehyul know that the fire at the Cheonghua merchant group's adult house was an accident that happened as a result of their visit to demand accountability for what happened to their merchant group members. Peng asks Jaehyul if he has no knowledge of these, and the question leaves Jaehyul dumbfounded. Hoyeon cuts in, claiming that the whole dispute was just a mere dispute between hot-blooded young people. Nonetheless, he wants to know if compensation is what Mujin is after, telling him that they have also suffered considerable losses at his hands. Mujin cuts in, reminding them that the whole area was originally the Pengyang merchant group's territory and location. Mujin lets the annoying dude know that there is no damage he suffered because they simply returned what was stolen to its rightful owner. As Mujin continues talking, he gets even more pissed about the whole situation, and he lets Hoyeon know that he is no different from a goat thanks to his annoying beard. Mujin then makes his demands clear, telling them that he wants the Cheonghua group to completely withdraw. And in addition, he wants the Cheonghua group to stop oppressing the three merchant groups through financial power. Hoyeon slams the table in annoyance, asking Mujin who he thinks he is that whatever he says can actually be put into consideration. He asks him if he knows how hard it is to run a merchant group because the whole basis of a merchant group is financial competition. Mujin cuts in, telling the dude that he is not even done talking and whips out a note, which he shows everyone on the table. He asks Hoyeon if he knows what the note is, and he proceeds to reveal that it is a confession document that they extracted from assassins hired on Cheonghua's group orders. At this point, Mujin is already getting angrier, and his face says it as he asks Hoyeon what gave him the guts to come after his younger siblings. Mujin lets the dude know that he's pretty bold to have come to the meeting to threaten him, and he tells him to give him just one reason for him to spare his life. Mujin's bloodlust overwhelms the entire room as he says this, and even Jaehyul feels it, which causes his body to start shaking. He never expected someone who is barely an adult to have so much aura that it would even shake him. Jaehyul then steps in, urging Mujin to chill out while turning to Hoyeon, asking if it is true that they sent assassins after Mujin's siblings. Hoyeon denies this, claiming that this is the first time he has heard something of such, saying a merchant group has no reason to send assassins after a martial artist. Realizing that Hoyeon is just going to keep denying what it is, Mujin lets them know that he is going to do things his own way. Hoyeon screams as if he is the most innocent man on the planet, telling Jaehyul that Mujin is just trying to frame them for what they didn't do. On the other hand, Jaehyul is regretting the fact that he and his sect got themselves into something way out of their league. Jaehyul tries to make the situation favorable for the Cheonghua group, telling Mujin that his sect and the group have been together for a long time, so it is pretty hard to believe that they are going to use such annoying methods. In addition, Jaehyul doesn't think they should allow a fight to happen just because of what some mere self-claimed assassin said. Jaehyul believes that they need more concrete circumstances, and Mujin figures out that the man is trying to tell him to find other evidence to support his claim. Mujin lets him know that he has no issue with this, but he has one condition, and this is the fact that the Cheonghua group must withdraw immediately, assuring them that if this is done, there will be no need for conflict. Hoyeon is completely overwrought with pride as he believes Mujin is not all that since they have the Kongdong sect backing them. Hoyeon then speaks up, rejecting Mujin's offers, saying they cannot withdraw their business over Mujin's claims, and Mujin lets them know that he is done talking if this is the case. Mujin gets up to leave, telling Hoyeon that they will see if he is still going to be able to maintain the same pride in some days. As he prepares to leave, Jaehyul stops him, telling him that the Kongdong sect's image will be tarnished if he leaves that way. Mujin lets the dude know that he doesn't really care about this because Jaehyul was the one who refused the proposal, so he should face him and tell him that. Mujin also tells Jaehyul that the Kongdong sect has to withdraw from mediating in the conflict while letting him know that there is nothing the Kongdong sect can do. Mujin mentions that he can't believe that the Kongdong sect is defending the Cheonghua group while talking of justice and fairness. Mujin says all they are doing is ordering weaker sects around like children, and he lets Jaehyul know that he is not one of the weaklings they can do such to. Mujin ends his statement by letting the dude know that his trip was a waste. Seeing the way the whole situation is going, Jaehyul realizes that Mujin is even more stubborn than he gave him credit for, but he is worried that the Kongdong sect's reputation will be ruined if he lets Mujin go without bowing to pressure. Jaehyul then tells Mujin that the Cheonghua group has helped their sect in the past, and even though he has no intention of becoming their sword, it is a completely different story with his sect. Jaehyul makes it clear that this could lead to a major conflict, and Mujin lets him know that what he just said applies to the Pyongyang group because they cannot ignore their suffering. He lets the dude know that his sect coming forward is nothing because justice is on their side. Jaehyul then suggests a proposal, telling Mujin that they cross swords and whichever party loses will withdraw from the conflict. In addition, he promises his cooperation in finding those who attempted to kill his siblings. Mujin, being Mujin, wastes no time agreeing to the terms. Moments later, they step out to take on each other in a duel, and Pung is busy praying that Mujin comes out victorious. But Cheolmuk just stares at him with a question mark on his face because he clearly does not know who Mujin is. Before the fight starts, Jaehyul makes it clear that the losing side will withdraw from the fight immediately, and Hoyeon agrees to this. Deep down, Hoyeon is rejoicing that they have finally put Mujin where they want because there is no way he is defeating Jaehyul. Before the fight begins, Jaehyul is convinced that Mujin was able to defeat the Crimson Moon Sword by luck because the energy he is feeling from him is ordinary. He plans to just cripple one of Mujin's arms because he considers him a rising talent, and he doesn't want to end his career right there. Jaehyul declares the match open, and before he can blink, Mujin dashes toward him and delivers a strike that completely knocks him out. Moments later, he wakes up to see Mujin severely aura farming in front of him, while suggesting that Jaehyul admit his defeat. Jaehyul is left in complete shock as it properly dawns on him that he lost the match. Even Pung is celebrating Mujin's win on the side, and Cheolmuk lets him know that this is normal for Mujin. While Pung is celebrating, Hoyeon is losing his mind because he never anticipated such an outcome. Following his promise, Jaehyul lets Mujin know that the Kongdong sect is now withdrawing from the matter. With this, Jaehyul leaves, and Hoyeon's face screams for help, but there is no one to help him. After Jaehyul is gone, Mujin tells Hoyeon to run his mouth just the same way he was when Jaehyul was there. Hoyeon immediately becomes a totally humble person, and he tries to gaslight Mujin, but Mujin orders him to go on his knees if he doesn't want to lose his head. Mujin lets him know that there are two options on the table for him, and the first one is that he shouldn't concern himself with what is going to happen to Bu Choyeon and their chief steward because they crossed the line, and there is no way they were going to live long. Mujin says that after he is done with them, he wants the Cheonghwa group to withdraw while handing over a 30% stake to the Pyongyang merchant group in the tea sales monopoly, which they hold in Hubei. Hoyeon stammers, trying to argue with Mujin, but Mujin reminds him that there is still a second option, and this is the option that fully puts them at war. He assures Hoyeon that he is going to slaughter anyone who gets in his way, while urging him to send more people from the Death Forest faction because he would like to wipe them out. Mujin assures Hoyeon that if they pick the second option, he is going to make sure that the Cheonghwa group disappears without a trace, while the Pyongyang group takes their place instead. Mujin looks completely terrifying while telling Hoyeon this, and he can clearly see that he is even more serious than before. Seeing this, Hoyeon figures out that it is a risk to gamble with the fate of the merchant group because he didn't even expect Jaehyul to have lost to Mujin so easily. He has no choice but to pick the first option, believing that the group leader will definitely understand his reason to have done this. Later on, the Cheonghwa merchant group, Lee Suman, is in his bed when a strange person arrives in his room to cut him up. Bu Choyeon also wakes up to an armed, masked, scary figure in front of him, and he suffers the same fate as his chief steward. Some days later at the Pyongyang merchant group, Cheolmuk finally reunites with his brothers. The brothers let Mujin know that it was a bit stressful tracking down the Death Forest faction dudes who escaped from them, but after catching up to them and relieving them of their arms, they had no problem writing a confession. Nosak mentions that Mujin's reputation is now all over because everyone was just bowing the moment they heard his name. Mujin asks about Bu Choyeon and the annoying steward, and they assure Mujin that they left them completely torn apart. Mujin is pleased with this, and he tells them to make sure that the incident remains a secret. With all of these settled, Mujin takes a deep breath and he tells the brothers that it is time for them to head back because they have cleared out everything that needs to be. Pung is surprised that Mujin and his boys are already leaving when he has not even entertained them to his heart's content. Mujin lets him know that he needs to return to the clan ASAP because he's been away for a while, but he assures Pung that he will be looking forward to this another time. With this, a carriage is prepared for Mujin and his men, and when the street merchants see him rolling out, they scream at the top of their voices, urging him to wait. The merchants rush over to his carriage, thanking him for the help while urging him to visit again, promising him to treat him to the nicest things that they have. Even the girls tease the four brothers, telling them to come visit any other time. Mujin lets out a smile, and as they ride away, he thinks to himself that the whole spectacle was actually nice. Soon afterward, they arrive at the clan, and Maesok rushes over as usual, but Mujin simply pushes him away, telling him to stop being so clingy. His siblings also rush over to hug him, and Mujin asks them how they have been. They let him know that the Tang sisters have been around, so they haven't been bored even for once. Hearing this, Mujin wonders who the Tang sisters are, and when Do and Jo step out to welcome him, he asks them who the Tang sisters are. They simply tell him that they are people who have been eager for him to return, so they suggest that he come inside quickly. Mujin is totally confused, but by the time he enters, he sees Tang and his granddaughters and two weird oldies having a drink. Tang happily welcomes him, and the moment he spots Mujin, her eyes light up in complete excitement as if her long-lost love has just returned. She quickly gets up to greet Mujin, and they are in the middle of this when Zhang cuts in from behind, talking about how handsome Mujin is. She lets out a beautiful smile while telling Mujin that she is so glad to have finally met him. Tang is also excited about the whole thing, and he urges Mujin to introduce himself to his granddaughter, which he quickly does. Tang then communicates with Mujin telepathically about the two other visitors, telling him to be careful because he might end up losing both of his siblings. Hyunwoo then introduces himself to Mujin, telling him how good it is to finally meet him. At the same time, Jinhwa of Ma does the same, and seeing how intentional the two are, Mujin assures Tang that he is going to deal with them himself. Tang then tells his granddaughters that they need to give them some privacy. After stepping out, he scolds Zhang for saying such embarrassing things in front of Mujin. But Zhang doesn't think she did anything wrong, telling her sister that Mujin was even more handsome than she thought. Hye grabs her head in frustration, and while still dealing with this, Zhang spots the four brothers, and she extends her greetings to them while urging them to continue protecting Mujin. The four brothers, who have always been shy around girls, just stand there in shock, totally unable to mutter a single word. Inside, Mujin asks Jinhwa and Hyunwoo why they came to the clan because he knows that there are no connections between his clan, Ime, and Shaolin. Jinhwa mentions that some days ago, they heard that he saved their sisters from the grasp of bad guys, and because the kindness preserved Ime's reputation, there was no way they could brush it aside. Mujin tells Jinhwa that it just came out the way it did, so it isn't such a big deal. However, Jinhwa insists that kindness must be repaid, and as repayment, she wishes to pass on Ime's secret arts to the Flamehua clan. Jinhwa mentions that the secret arts are not normally passed down to other sects, but the sect leader has made the decision that the kindness Mujin showed was great enough to warrant such a favor. Mujin admits that receiving such secret arts is a big opportunity, but he would like to know who they plan to pass on the secret arts. Mujin lets them know that he has already mastered the unique clan arts and his two siblings are also mastering the clan's secret arts. Talking about the elders of the clan, Mujin says they are already too old to be made disciples, and Jinhwa straight up tells Mujin that she would like to pass the arts down to Soyeon. Jinhwa tells him that she will be able to train sufficiently while mastering their clan's secret arts, so they don't have to worry about this. Mujin lets the lady know that Soyeon is the only sister he has, so there is no way he is letting her teach her the secret arts of Ime. Jinhwa figures out that Mujin is worried that this will make them record Soyeon's name in their sect, but she assures him that this won't be the case. Tang quickly talks to Mujin telepathically, telling him that the bond between a master and a disciple is not something that can be easily severed. Mujin is about to reiterate what he said when Soyeon shows up in the back screaming out her brother's name while telling him that she would like to learn what Jinhwa is offering, which is the snow-drifting, cloud-piercing palm strike. Mujin turns around in shock, realizing that they already did something to Soyeon, while Jinhwa, on the other hand, wears a face of satisfaction. Soyeon walks forward, telling Mujin that she is really interested in learning the palm strike that Jinhwa showed her. Mujin pats his sister on the head while asking Jinhwa what she showed Soyeon, and Jinhwa replies that it is nothing much because all she did was show her a basic palm strike. Soyeon starts glazing the technique, saying it is so strong and she has never seen anything as strong as it before. Soyeon mentions that Jinhwa had promised that she would be able to learn an even stronger palm technique by the time Mujin comes back. Mujin takes a deep breath after hearing this, and he thinks about all the parameters. He knows that the Flame Emperor's red flame art is an advanced martial art, but at the same time it is a yang-based technique. He believes that it is an excellent martial art to learn for a man with strong yang energy, but it is a difficult martial art for a young girl to master. Seeing how hard it is for Mujin to make up his mind, Soyeon tells him that she won't do it again, but Mujin assures her that he is good. Mujin figures out that the martial arts of the Ame sect might actually be suitable. Mujin then tells Jinhwa that his sister is brilliant and exceptional, and as the only daughter in the clan, he has no intention of sending her far away, so it is up to Jinhwa to take good care of her at the manor. Jinhwa's eyes light up in excitement when she hears this, and she offers a line of prayer for their union. Hyunwoo then congratulates the Ma sect on forming a connection with the Flamehua clan. Deep down, Hyunwoo is already thinking of how he has to obtain Dojin because he is amazing. Even though Dojin's martial arts talent is exceptional, Hyunwoo is more interested in him because of his character. He has noticed that Dojin is calm and composed, but even with these, he has a competitive spirit that burns within his chest like a flame. The moment Hyunwoo sets his eyes on Dojin, he realizes that he is exactly the disciple he's been looking for, so there is no way he is going to let him slip away. Hyunwoo tells Mujin that he has to inform Dojin of what just happened, and Tang quickly warns Mujin, telling him to be careful because the second snake is already making its move. Mujin is surprised that Hyunwoo wants to form connections with a secular martial clan, and he lets him know that it is quite burdensome. Hyunwoo smiles, saying that as practitioners, they might distance themselves from the secular world, but this is just a circumstance. Hyunwoo boasts about how he has finally encountered the correct karmic connection to transmit enlightenment, so his personal circumstances wouldn't matter that much. Hearing this, Mujin realizes that he is dealing with a formidable person. Mujin tries to take the diplomatic approach, telling Hyunwoo that his younger brother has an important destiny and he must master their clan's secret arts. He lets Hyunwoo know that their circumstances don't permit sending Dojin to be his disciple. Hyunwoo quickly counters this, saying he has no intention of taking Dojin away. He suggests that they provide him with a small room so he can gradually teach Dojin from the side. Mujin is shocked to hear that the old monk is willing to stay at the manor, but Tang urges Mujin to keep his guard up. Mujin then tells Hyunwoo that he has to know what his brother has to say first, and he suggests that they step outside. Mujin then calls on Dojin to inform him that Hyunwoo is looking to take him on as his disciple. He asks Dojin what he wants to do because he also has a mission to inherit his grandfather's secret arts that he could not achieve. Dojin lets Mujin know that he has no thought of abandoning his grandfather's secret arts, but he truly wants to learn the technique that Hyunwoo showed him. Mujin is taken aback when he hears this, leaving him to wonder what Hyunwoo and Jinhwa had done while he was away. Mujin turns to Hyunwoo, asking him what he showed Dojin, and Hyunwoo tries to act all humble, saying it is nothing so serious because he only showed him a small portion of what he is capable of. Hyunwoo then decides to demonstrate what he showed Dojin, but he lets them know that it is nothing as serious as Tang's capability. Hyunwoo pulls back his sleeve, and he lets out a punch with his arm. The force from the punch is directed towards a tree, and this leaves a huge dent that shakes the tree, shocking Tang and Mujin. Hyunwoo boasts that he only held back because he didn't want to break the clan's tree. Tang is left in complete shock because what he just witnessed is the 100 Steps Divine Fist Strike, a Shaolin secret art that went extinct 30 years ago. Dojin then tells Mujin that he wants to learn this, believing that his grandfather's secret arts can even be developed further. Mujin knows this deep down because adding the precision of the 100 Steps Divine Fist Strike to the Flame Emperor's Fierce Fist Strike techniques would be a banger. He smiles because he never thought that the Shaolin's secret arts that he eradicated would come back to meet him again. Mujin finally agrees to this, and he tells Hyunwoo to teach Dojin well. In the end, Hyunwoo also managed to obtain Dojin as his disciple, and later that night, Tang and Mujin sat down to talk. Tang makes fun of himself, saying he tried his best to stop the two from getting what they wanted because he hates losing talents from Sichuan to Mount Song. Nonetheless, he knows that such an opportunity will not come twice, and Mujin cuts in, asking him if he would have entrusted his granddaughter to Aimee. Tang quickly says no, and Mujin tells him to listen to himself then. Mujin asks him why 3 heavenly bodies have to emerge from one household, and Tang is surprised that this actually exists. Mujin mentions that it is a physique that is opposite to demonic energy, but shows exceptional achievement in orthodox techniques. Hearing Mujin talk about this, Tang remembers one of the reasons why he wants Mujin in his household, and he asks him what he thinks about Zhong. Mujin yells at Tang, reminding him that he already made himself clear. Tang is surprised that he is still maintaining this stubborn act, and he asks him if he is not into men, but Mujin disputes this. Moments later, Mujin asks Tang what he sees in him because he is much younger than him, but he lets him speak disrespectfully to him. Tang is impressed that Mujin finally noticed, and he lets him know that he doesn't feel the presence of an age difference with Mujin. He says it is as if their conversations flow in sync, as if he is talking to an old friend he has known for a long time. Mujin smiles when he hears this, and he mentions that many years ago, there was a woman he loved, and he was even willing to abandon his life as a martial artist to disobey his master's sole final wish, just because of this woman whom he loved dearly. Tang doesn't essentially take the story seriously, and Mujin continues narrating. He mentions that the woman he is talking about was born with nothing, and she managed to raise 2 younger siblings without wanting anything. She basically struggled by herself without anyone providing help for her, which shows how pure and noble she was. Mujin talks about how much integrity she has, and Tang asks him why he is no longer with the woman. Mujin smiles, revealing that she actually died, and Mujin reveals how foolish he was to think he could walk the path of an assassin while keeping an ordinary woman by his side. He mentions that the woman and her 2 siblings were killed at the hands of orthodox warriors who were coming after him, and this is where his path to start tearing through all 9 sects began. Tang is taken aback when he hears this, and he starts wondering if Mujin is in his right mind. He asks him if he is drunk or something, but Mujin assures him that he is perfectly sane, and he is only telling Tang about his past and his revenge. He mentions that the fight with the Namgung clan was where the whole thing started, and even though it was something small at first, it eventually skyrocketed into something that led to her death at the hands of Namgung Cheonyong. Tang gets even more interested when he hears this because Cheonyong's name was completely erased from Murim 45 years ago. Mujin lets him know that this name is the name of an enemy he hasn't forgotten even for once, and after his lover's siblings died with her, everything became completely bleak for him. For the next 15 years, he continued fighting the 9 sects. Mujin mentions that the first clan he wiped out was the Namgung clan, and before he knew it, all the orthodox sects of Murim set their sights on him, and without hesitation, he killed them all. It wasn't long after this that they gave him an interesting name, which is the Divine Demon. The moment Tang hears this, he starts getting worked up even more, but he believes that Mujin hasn't recovered from his madness. Mujin tells him that he is free to believe him or not, but he lets Tang know that his expression was exactly the same as when he first saw him. Mujin reveals that it was when he encountered him sitting with the 4 great clan heads, with the exception of the Namgung clan. Mujin mentions that this is the first time he has set foot in the Central Plains. Tang gets up from his seat in shock, asking Mujin how he knows this, but Mujin ignores the question and continues with the story. He mentions that he was unaware that Tang and his colleagues had rented out the tavern for the day, and he would have simply found another place to satisfy his hunger, but he believed his master's words that there was no martial artist in the Central Plains who could match him. Thanks to his youthful arrogance, he jumped into a fight, and just as Mujin is about to continue, Tang stops him. Tang is left wondering how someone as young as Mujin is able to know a secret he has kept hidden for 60 years. It turns out that Tang has been trying his best to forget the events that happened back then because of how shameful the events were. Mujin continues, saying the situation was a 1 man against 17, but he admits that his grandfather's poison was difficult to block. Tang gets even more uncomfortable and he asks Mujin who is telling him everything that he is saying. He asks Mujin if he is the divine demon's disciple or if he heard it directly from him, and Mujin is surprised that Tang still doesn't believe him. Mujin then says he is impressed because it appears that Tang has overcome his right arm's vulnerability because he has grown strong enough to earn the title of Poison Emperor. As Mujin continues talking, Tang is left wondering how Mujin knows about the deformity in his body, which is something only he knows. This starts convincing him that Mujin is really the divine demon. He realizes that the Flame Hua's son must have overcome his madness and become a powerful martial artist because of the divine demon's presence. A scary aura starts radiating from Tang's body as he asks Mujin which he would pick between the orthodox martial arts and the demonic martial arts. Mujin smiles when he hears this, and he asks Tang about the difference between the two. Tang is surprised that someone as exposed as Mujin is asking this, and he indulges him to answer this, revealing that one who builds martial arts through demonic methods is a demonic martial artist. Mujin asks him if someone learns the orthodox, if it makes the person orthodox. Tang then replies that if someone learns the orthodox arts but doesn't walk the path of an orthodox martial artist, they are considered unorthodox and demonic. Mujin then asks him about the 9 sects, who have murdered innocent people and brought about a bloody storm across the years. Mujin asks him if they can be considered orthodox or demonic, and this question hits Tang really hard. Basically, the events of killing the divine demon showed the orthodox martial artists what horrors they would cause if they lost their justification and stray from the path of an orthodox martial artist. This leaves Tang genuinely asking himself if they can even call themselves orthodox martial artists. Tang then tells Mujin that all that happened back then has been left in the past. Mujin agrees that it might have been a long time for people like Tang, but for him, it was just yesterday. Mujin tells Tang that it doesn't matter what path an individual walks because everyone lives their own way. He believes that differences in beliefs don't facilitate bloodshed. Mujin lets him know that he doesn't care if he walks the path of a demonic martial artist or an orthodox martial artist as long as he gets to raise Dojin and Soyeon well, since they are his only remaining blood relatives. Tang bows his head in relief, saying it is fortunate that another divine demon won't be born in the Central Plains because one huge tragedy is already enough. Mujin then asks him if he would have attacked him if he had decided to walk the path of a demonic artist, and Tang lets him know that, as an orthodox martial artist that he is, he would have. Tang laughs, saying everyone who has witnessed the divine demon would do the same. Mujin then reminds Tang that he was just talking to him, an old friend, moments earlier. Tang asks Mujin a critical question, demanding to know who he thinks is going to come out on top if they are to fight at that point. Mujin answers honestly, saying he would most likely die. Tang is surprised to hear this, and he asks Mujin if he isn't hiding his inner energy, and Mujin reminds him that his current body is a heavenly martial body, so he cannot cultivate demonic arts. Tang then asks him how he was able to learn the Peerless 9 Swords, and Mujin mentions that the founder of the Peerless 9 Swords was his master's dear friend. He took a disciple in his later years, but the disciple died, so he had no choice but to entrust the art to Mujin's master so the art wouldn't disappear. Thanks to this, the art was passed down to Mujin, and Tang asks him what would happen if they faced each other in the previous life with the martial arts he currently possesses. Mujin tells him that if he hasn't reached the realm of using enhanced poison, he will have no chance whatsoever. Tang is shocked when he hears that there is a realm called the Enhanced Poison, and Mujin assures him that it exists because he has reached a similar realm. The two end up laughing out loud on this while discussing how Tang manages to procure drinks out of nowhere, but Tang lets him know that he might just have to kill him if he tells him. The next morning, Tang and his granddaughters prepare to leave, and he tells Mujin that he will visit from time to time. Mujin replies saying he is free to visit, but it shouldn't be too often, and this reply shocks the two clan elders. After Tang is gone, the elders start questioning Mujin, asking him if he is sick again because he is clearly telling the Poison Emperor not to visit often. Mujin lets the two know that he has a good reason for saying this, and they ask him what it is, but he replies that they don't need to know about the details. On the other hand, Tang is still shocked that Mujin's true identity is Zhongqian, the divine demon. Mujin is a man who almost wiped out the Central Plains just because of a woman he loved, and Tang has realized that his devotion to this woman hasn't changed, even though he has been given a new life. So Tang believes that it would be best for him to just respect his decision. Tang wanted to make him his son-in-law so badly, but he had no choice but to accept how things had turned out. Hia notices the worry on her granddad's face, and she asks him what he and Mujin were discussing all night. Tang casually tells her that they spoke about a lot of things because it's been 45 years since they parted. This leaves Hia questioning what she just heard. As time went on, Dojin and Soyeon were rapidly acquiring the secret techniques of Ime and Shaolin, respectively, and the two masters were completely blown away by what they were witnessing. With joy in their hearts, they teach the kids every movement art that they are supposed to know. Even Mujin is impressed by his siblings' growth rates, and Joe talks about how it might even be hard for him to guard against the two. However, refutes this, saying the kids still have a long way to go. Joe argues, saying the two have already surpassed the levels of their age mates. Just then, Mujin notices that Joe and Do are smiling weirdly, and he asks them what their stress is. Joe excitedly tells him that it is time for the clan head succession ceremony, and Mujin is shocked when this realization dawns on him. Days later, the manor wears a celebratory look, and the clan people gather to witness Mujin take his father's position. Even Masok cries tears of joy as he never expected such a day to come. Mujin steps into the limelight with a beautiful outfit while wearing a proud smile. As he walks through the manor amidst the crowd that is gathered to watch him ascend, Mujin scolds Joe and Do for inviting so many people after he told them to keep it low-key. They let him know that there is no way it is going to be modest with Tang, Jinhwa, and Hyunwoo there. Even Siyun is present to bow to Mujin, offering his greetings as the new head of the clan. Mujin teases him, saying he never expected him to come all the way from the Beck Manor, but deep down, Siyun knows that he doesn't have the guts to cause trouble for Mujin with those who are now backing him. The three merchants are also present, and Mujin thanks them for coming all the way to celebrate him. The trio lets him know that without him, their group would be nothing, so they are going to continue supporting the clan with everything they have. Mujin thanks the trio, telling them that their words are reassuring. Joe then communicates telepathically with Mujin, telling him that they are talking about when they gave them a share of the profits from the Cheonghua Group's tea, and Mujin is curious when he hears this. The elders let Mujin know that the merchants are generating insane profits from this, and Mujin is relieved to hear this. The merchants tell Mujin that they have prepared a gift for him, and when he asks them what it is, they reveal that it is a lesser purifying pill, which is said to increase one's inner energy by 20 years. Mujin is completely blown away when he hears this, and he quickly takes the pillbox from them, assuring them that he is going to put it to good use. Once the pleasantries are complete, they formally begin the third succession ceremony of the Flame Hua clan. Mujin makes a silent vow to make the Flame Hua clan the greatest in Sichuan, and he only plans to borrow Mujin's body until then. It is a truly impressive situation that Mujin, who was considered the trash of the family, met a heavenly fate, which allowed Zhongqian to be able to enter his body. After the succession ceremony, everything continued going smoothly, and Mujin returned to his usual schedule of everyday training. He is in the middle of one of these training sessions when he is approached by the two clan elders, who tell him that it is time to head to Mount Song. Mujin asks them why he would have to go to Mount Song, and they ask him if he has no interest in seeing the Orthodox Murim tournament. Mujin is completely lost when he hears this, and talking about the tournament, it is the largest event of the Central Plains Orthodox sects, which is held once every 5 years. It is a martial arts competition where all the most talented juniors of the Orthodox sects gather, and the winner of the competition would seize immense wealth and honor. Mujin straight up tells them that he is not interested because he doesn't see any reason why he would want to watch this, and the elders let him know that it is going to be a great learning experience for Doji and Soyeon. They further add that the two are really interested in the Murim tournament, and the moment Mujin hears this, he becomes concerned. He immediately changes his mind because he knows that this would provide a good stimulus for Dojin and Soyeon. Not long after this, they prepare a carriage to take them to Mount Song, and before leaving, Mujin tells Do to send a carrier pigeon in case anything happens. Mujin and the kids will be escorted by Nosak, Jinhwa, and Hyunwoo. Meanwhile, Mujin's enemies have already set up an ambush for him the moment they realize that he is heading to Mount Song. As the journey proceeds, Mujin can see how happy his siblings are about the whole journey, and he tells them that they should have told him earlier if they were that eager to go to the tournament. Jinhwa talks about how relieved she is to see the children happy, and she mentions how happy she is to be traveling to Mount Song because it is also her first time. Mujin turns to Hyunwoo asking him why he didn't say anything even though the tournament concerns the Shaolin Temple, and Hyunwoo says he doesn't think the Shaolin Temple would miss him, revealing that his only concern is to watch Dojin grow. Soyeon and Dojin then ask their masters if those who use the same techniques as them would be at the tournament, but they assure them that they are the only ones who can. Suddenly, Mujin catches onto the trail of bloodlust following them, and he tells Nosak to be ready. Just as he predicted, there are 30 warriors riding behind them, and there are also 2 strange fellows who have been stationed ahead, and with this, the leader of the enemy squad is convinced that Mujin stands no chance. Ahead of the carriage are the 2 crazy fellows who have burned down a merchant's carriage to block the path, and they are toying with the poor merchant while introducing themselves as the Fire Shadow Twin Elders. They promise to kill the poor merchant painlessly, but end up tearing his head off while crushing it with their ugly hands. The twin with the red head is called Chu Myonggun, and the one with white hair is Cho Gayak. The moment the carriage comes close to where the fire is burning, everyone else in the carriage senses the intense bloodlust coming from all over. Mujin grabs his sword and tells everyone else to stay put while he handles the situation. The twins are surprised that only one person is stepping out of the carriage, since they were told that the occupants of the carriage would be more than 4. Mujin walks forward asking the twins who they are and why they are blocking the path. The twins then ask him if he is the one they call the Hidden Dragon, and the moment Mujin hears this, he figures out that the 2 were sent by the Crescent Moon Sword Sect. Myonggun commends Mujin's intuition, but tells him that he has a foul mouth. Hyunwoo and Jinhwa finally step out of the carriage, and the fear on their faces when they see the twins is pretty pronounced. Gayak talks about how excited they are to finally see them because they have been waiting to slit their throats. Hyunwoo then tells Mujin that the twins are masters of the unorthodox path who use sorcery, but he believes that they should be able to defeat them if they join forces. Suddenly, the 30 warriors who have been chasing them finally show up too, complicating the whole situation. Hyunwoo and Jinhwa freak out, asking when the warriors got there. Mujin, on the other hand, is not surprised because he already knew about them for a while. Dojin and Soyeon are the only ones in the carriage, and seeing how the whole situation is turning out, they realize that they have to stay on a low. Jinhwa and Hyunwoo offer to draw the attention of the enemies so that Mujin and the others can escape, but Mujin lets them know that they can't shake them off while riding in a carriage. He then asks the 2 if they will be able to hold off the twins for just 30 minutes. Since it is just 30 minutes, Hyunwoo and Jinhwa tell Mujin that they should be able to do this. Mujin tells them that he is going to deal with the warriors who have surrounded them and come back to kill the twins. Hyunwoo and Jinhwa are surprised to hear this, since they don't even think it is possible. Once they have agreed to the plan, Mujin turns his attention to the 30 warriors, and he tells Nosak that he is counting on him to watch the kids, telling him that he doesn't want even a single person to get close to them. The leader of the 30 warriors believes that it is going to be an easy mission, and he orders his men to go after Mujin. He screams out a formation order for them, and Mujin laughs out loud when he hears this because he realizes that the warriors clearly don't know who he is. Mujin lets out an overwhelming bloodlust that sends shivers down their spines. His aura is so overwhelming that even the twins acknowledge him because his bloodlust is similar to that of a great unorthodox martial artist, and he has not even reached adulthood yet. Hyunwoo makes the first move, unleashing the 100 steps divine fist strike that sends a powerful wave at Gayak. Gayak manages to block the attack, but he gets pushed back. He takes a look at his arm guard, and he is surprised to see that it is scratched, which shows how intense the attack was. Myonggun is impressed because he recognizes the technique, but Gayak, on the other hand, is pissed. He dashes toward Hyunwoo in anger, with fire trailing his steps, and Hyunwoo can see how intense his presence is. He makes a drastic move by turning to his right and dashing into the woods, forcing Gayak to chase him. Hyunwoo suddenly turns around and unleashes even more painful attacks that anger Gayak, and he promises Hyunwoo that he is going to tear his head off if he lays his hands on him. While Hyunwoo is stuck with Gayak, Jinhwa knows she has to deal with Myonggun. Myonggun makes fun of Jinhwa, telling her that she has gotten older than the last time he saw her. Jinhwa claps back, telling him that he has an ugly face, and even though she assumed that he would die alone, it appears that he has managed to find a trash soulmate who is as ugly as him. This is enough to make Myonggun mad, and he cooks up his firepower as he prepares to take on Jinhwa. Jinhwa also takes up her fighting stance, asking Myonggun if he thinks he is capable of taking her down. Myonggun lunges toward Jinhwa, but she is able to block his attack with her palm technique. On the other hand, Mujin has stayed back for a minute, and when the warriors won't attack him, he decides to go after them, and the dude in front is the first to lose his life before he can even blink. Mujin goes after another while counting them as he drops them. He delivers powerful strikes that cut their heads off and even releases their intestines to take fresh air. The leader of the warriors freaks out, but tries to maintain composure, and he screams at his men, telling them to get into formation and take Mujin down because he is just one dude. However, Mujin is already enjoying himself so much that he basically decides to stop counting and focus on sending them to their maker. Mujin runs through the horde with his big-ass sword, slicing and dicing them as if they were newbies. One dude gets so unlucky and gets separated from the waist up, but the leader of the squad still believes that they can take Mujin down just by maintaining a stupid formation to attack him simultaneously. The leader is left wondering how it became so hard for first-rate warriors to take down just one person. Seeing how badly things are going for them, the leader of the squad tells some of his men to turn their attention toward the carriage to kill Mujin's siblings. They acknowledge the order, and they rush towards the carriage. But Nosak stands his ground and prepares to show them why he is put in charge of taking care of the kids. They attack him simultaneously, but he manages to stop their advance with his long weapon. One of them gets smashed in the head with Nosak's weapon, and this lets them know that Nosak is not a pushover. Nosak starts glazing himself, talking about how he is one of the 4 brothers, and even the kids are forced to cover their heads because of how cringy this is. Nosak pushes them back with his reckless charge, but suddenly 2 arrows come from the left direction, hitting Nosak in the shoulder. He turns to his side and realizes that there are 2 arrows over there, and they were aiming for his head, but hit his shoulder instead. With the archers turning the tide of the battle, the squad rushes toward Nosak, and Nosak freaks out because he is about to be overwhelmed. Suddenly, Mujin flies past in a flash and cuts the archers in half before doing the same to those who want to overwhelm Nosak. Mujin is so fast that even his siblings didn't know that he was the one. The squad leader screams at the top of his voice, telling his men to maintain the pressure, but Mujin reaches him before he knows it and renders him headless. Back to Jinhwa and Myeongun. Jinhwa is trying her best to push back Myeongun, but he is just too strong. He taunts her, asking her if she has been playing around all these years. Jinhwa gets mad, and she hits Myeongun with a more powerful palm technique, but this only makes the dude ask for more. On the other hand, Hyunwoo loses his advantage, giving Gyak the chance to grab him, and he slams him hard into the ground. Hyunwoo frantically unleashes his technique, but Gyak easily dodges everything, while telling Hyunwoo that there is no way he is allowing him to hit him again. Gyak overwhelms Hyunwoo and punches him in the chest, and the attack is fatal enough for Hyunwoo to cough up blood. After breaking his chest, he grabs Hyunwoo and flings him into the distance like he is nothing. Meanwhile, Jinhwa is about to overwhelm Myeongun with a powerful technique when she sees Hyunwoo being thrown to the ground like trash. She is distracted by this, giving Myeongun the chance to hit her in the tummy before slamming her head into the ground. The two are about to meet their end when Mujin shows up, blocking their attack. He kicks Gyak into the distance while he engages Myeongun. Gyak rushes from behind, trying to catch Mujin off guard, but Mujin reacts to this pretty fast, and he makes him pay the price by cutting off his left arm before he could even blink. Gyak quickly performs a healing technique on himself to prevent himself from bleeding out. Jinhwa helps Hyunwoo up, telling him to pull himself together. Mujin lets the twins know that he might have executed his technique way too early, which is why he only got Gyak's hand, but he assures them that he is going to make sure to cut off their ugly heads on his next attack. Myeongun turns around and he is surprised that Mujin was able to wipe out 30 first-rate warriors all by himself. He commends Mujin's strength, but Gyak is pissed, and he tells Myeongun to stop playing around because he just wants to take Mujin's head off. Myeongun acknowledges this, and the two start charging up their powers, which they have not done in a long while. Jinhwa sees this and realizes that the two are about to show what they are truly capable of, and she communicates with Mujin telepathically, telling him that he has to be careful because the two are dangerous together. Mujin appreciates the warning and lets her know that he is going to keep it in mind. The two lunge toward him at the same time, but Mujin places his sword in front like a shield, using it to block their initial attack. However, he soon realizes that he is getting pushed back by the two, and before he knows it, he senses that the attack is traveling through the sword, hitting him really hard. Mujin is about to be overwhelmed when Hyunwoo and Jinhwa step in to use their techniques to give Mujin some leeway. However, this grants them another wave of pain as the twins beat them up for interfering in the fight. Just then, Mujin tells the two not to interfere in the fight any longer, saying he is going to handle the twins himself. The twins intensify their attacks because of how arrogant Mujin is, aiming to see how he plans to hold them back all by himself. Mujin fully commits to the fight as he starts fighting recklessly, and he kicks Myeongun in the face before smashing his head into Gyak's face. He almost cuts Gyak's head, but he narrowly dodges the attack. Myeongun punches Mujin in the chest, but he blocks it with his sword, and he gets pushed back. The two then unleashed a joint attack called the Fire Dragon Destructive Palm Strike, which Mujin's sword fails to block, and the wave of the attack travels into his body. Mujin is sent flying into the distance and is only blocked by a tree. However, things look grim for him as his chest lights up in flames. Hyunwoo and Jinhwa freak out when they see this because they know the repercussions of what is currently happening. Mujin crashes to his knees and can sense the fire energy moving through his body, and he knows that failure to suppress this means he is going to be burned from the inside out. The twins mock him, telling him that in 7 minutes his internal organs will start to burn, which means he is done for. Gaiak then suggests that they tear Mujin apart first, but this only triggers Mujin's fighting spirit. The two dash toward him with their powerful palm technique, but Mujin blocks it with his right hand, and he makes sure to hold them down. The two mock him, asking him if he thinks he can block their attack. A thick armor would even be useless. Mujin then resorts to using reflective energy to deflect the fire energy, and this blows back really hard. Gaiak screams out in pain, and the moment Myeongun turns around to check on him, Mujin swings his sword with his left hand, cutting their heads off with a single strike. Everyone watching is left completely astounded when they see this, but the fire is already taking root in Mujin's body. He coughs up blood that is basically fire, and his people start rushing towards him. However, the two elders tell the kids not to come any closer because the fire energy might spread to them if they are not careful. The two watch as their brother suffers in pain, and Mujin struggles as he tells Nosak to get him the lesser purifying pill in his bag. Nosak rushes over to get the pill, and Mujin wastes no time swallowing it. Mujin tells them that he has to purge the fire energy, so he urges them to guard him while he is doing this. He tells them to surround the area and make sure that every direction is guarded, but he urges them not to get close. Mujin gets into the cultivation position and realizes just how difficult the situation is. He figures out that any further delay will put his meridian in danger, so he has to use the inner energy of the lesser purifying pill to suppress the fire energy. By directing all the fire energy into his middle core, he is able to spill out all the fire energy through his mouth, as if he were a dragon. After expelling the fire energy from his body, he passes out and Hyunwoo examines him. He confirms that the fire energy is gone, but Jinhwa suggests that they rush to Ganluo County immediately. Nosak grabs Mujin and carries him into the carriage, and as they travel to Ganluo, his siblings are visibly worried about whether he is going to be fine. Hyunwoo and Jinhwa, on the other hand, are in total disbelief that Mujin was able to take down two dangerous demonic martial artists by himself. Days later, at Ganluo's county infirmary, Dojin and Soyeon enter Mujin's room with a plate of food meant for him, only to realize that he has vanished. Before they start panicking, they hear sounds from outside, and when they look out through the window, they see Mujin training already. Mujin is already swinging his big sword with sweat dripping down his body. He stares at the burn mark on his right palm and realizes just how dangerous the twins' technique is. He's in the middle of this when his siblings show up, and they look totally worried because Mujin is supposed to stay in bed for a month, but he is already moving around. Mujin assures the two that he is fine now, and he tells the two to pack their things so that they can head to Mount Song. On their way to Mount Song, they all had a good time as if Mujin hadn't almost died. However, in the surrounding areas of Ganluo and Xichang that they passed through, rumors started going around about how Mujin defeated the Fire Shadow twin elders, which caused a stir through the city. After some days, they finally reached the home of the Shaolin Temple, where the Orthodox Murim tournament is going to be held. The moment they step out of the carriage, the kids are blown away by the impressive buildings and statues all around. Mujin is surprised that all the buildings he destroyed in the past have all been fixed. Hyunwoo then tells them that he has to leave to see his colleagues, but assures them that he has arranged a living space for them in the inner house. One of the monks then led the way for them, and the kids rushed in because of how excited they were. Meanwhile, they are being watched by two strange individuals standing on the balcony. The young master appears to have evil intentions for Mujin, and he tells his assistant to call on an individual, Dongho, promising to handle whatever responsibility that follows, as long as he gets to wipe Mujin out. On the other hand, Hyunwoo meets with the temple's elder, Hyungak, to let him know that he now has a disciple. Gak asks Hyunwoo who his disciple is, and Hyunwoo asks him if he still remembers the dude Hyegwang found in the past. Gak says he definitely remembers Mujin, the madman. He also mentions that he is aware that Mujin is now called the Hidden Dragon of Sichuan, and he asks Hyunwoo if his disciple is Mujin, but Hyunwoo lets him know that it is his junior brother. Hyunwoo lets Gak know that Dojin also possesses the martial talent of the heavenly martial body. In addition, he mentions that Dojin is a child with impeccable character and great fortitude. Gak is happy for Hyunwoo because his stress to find a disciple has finally come to an end. Hyunwoo then tells Gak that they won't be able to register Dojin into the Buddhist records because he is the second son of a second family. He apologizes for leaving such important secret art with an outer sect, but Gak lets Hyunwoo know that it doesn't matter because Dojin is still their disciple nonetheless. Hyunwoo bows to Gak, thanking him for his understanding, and he lets Gak know that on their way there, they were attacked by the Fire Shadow twins. Gak freaks out when he hears this, and he asks Hyunwoo if his disciple is fine, and Hyunwoo says yes, revealing that the bad guys had set up an ambush for them. Hyunwoo tells the old man that he got to witness Mujin's strength firsthand because he single-handedly defeated 30 first-rate martial artists before taking down the twins. Gak cannot believe what he just heard because he knows that Mujin has barely reached adulthood, but he managed to take down these wicked dudes. Hyunwoo confirms this and says Mujin suffered internal injuries, but he also recovered quickly, showing how impressive his constitution is. Gak is thankful that the annoying fire twins have finally met their end. Hyunwoo then tells Gak that they cannot let this slide, and Gak agrees with him, saying it is time to put the unorthodox sect in their place. Hyunwoo then tells Gak to inform their leader, First Emperor, Hyemun, of this new development. On the other hand, Mujin and his siblings have been led to the room they will be using. However, the monk lets them know that outsiders are not allowed in the Repentance Cavern, which is behind the Great Hall. Soyeon excitedly asks Mujin if they can go look around, and Mujin agrees to this, but tells them to take Nosak along. As they walk through the area, they are left in total amazement, and moments later, Dojin accidentally bumps into another kid his age. Even though they bumped into each other, Dojin still apologizes for it, but the little brat decides to take it a step further by calling Dojin and Soyeon beggars. Apparently, the little brat is Cheol Dongho, the second son of the Cheol Manor. Dongho tells Dojin that he has to go on his knees if he wants to apologize to him. Soyeon hears this and loses it, screaming at the dude, asking him who he thinks he is for him to be saying all sorts of trash. Soyeon pulls herself together, and she tells her brother that they should just leave, since it appears that Dongho is crazy. Dongho then decides to attack Soyeon while her back is turned, but Dojin blocks the strike. Dongho tries to tussle it out with Dojin, but he gets pushed back instead. Dongho smiles, commending Dojin for blocking his attack. Just then, Dongho's bodyguards show up, yelling at Dojin, asking him what gave him the guts to lay hands on their young master. They shamelessly ask Dojin if he is seeking death, but Nosak's aura soon overwhelms theirs as he tells them that Dongho was the one who attacked first, so there is no way they are standing around. Nosak's aura causes the two to falter, and Dongho tells them to step back and not interfere in the matter. Dongho steps forward again, and Dojin scolds him for attacking Soyeon from behind, which is not how orthodox martial artists operate. Soyeon then drags Dojin, telling him that they need to go because if they fight in the temple, they are just going to cause trouble for Mujin. Just as they are about to leave, Dongho runs his mouth, talking about how their brother went crazy after he was hit with the same technique he just tried to use on Soyeon, which is the 7-wound fist strike. He proceeds to rudely talk about how he would have loved to send them along to their brother. This does it for the two, and they turn around to simultaneously punch him. The double punch sends him flying into the distance, and his bodyguards scream out in concern. They attempt to touch Dojin and Soyeon, and this is when Nosak finally has the excuse to unleash his anger. He knocks the two of them down with one single strike, while revealing that it is not proper to interfere in a kid's fight. With the two out of the equation, Dojin and Soyeon properly descend on Dongho to show him what it means to insult their brother. Blows land left and right as the two rearrange his body with their punches, while Nosak eggs them on from behind. Dojin and Soyeon stand tall above him, telling Dongho that everything that is about to happen to him is his own doing because they were about to walk away. Dongho watches in horror as the two show him what it means to be on their wrong side. Meanwhile, Mujin is back in the room, and he can hear the commotion outside. He could sense that a fight had broken out, but he didn't want to bother himself with it. Soyeon and Dojin used all their strength to kick Dongho repeatedly. Dongho could do nothing but cover his head and endure the beating while continuously crying out in pain. The crowd could only watch, with some remarking that he was taking those hits surprisingly well for someone who had acted so arrogantly. Dongho's two subordinates struggled to their feet and called out to their young master, but they were immediately forced back down by a staff and a crushing foot. Nosak warned them to stay down unless they wanted their skulls crushed. Meanwhile, Dongho desperately begged them to stop, admitting that he had been wrong and pleading for forgiveness. Only then did the two children finally stop. They pointed at him and warned that if he did not watch his mouth from then on, he would face even worse consequences. Soyeon then worriedly asked whether they would get into trouble with Mujin. Dojin reassured her that Dongho was the one who had crossed the line and that there was no way they would be punished for it. At that moment, a voice demanded to know where they thought they were going after beating someone up like that. A long-haired man approached, causing Nosak to become immediately vigilant. Internally, he thought that the man was no pushover and that he would have to draw out all of his demonic arts just to stand a chance against him. The man walked up to Dongho and called him a pathetic fool before ordering him to get up. Dongho tearfully addressed him as his brother. Soyeon and Dojin quickly explained that they had done nothing wrong and that Dongho had been the one to insult their brother and their clan first. As Dongho was helped to his feet, the long-haired man questioned how they could claim innocence after leaving him in such a condition. He sarcastically suggested that they would probably kill someone over a few misspoken words. His gaze turned threatening as he criticized them for trampling a fallen opponent even after outnumbering him 2-against-1, adding that their level of education was abysmal for practitioners of the orthodox path. Dojin found himself unable to refute the accusations. The man then demanded that they bring their clan head, declaring that he would take the matter up personally with him. Before anything else could be said, a voice from behind announced that the clan head was already there and encouraged him to go ahead and take it up with that big mouth of his. The two children turned around to see Mujin standing there proudly. The long-haired man stammered in surprise, asking when Mujin had arrived. Mujin looked thoroughly displeased and stated that, from what he could see, the man's brother had been the one who deserved to be hit. He then asked what exactly the problem was that he wanted to discuss. The long-haired man scoffed and remarked that he could now see why those children had such terrible personalities. Mujin immediately fired back by saying that the brat from the other household did not appear to have been raised any better. The insult enraged the man, who demanded to know what Mujin had just said before declaring that if Mujin truly wanted to do this, then fine. It was exactly what he had hoped for. Mujin appeared even more excited than his opponent, but before the confrontation could escalate, Hyunwoo suddenly arrived and ordered them to stop at once. The long-haired man was shocked upon recognizing him. He immediately bowed and introduced himself as Cheol Yongwon of the Cheol Manor, offering his greetings to Great Master Hyunwoo. To his surprise, however, Hyunwoo completely ignored him. Instead, he hurried over to Dojin and anxiously asked whether he was all right and if he had been hurt anywhere. Dojin replied that he was fine and apologized for causing such a scene, addressing Hyunwoo as master. Cheol Yongwon could hardly believe what he was hearing. Inwardly, he realized that Dojin was actually the great master's disciple and concluded that this must have been the reason they had arrived together. Just then, another voice rang out, demanding to know who dared persecute a disciple of the Ame sect. The newcomers were Jinhwa and Miel Ryung. Jinhwa immediately rushed to Soyeon's side and anxiously asked whether she was all right and whether she had been injured anywhere. Soyeon happily greeted her master and then pointed accusingly at the long-haired man. She claimed that the wicked fellow had launched a cowardly surprise attack from behind using the 7 wounds fist strike. She dramatically complained that her ankle was throbbing so badly that she could barely stand on it. Upon hearing that, Jinhwa reacted in shock and demanded to know what had happened. Dongho was startled and exclaimed that he had not even touched her ankle. He wondered if the Cheol Manor was an outer sect of the Kongdong sect. Jinhwa turned toward them and demanded to know whether it was true that they had attacked his disciple from behind. Dongho tried to defend himself, stammering that it was not like that, before cursing inwardly as he realized that both the Shaolin Temple and the Ame sect were supporting the Flame Hua clan. Mujin folded his arms and remarked that he would not even need to step in. At that moment, another voice called for everyone to calm down and requested that they lower their energy first. A man named Jasa then appeared on the side of the long-haired warrior and politely stated that a quarrel between children should not escalate into a fight between adults. He added that, with so many people watching, it would be best to end the matter there. Jinhwa greeted him respectfully, saying that it had been a while since they had met and that it was unfortunate they had to meet under such circumstances. Nevertheless, he insisted that an apology was required for the attack carried out against their disciple from behind. Jasa became irritated and questioned why everyone was speaking as though the Cheol Manor alone was at fault. He pointed out that they had ganged up on the second son of the Cheol Manor and left him in a terrible state. He argued that there was no reason for the Cheol Manor alone to apologize, and further claimed that it had been a warrior of the Flame Hua clan who had attacked the Cheol Manor's bodyguards. In his view, the Cheol Manor should have been the side receiving an apology. Mujin commented that the situation was repeating itself once again and wondered why the Kongdong sect never seemed to know when it should interfere and when it should stay out of a matter. Jasa reacted angrily and demanded to know whether Mujin had finished speaking. Mujin replied that he merely felt pity because it seemed Jasa still had not come to his senses after what had happened at Sangriu. Jasa furiously asked what he meant by that. With a provocative expression, Mujin stated that the issue was fundamentally a dispute between the Flame Hua clan and the Cheol Manor, and therefore the parties directly involved should settle it themselves. He proposed that he and the long-haired warrior fight a duel, with the loser offering an apology to the winner. The proposal was exactly what the long-haired warrior had hoped for. Internally delighted, he thought that Mujin had fallen for the trap. Gripping his wooden sword tightly, he questioned whether Mujin truly believed he could defeat him and vowed to repay not only the humiliation he had suffered, but also what had happened to Senior Jia Yul. As the two stepped forward to compete, the long-haired warrior declared that he would settle everything once and for all in that match. Without saying a word, Mujin struck first. The duel ended swiftly. The long-haired warrior was left sprawled on the ground with countless bruises and injuries across his face. Pointing his sword at the defeated man, Mujin coldly remarked that the fight had not even been enough to serve as a warm-up. The surrounding crowd erupted in shock. They could hardly believe that Cheol Yong-woon, one of the strongest candidates to win the Orthodox Murim tournament, had been defeated so thoroughly. Many were stunned that he had been turned into a bloody mess almost instantly. Jasa was equally astonished. He admitted that Ja Yul's claim about being unable to perceive the path of Mujin's sword had been true. He further confessed that even someone like himself who had reached the peak realm could not confidently say he would have been able to block such a strike. Mujin then turned toward him and asked whether he was truly the great sword pavilion master. Jasa, confused, asked what Mujin wished to know. Mujin solemnly reminded him that the person responsible for driving him into madness 17 years earlier had been an outer sect disciple of the Kongdong sect. Yet the very same 7 wounds fist technique had been used that day to launch a sneak attack on his sister's back. He pointed out that, just as at Sangryu, the Kongdong sect had once again involved itself in matters concerning the Flame Hua clan. He questioned whether the sect had always intended to interfere in their affairs and threaten them, and demanded to know what exactly their intentions were. He asked whether the Flame Hua clan had somehow committed an unforgivable sin against the Kongdong sect. The spectators were visibly surprised and began wondering aloud why the Kongdong sect would do such a thing. Realizing that the situation was turning against him, Jasa urged everyone not to engage in such baseless speculation. He insisted that all of the incidents in question had merely been unfortunate accidents. Mujin repeated the word accidents and accepted the explanation for the moment. However, he warned that he would be watching closely to see whether such accidents happened again. He declared that if the people of the Flame Hua clan were threatened once more because of another so-called accident, those responsible would come to face a very different Hua Mujin. He told them to remember that warning well. Afterward, Mujin told Yoseon that it was time to leave. Yoseon immediately agreed and followed him. As they departed, Jasa grew increasingly uneasy. He wondered what Mujin had meant by saying that they would face a different Hua Mujin and questioned whether it had been a direct threat. He bitterly convinced himself that Mujin was acting arrogantly only because he had the backing of both the Shaolin Temple and the Emi sect. He then ordered his subordinates to wake Cheol Yong-woon and prepare to return. His subordinate acknowledged the command, and the group began making preparations to leave. From that day onward, everyone looked at Hua Mujin differently. By crushing Cheol Yong-woon with overwhelming skill and showing no sign of intimidation even before Jasa, the sword sovereign of Kongdong, he had left an unforgettable impression on all the martial artists present. Although no one voiced it openly, they all sensed the same thing. A new era had begun in the Murim of the Central Plains. Mujin watched the group depart and wondered whether that man was Hua Mujin of the Flame Hua clan, while Jungsu-ae of the Ime sect looked on in curiosity. As sunlight bathed the fortress walls, Hyun-woo respectfully recited Amitabha and admitted that he was too ashamed to face the clan head, apologizing for the unfortunate incident that had occurred in the front yard of the Shaolin Temple. The person beside him interrupted, saying that it was karma he had brought upon himself and that, since no one had been hurt, there was no need to worry. The two immediately began arguing. One demanded to know what on earth the other had been doing and reminded him that he had specifically asked him to pay close attention. The other replied with another Amitabha and explained that so many guests were arriving for the Orthodox Murim tournament that the situation had become difficult to manage. Hyun Bo-eun then acknowledged that, in any case, it had been his oversight. Mujin could only smile awkwardly and responded that the matter had originally arisen from the Flame Hua clan's personal grudges. He said that he was the one who should apologize for causing trouble for the Shaolin Temple because of his clan's affairs. Bo-eun expressed his gratitude for those words and added that, since Mujin had probably been unable to properly sightsee because of the commotion, he would personally guide him around. Mujin accepted the offer and asked if he might trouble him to do so. The group stood before enormous statues as sunlight streamed across the pristine white stone figures. Bo-eun led the tour with a lengthy explanation, but Mujin's thoughts wandered elsewhere as he noticed that all the stone statues had been restored. He recalled that he had smashed their heads off at the very end. Afterward, the group continued climbing a long flight of stairs through a peaceful landscape of clear water and tranquil surroundings. Mujin noticed a spoon being offered to him. Jungsu-ae shyly told clan head Hua to have a sip. While avoiding eye contact to hide her blushing cheeks, she looked away. Mujin accepted it awkwardly and thanked her. Nearby, the two children and Nosak watched the scene with admiration. After a long climb, they finally reached the summit. Mujin suddenly became alert when he found himself standing before a forbidden area covered in talismans, where a sword had been sealed high above. The weapon radiated a fierce sword aura. Startled, he wondered what it was and questioned why it was there. Bo-eun smiled and explained that, as expected of someone possessing the heavenly martial body, Mujin seemed particularly sensitive to demonic energy. Still doubtful, Mujin insisted that there was no mistake and demanded to know how such a thing had happened. Bo-un continued by confirming that the sword was indeed the very same object from 30 years earlier, the sword of the divine demon that had drenched the Jianghu in blood. He revealed that it was the demonic spirit sword and explained that its demonic energy had been so powerful that they had been forced to seal it in that manner. He added that there had been numerous accidents at the Repentance Cavern because of it. Mujin reflected inwardly that the explanation about demonic energy was nonsense. In his view, the sword did not leak any energy at all unless its wielder had mastered demonic arts. Bo-un then changed the subject and suggested that they move on, explaining that there was still a mountain of things left to see. Mujin suppressed his emotions and apologized to his master, saying that because of his pathetic disciple, the sect's sacred treasure had ended up in such a state. He promised that he would somehow retrieve it and told his master not to worry. As the moon rose high and dawn gradually broke, Monk Hyun-guk clasped his hands and bowed. He then loudly greeted and thanked all the comrades of the Jianghu gathered at Shaolin Temple. Introducing himself as the Shaolin Abbot, Hyun-guk stated that since the event was a festival for the future pillars who would lead the orthodox path, everyone should not harbor personal grudges over the duel results and should instead use the experience as an opportunity for growth. He announced that the Festival of the Orthodox faction was being held for the first time in 5 years and officially declared the opening of the Orthodox Murim tournament. He then introduced the long-awaited first duel, announcing that the East River sect would face the Tiger Severing Blade sect and inviting both sects to enter the stage. His speech successfully stirred tremendous excitement among the spectators. Mujin let out a sigh and remarked that the tournament was going to be boring. Someone immediately questioned what he meant by that. Suddenly, Mujin overheard a conversation between two people seated in front of him. One of them asked whether all the participants from the Kongdong sect had withdrawn. The other confirmed that they had and explained that the championship candidate the sect had been supporting had been thoroughly defeated by someone known as the Sichuan Hidden Dragon. He added that the Kongdong sect had truly lost face by being beaten by such a greenhorn. His companion quickly warned him to lower his voice. Meanwhile, the supporters around the arena loudly cheered for the competitors. Some shouted for Kang Duchun to win and land an iron fist directly on his opponent's face, declaring that they were counting on the pride of Henan. Others encouraged Weixin, telling him not to get too close to his opponent, to make good use of the butterfly kick, and to stay calm by keeping his eyes open and reacting appropriately. The referee then announced the start of the duel. The two fighters immediately charged at each other, with one attacking while the other defended. Mujin watched silently before sending a telepathic message to Nosak. When Nosak responded, Mujin asked whether he remembered the location of the demonic spirit sword they had seen the previous day. Nosak replied that he remembered. Mujin then asked if he could bring the sword to him. Startled, Nosak repeated the request and pointed out that monks had been lying in ambush to guard the sword. He explained that even at a glance, their martial prowess was extraordinary. Furthermore, since he could not currently use demonic energy, he believed it would be impossible for him to accomplish the task alone. Mujin acknowledged his response and concluded that, in the end, he would have to handle the matter personally. At that moment, Tang Sumoon approached and remarked that he had finally gotten the chance to see them, asking whether everyone had been well. The group immediately stood up and respectfully greeted the elder. Tang Sumoon told them not to mind him and to make themselves comfortable before sitting beside Mujin. Observing Mujin's gloomy expression, he asked whether something had happened. When Mujin remained silent, Tang Sumoon speculated that the issue concerned the sword Mujin had once wielded, which was now sealed in that place. He guessed that Mujin was searching for a way to secretly remove it. Mujin confirmed that this was indeed the case. Surprised, Tang Sumoon asked whether he was referring to the demonic spirit sword located in front of the Repentance Cavern. Mujin answered affirmatively and complained that the monks had covered it with countless seals under the pretext of suppressing demonic energy. Tang Sumoon replied that he understood, and then asked whether stealing the sword would even be possible, noting that monks were likely lying in wait within a formation to guard it. Suddenly, Mujin noticed Hyun Woo on the opposite side of the arena. After listening to a report from one of his subordinates, Hyun Woo displayed a visibly shocked expression. Tang Sumoon also noticed this and commented that it seemed something had happened. Hyun Woo hurriedly departed and, after only a few leaps, disappeared from the spectator stands. Mujin watched him leave and then sent him a telepathic message, asking whether some kind of accident had occurred. Hyun Woo calmly replied that it was nothing and told Mujin not to worry but to enjoy the tournament. After a brief pause, however, Hyun Woo remarked that he supposed it would not matter if he revealed the truth. He then explained that the seal on the demonic spirit sword had been broken and that they were currently on their way to search for the individual who had stolen it.